This boy received an egg to become a tamer knight, but 3 years passed and the egg never hatched. Today is the last day. If it doesn't hatch now, he will lose the right to become a knight forever. Just when everything seems lost, a light streaks across the sky. It descends, approaches, and strikes directly into the boy's face. This light was sent by an ancestral master from 1,000 years ago, carrying all the knowledge about this world and about the most powerful beasts that exist. Shortly after, he awakens, and another boy begins to mock him for still not having hatched the egg. But at that exact moment, the egg begins to crack. He finally awakens his beast and becomes a tamer knight. The entire empire is thrown into shock because the beast that was born is a dragon, one of the rarest and most powerful races in the world. And with the knowledge he received from the sky, he does the impossible. He evolves his dragon to its adult form in record time. If you want to see how this happened, the full video is on the channel. At the last fortress of humanity, in the city of Twilight, dragons are slain. Lightning pours down from the sky, and finally an enormous dragon also falls. An old man says that this is Leon's ancestral dragon. Suddenly, the guardian of time, Atto, tells the great sage that there is no more hope for the world and that he will burn his body, even his true soul, to repair the passage of time. He says that he must bring hope by leaving this era and believes that, with wisdom, he can change the fate of humanity in another era. The great sage replies that the forbidden gods, who know the mysteries of time, are the best guardians of themselves. They are part of this era, and no one can break free. An extremely bright light bursts out around him from the staff. The great sage says to let people from outside this era change the destiny of humanity. The staff continues releasing energy, forming magical circles. The energy surges toward the real world. A voice says that before the predestined extermination, any futile struggle will only seem pathetic. The guardian asks what that is, and the great sage answers that it is the forbidden god who will destroy the passage. The voice says that any lesser hope will be swallowed by despair. Silent humans in the ruins of this era, together with their miserable hopes, turn into dust. The great sage closes his eyes and says that they are dust, but also heroes, and that the forbidden god must witness the power of 10,000 pieces of dust. People look on in shock and say that the great sage is initiating a sacrificial ceremony. He says that this era is coming to an end and is about to become dust, and he asks his fellow warriors to follow him and blaze brilliantly in the final fireworks of this era. One of them says he will follow and has no regrets in this life. The old man says that as people of the past, they will present a gift to the people of the future, going against the flow of the river of time and planting a seed of hope for the future of humanity. This is an age from the old days of riding wild beasts, channeling and using all kinds of fists, rivers, and powerful beasts to explore the world. They establish gathering points and enjoy the resources to the fullest, which is the supreme goal. Outside these points, dangerous beasts are everywhere. For 100 years, they have stood on the edge of a perilous wilderness. The master of the fortress is a knight of the Castle of Black Light, which was also established by him and his Black Light Assembly. At the place of Black Light, a boy looks at a notice saying that the special training camp for knights does not accept vagrants. If he can hatch within 3 years, he will be immediately included in a team. If he has objections, he will be terminated. Being a knight carries risks, and to join, one must be cautious. The boy holds an egg and sighs. Sitting on a barrel, he thinks that he is not reconciled. Tomorrow is the last day of the 3 years, and there are no signs of hatching. He truly is not reconciled. The boy notices a light and wonders what it is. He watches as the light approaches and strikes him. The boy falls to the ground, unconscious. In his mind, he sees a dragon moving with a warrior riding on it. Then the dragon flies away. Someone calls out to him, telling him to wake up, and asks if he slept there overnight. He says that trainee knights undergoing special treatment are not allowed to stay in the castle at night. He asks if the boy stayed there. The protagonist wonders if that was a dream. He recalls the dream from the previous night with a gigantic dragon and a knight. He thinks that dragon knights can be very powerful. The guard becomes irritated and asks what he is muttering about, whether he is pretending not to exist. He strikes him in the face, leaving a scratch, and says he heard that today the boy will report to the search team to explore outside the land of the assembly together with other low-class members. He also says that he violated curfew and asks whether he will be able to come out of the jungle alive after 12 lashes. The egg begins to crack. A young man behind asks Su Hung how his egg is cracking. The protagonist becomes excited and asks if he succeeded, saying that 3 years of hard work were not wasted. The guard thinks that this useless guy actually succeeded and says it was a huge misunderstanding. He says he will immediately call the special training officer to confirm his identity as a knight and believes the boy will achieve great success. But someone arrives and says there is no need to call. It is Lu Yu from the special training. She tells him to try to communicate with the egg. Su says he will. He moves close to the egg and says he has been eagerly waiting for it. The hatchling grumbles. The protagonist is excited and says it responded. Lu says that is very good and that Blacklight has gained another young knight. She notices the wound on his face and asks what happened. Su points to the man who struck him. Lu asks if he dared to hit a knight. She says she will give him 20 lashes and send him outside the land of the assembly to survive, and that he must accept the punishment. The man begs for his life to be spared. Later in the castle, Lu enters a room with the protagonist. The fortress master, Jo-hye, asks if he is the first rookie of the semester. Lu says yes and that she heard he was going to report to the search team but unexpectedly succeeded. His reward should not be small. The master says that he had determination until the last moment, which is not bad at all. He will give 2 options. The first, since the egg is a scaled lizard, he will give dragon scales with a high-level bloodline, which will accelerate hatching and make it stronger than most scaled lizards. There is a small chance of being influenced by the dragon bloodline, greatly increasing its strength. The second, when he raises another beast, he may choose one from the master's personal collection. Su thinks that 10 steps in the forest cannot compare to one in the hand and chooses the dragon scale. Jo says that is fine and will have someone bring the scale in the afternoon. He hopes the boy will not lose heart in the future and will bring great contributions to the land of the assembly. The protagonist agrees. Outside the land of the assembly, the castle of Blacklight is divided into 2 districts. The inner one, where the rich live, is cleaner. The outer one, where the poorer live, is filthy. The outer district is Su's home. A voice says to let him go because it hurts. A girl asks if he even knows pain and where he was the night before. She says she went to the castle walls early to look for him but could not enter and could only wait anxiously. Now he wants to come back today? She says she will tear off his ear. Someone knocks on the door. The girl asks who it is. A butler says that these are the items sent by the fortress master and that they may accept them. Both are surprised. The girl asks if he succeeded and says, "That is wonderful. If their parents knew, they would be happy. They did not sell the old house in vain. Her brother will be the boss." They notice something. Silence fills the room. The girl says she remembered she needs to work and that her brother managed to handle it. She leaves and closes the door. The protagonist stands there, looking at what he received, and asks if this is a dragon scale. A light begins to shine in his hand until his head also emits energy. He widens his eyes and sees, in his mind, a book opening. Scaled lizard scales, dragon blood root, and the dragon and lizard shell-breaking ritual appear. The protagonist returns to normal and gives thanks. He wonders whether a lizard can become a dragon. He thinks that adult dragons are the most dangerous species, capable of annihilating an entire colony. The intermediate-level dangerous lizard he has is a completely different species. He says that the dragon blood root looks like a brownish-purple root and wonders if it is useful. Su thinks that even the genius girl who hatched the lord of the castle was accepted as a resident to be personally taught. But the first animal she hatched was only a high-level dangerous species. What if he manages to hatch a dragon? At the medicine shop, he buys some items and begins preparing, thinking that he too could become a disciple of the master. The protagonist draws a circle on the ground and places the egg at the center. A light appears, showing the shadow of a dragon. Su watches as the energy weakens and disappears. The egg cracks even more, and he wonders whether it is a lizard or a dragon. At the training center, people are training, and Lu stands to the side, observing. 2 boys comment about the boy who still had not hatched the egg and was absent for 4 days. They say maybe he was killed at home or became arrogant after becoming a tamer and will be punished when he returns. Yu notices something. It is the protagonist entering. Lu says he finally remembered and asks whether he needs to come for training. People comment that he is doomed. Su replies that he was absent for a reason, and Lu asks what it is, saying he had better give a reasonable explanation. Heng tells his little one to come out. In the backpack, the hatchling peeks out with only its little eyes visible and jumps onto his shoulder, emitting a sound with a terrifying aura. Everyone looks on in shock, saying that it is not a lizard and asking what it is, commenting on the strong pressure. Yu says it is an extremely dangerous species and that they should see the lord of the castle. In a room, Jo says that it truly is a high-level dangerous species. He grits his teeth, saying that at the very first hatching it was already like this, and orders them to check who made the egg, saying to notify the department and deduct 3 months of salary. In truth, they made a dragon egg instead of a lizard one, and almost ruined the future of a genius. As for the protagonist, he says these years must have been hard, but he was lucky. If he had obtained a normal egg or a high-level dangerous species, he would already have outstanding achievements. But all effort brings reward. With this dragon as his starting point, he will be no weaker than anyone in the future if he works hard. The protagonist says that he will not disappoint the castle. The fortress master replies that he is grateful the tamer training has produced such a genius, both talented and tenacious, and asks whether he is willing to become his disciple. Su is surprised, and so is Lu. Heng thinks that, after 3 years, the lord of the castle who once took in Bai is accepting disciples again. The protagonist says he is willing, and Zhou says that this is excellent. He announces that today he summons all tamers without missions to a banquet to witness the birth of another talented tamer and celebrate accepting another disciple. The banquet continues into the night. The protagonist and his sister are escorted home by a castle guard in a carriage. At home, Sue says that he now receives a monthly stipend of 100 grams of gold and that once he has enough money, they will buy back the old house that was sold for him to undergo special training. His sister says she could not earn that much even in 3 years and praises her brother. Hang complains, telling her not to pinch his face and to go rest since she works tomorrow. The most common distinction between ordinary creatures and dangerous species is whether they are born with the talent to use energy. Techniques that use this talent are called skills and are essential for determining the combat capability of a tamed beast. Dragons are superior species by nature with extremely high energy talent. In addition to their common violent attacks, they possess 6 skills. Dragon Sleep, which allows rapid recovery, low-grade racial skills, Dragon Strength, a destructive skill, Earth Spear Sacrifice, and Earth Power Absorption. The last, when combined with Dragon Sleep, gives them astonishing vitality, making them nearly indestructible. Finally, there is the strongest demonic skill, second only to Dragon Breath, Demonic Breath. The protagonist looks at a book and says he believes his hatchling will become a powerful beast. He widens his eyes in surprise, thinking about the growth speed of dangerous species. In the castle, during tamer training, Joe says the dragon's potential is extremely strong and suggests testing its talent for the 3 types of energy, choosing one to train first. Its main strength is demonic. Hang looks at the ring on his hand and asks if it is the domination seal. The tamer's seal is a special item that keeps the beast in an internal space to sleep and recover energy. Because adult beasts are very large and a tamer needs several, they use bracelets, necklaces, brooches, watches, earrings, and similar items. A scarlet demon wolf is summoned. He says it is born with a lower classification but is nurtured until it reaches high level and is one of the master's main beasts in his early years, making it perfect to test the dragon. The protagonist wonders if that is appropriate. Joe explains that the wolf, being a mix of demonic and pure beast attributes, allows the dragon to observe and will be fine. The dragon trembles when it sees the wolf approach and seems afraid. He orders the wolf to use demonic breath so the little one can learn. The wolf opens its mouth and releases the breath. Joe tells it to stop. Hang watches in surprise, seeing the hatchling surrounded by a terrifying aura, and comments that it seems clever. The protagonist encourages it again. The hatchling tries to release breath, but nothing comes out. Joe explains that the little one has comprehended demonic energy, and that the purple smoke is the embryonic form of demonic breath. He says they have found a treasure, that the dragon is extremely talented, and that the wolf needs no further testing. The wolf disappears, and the hatchling relaxes. Another, larger beast is summoned, a demonic-type beast with the special classification Terrifying. The hatchling clings to its owner's leg, trembling. Sue says this is not right, and Joe agrees. Another animal is summoned, a dragon with powerful energy. He explains that using something beyond the terrifying type makes things easier, and that this is one of the master's main forces with fire, dragon, demonic, and earth attributes, his only dragon-type beast, and tells her to come out and start playing. The Tyrannosaur is enormous. Heng asks whether dragon types are not rare, and Joe replies that they are and that he is lucky to tame it. Since many veterans want such a beast, the protagonist thinks he must keep the book a secret. Joe asks if he is ready. The Tyrannosaur stares at the hatchling, which panics. Joe tells it to use a bit of dragon power so the little one can feel it. The Tyrannosaur releases its power, creating terrifying pressure. Sue thinks it feels like being in a small boat on a stormy river about to capsize. He touches his shoulder and tells him not to stay within the attack range. Heng feels the pressure disappear and thinks about the strength required for that. Joe is surprised that he holds firm and tells the Tyrannosaur to increase the pressure. The aura intensifies and Joe asks whether he can endure any longer. Heng widens his eyes when he sees the hatchling resisting and says that even though it is weak, it is using low-level dragon power to confront the Tyrannosaur. He says such talent is hard to imagine and that, in the future, it could break limits and reach great heights. The protagonist asks if it is really that strong. Joe, still surprised, asks whether he uses the dragon scales. Sue says he uses them as soon as he receives them. Heng comments that the hatchling absorbs the special substance in the scale very well and may have inherited the dragon blood trait, which greatly elevates it. Cho hands over a book saying he organizes training methods and skills into a spiritual seal and also adjusts the most suitable mental training method, reminding the protagonist not to neglect mental training since spiritual power is the tamer's strength and the foundation of beast taming. He thanks him. After leaving the castle, Heng buys back the old house, and when the seller learns he becomes a tamer, he is very sincere. Before Ching gets off work, the protagonist reorganizes and cleans the old house, and even if it cannot be restored to how it looked in memory, it is already good enough. He does not tell his sister yet, so Sue decides to go to her workplace, pick her up and give her a surprise, then sets off. Elsewhere, two rabid dogs lunge forward as Ching screams in fear, and Heng recognizes the voice as his sister's and immediately runs toward her. Ching tells the dogs to go away, and a blonde boy asks why she is running, claiming his dogs do not bite and only want to play. She keeps retreating and asking them to leave, and the blonde says that if she is willing to accompany him and play with him that night, his dogs will not bother her. The protagonist approaches, asks what he means by playing, and tells them to shut up. He advances with a stone in his hand, strikes one of the dogs, and knocks it to the ground. Heng says he is just a street gangster and tells him to stay away from his sister, warning that it is not because his father is a plantation director that everyone must treat him well. The blonde shouts for his dog, asks how he dares hit Charlie, and orders the other dog to bite the protagonist to death. The animal rushes forward, and Ching screams for him to run. But when the dog lunges, the dragon hatchling stares at it and bites it, shocking everyone. The protagonist orders it to bite until the end, and the hatchling continues. The blonde protests about his dogs, pulls out a knife, and orders his friends to draw knives as well to stab the two. The three advance, but Su extends his hand using dragon power, and the hatchling releases a terrifying aura that stops the blonde in place. He asks what is happening, while the other two say that Bastard is frightening and they should be cautious. Another group approaches, asking what they are doing, and one warns that a guard is coming, suggesting they ask to have the boy handcuffed, saying there will be room to maneuver if anything happens. The blonde says he knows the nearby guards and will ask them to handcuff that trash, claiming that once he is taken to the security team's detention room, they will make him incapable of doing anything, and that he even plans to take advantage of the protagonist's sister, saying his dogs will not have died in vain. The guard arrives, asks whether that is not young Master Gu, and asks what is happening. The blonde says the protagonist cruelly killed his two dogs and demands they capture him immediately. The guard orders him to be handcuffed, and the two guards advance with cuffs, saying he killed the young master's favorite dogs and should surrender peacefully. The protagonist looks at a brick on the ground and says that the brick killed the dogs and that if they are dissatisfied, they should punish the brick. The guards say he dares act arrogantly even after killing someone, and warn that he will regret it once locked in the detention room, until they notice the dragon hatchling releasing an intense, powerful aura that frightens them. Su shows his tamer classification and tells them to look carefully. The guards are shocked and call the captain. The leader realizes he is the famous new disciple accepted by the lord of the castle, already known throughout the region. The captain draws his weapon, fires into the air, and aims at the blonde, saying they have indeed banded together to commit crimes on the street and are far too presumptuous. He orders them to be handcuffed immediately and warns that if they resist, they will be killed on the spot. They are handcuffed. The blonde protests, claiming he is the victim and that his father is the plantation director, but the captain punches him and orders that he be slapped. Other guards begin beating him, and the captain says that Bastard truly dares to kill dogs and that if not handled this way, he would cause an even greater disaster. The protagonist says they have handled the matter temporarily. The captain thanks him and says those bastards will be beaten severely as punishment, asking if he is satisfied. Su replies that it does not matter whether they survive or not, because he will still look for them after they are released from prison. The captain understands, and Heng tells his sister to go home since everything is fine. Ching agrees and follows him. The captain asks his partners whether it is better to offend a plantation director or a tamer, and the partner replies that there is no need to think about it, because offending a tamer means not even knowing how one will lose their life. The captain agrees and orders a vehicle to be prepared to take the prisoners to the garbage incineration site and eliminate them. Elsewhere, Ching cries hard when she sees the old house her brother buys back, saying she never imagines returning there and that it feels like a dream. The protagonist tells her not to get overly excited and hands her the house key, saying this is only the beginning and that the future will only get better. And Ching says she believes in him. Then someone knocks on the door and Su asks who it is. The old man says he is forgetful and introduces himself as Deputy Director Guo from the Plantation Administration Office. Ching asks why he has come, and Guo replies that he has received news from the security team that Ding's son offended them, so he will help handle it by arranging for him to be transferred to the third-level planting and agriculture sector as an ordinary farmer, saying that although wild animals are unruly and accidents are frequent, Ding always says he can adapt to any position, and asks whether the protagonist is satisfied with the arrangement. Heng replies that he is very smart. Guo says he has heard that Ching is also a senior agronomist and will be transferred to the agronomy department as a deputy director. She asks whether he thinks she is unsuitable, and Guo replies that she is completely suitable because she is the Lord's sister, and if she encounters any problems in the future, she can come to him. Ching says it is fine and that she accepts. The protagonist thinks that becoming stronger truly brings more privileges. Later, food is placed in a bowl, and Su calls his pet to eat, saying it is an excellent recipe given by the teacher, specially made for growth, and that if it eats well, it will become stronger. He thinks about how there are 8 levels of beast-rearing formulas: inferior, qualified, intermediate, good, very good, excellent, extraordinary, and perfect. The teacher's recipe is for demonic-type beasts and is of good level, precious for a novice, but Sue finds it strange that the hatchling stops eating after only 2 bites and wonders whether something is wrong with the ingredients. Hang says book and summons the book, which shows that after being born, the dragon devours the eggshell and stops eating for a period of time. Because it is a combination of earth, dragon, and demonic attributes, its recipe should not be balanced but focused, and it is picky, preferring living beings. The protagonist concludes what the problem is and decides to change the recipe. Every month he receives money from the teacher so he can feed the dragon the best. In the following days, Sue prepares food according to the book and the little one loves it, but this causes a frightening problem. Hang says it cannot be. It is only the 5th day, until a coin falls to the ground beside the hatchling and it is already much larger, and the protagonist realizes that, despite being driven into bankruptcy by it, the dragon has indeed grown into the juvenile stage. He thinks that if they encounter those 2 hard-to-kill dogs again, the current dragon will not even need to use skills, only fly, bite, and slash with its claws to cut them in half with its sharp teeth. Sue strokes it, thinking that ordinary people would not even be able to injure it. Perhaps not even firearms would be effective. And even 5 armed people would be eliminated instantly. He remembers that the teacher says that when the dragon reaches the juvenile stage, he should go find him. But this happens in just 5 days, something unprecedented. Perhaps the recipe is extraordinary or even perfect, so he must keep it secret. He tells his pet that now they need to train skills and stop feeding for 10 days. At the castle, Hang knocks on the door and a voice tells him to enter. Joe says it has been a long time since the last visit and asks why, hinting at laziness at work, and the protagonist explains that he has been taking care of the dragon and that after feeding it with the given formulas, it has successfully entered the growth stage. Joe is shocked upon seeing the size of the dragon hatchling, and Sue says he does not think it is considered fast. Joe smacks him and asks what nonsense he is talking about, saying that senior sister's ice lotus pod takes a full month to reach the growth stage, and asks how much faster he still wants, also pointing out that her ice lotus pod is only a high-level dangerous species, 2 levels below a dragon. Hang thinks that he can believe whatever he wants. As long as he does not pursue this abnormal growth rate, it is fine. He comments that it seems the protagonist is not only talented in skills but also in growth. Since it has been cultivated to the growth stage, he says the dragon should already be familiar with its skills, and asks which have been developed. The protagonist replies that dragon power is enlightened to the 1st level and has developed 2 skills, dragon power deterrence and dragon power shock, and that demonic breath is also enlightened to the 1st level and developed into shadow ball. Joe, shocked, asks whether he is joking and whether he has really trained the skills to that level in such a short time. Sue replies that it is thanks to the teaching, thinking that fortunately he never tells him about Earth Spear Sacrifice and Evil Strike, which are comprehended on the rooftop the previous night. Joe says his eyes are not mistaken about him and orders him to go to his exclusive training ground to show how much he has grown. At the Lord of the Castle's exclusive training ground, Joe tells him to do his best and perform well because if he is satisfied, he will give him a tamed saddle, since the dragon will grow larger and larger, and he should have noticed that already, and asks how a tamer could not have a tamer seal, making Heng think that obtaining this tamed seal for free depends solely on him. Joe raises the ring and summons the rock bear of resilient armor, stunning everyone. The protagonist asks how many tamed beasts he has, since he summons a different one every time. Joe replies that he has no weak beasts, that the terrifying ones he has domesticated number about 20, and the common ones, like the rock bear of resilient armor and the lava tyrannosaur, are only half that number, and that if he wants a tamer seal that can demonstrate combat capability, it is time to test the training results. The bear opens its huge mouth, releasing massive pressure, and the dragon releases its powerful aura and stares it down. Sue watches in surprise, thinking that it activates dragon power with just deterrence, and Joe says it is not bad to be able to withstand full pressure already at the growth stage. Joe orders the bear to stop, and it obeys. Then he tells them to be careful and instructs the protagonist to use demonic breath and try to attack, and Heng orders the dragon to use demonic breath. The dragon opens its mouth and releases the breath toward the opponent, but the bear realizes it does not even scratch it, and Joe asks whether the dragon has eaten nothing and says it is only tickling the bear. The protagonist smiles and orders his pet to use demonic breath ball continuously. The dragon locks onto the enemy and fires the demonic breath ball, hitting the opponent and cracking a piece of stone skin. The bear roars in pain, and Joe comments that this is very good, that he has indeed developed the skill well on his own, using demonic energy attacks and continuous shots, and that even so, the precision and speed are excellent, not bad at all. Su thanks him for the praise and thinks that even with a conscious attack that makes it impossible for the enemy to dodge, but still cannot completely break the bear's defense, it is already enough to satisfy him with the performance. Joe says that as a reward, the Beast Domination Ring is now his. It has plenty of space and is enough to hold 5 beasts, and in the future he will no longer need to worry about their size, as it can house up to 10 beasts if they are willing to squeeze in. Heng thanks him. Joe tells him not to be happy too soon because even if his skill development is not bad, he still lacks combat experience, which can only be gained through fighting. Therefore, he decides to send him to the northern frontline garrison, whose defensive line will give him many opportunities to fight dangerous species, and orders him to report to the military headquarters 3 days later, when someone will arrange the mission. There are 4 defensive lines outside the high walls of the Black Lantern gathering place, protecting the area. Each defensive line is composed of solid fortresses, tamers, powerful weapons, and soldiers. Among them, the southern and northern defensive lines are the most dangerous, fighting dangerous species almost every day. Most materials related to dangerous species in the city come from the hunting results of the 4 main defensive lines. During these 3 days, Su requests an advance payment for assistance as a tamer, 250,000 grams of steel, half of which is exchanged for dragon food. He spends 3 days making all the food formulas that can be preserved for a long time. Under the arrangement of the Outer Fortress Army, Heng heads to the guard point at the 7th post of the northern section, serving as a team member, and the protagonist thinks that the 4 defensive lines in the Enclave are widely established to protect the plantations in the wilderness. After all, the amount of land within the gathering place is limited. The food produced by the 7 plantations in the gathering area simply cannot meet the consumption needs of 50 to 60,000 people in the region. Working on a plantation outside the city is the second most dangerous occupation, second only to being part of a search team, and it is also one of the dangerous industries that residents try to escape. As he remembers, the director of Plantation Number 5, Ding, was assigned to Plantation Number 30, a security zone responsible for the northern defense line. The vehicle moves on and the guard tells him that this is guard post number 7 and wishes him well, saying he needs to return to make a report. A young man becomes indignant when he sees Su get out of the vehicle and asks whether the chief of staff personally sent the newcomer. The blonde man beside him, wearing a bandana, says he heard that Su is a tamer and asks whether he does not see the food on the vehicle, saying that all of it is feed for tamed beasts. The young man asks what they are waiting for and says they should go help him, and the blonde agrees, saying he is right. They immediately run over, pick up the bags of food, and ask how he could possibly do all this alone, telling him to let them help carry it, but Heng replies that there is no need. The young man introduces himself as Huang and says Su can call him Xiao Huang and that he will take good care of him. The protagonist replies that he is too kind and says he will call him brother from now on. Huang says this is the first time he has seen a tamer without any arrogance, and tells the others to be quick with their hands and feet so they can finish moving everything soon. There are a total of 29 sentry posts along the northern defense line, and guard post number 7 is located exactly in this section. 10 years ago, this place was demolished and destroyed by a monster, with no survivors escaping that attack. The current post was rebuilt on the ruins, becoming the place where he will fight. Wang picks up some food and tells Su to try the meal prepared by Wen. Although their conditions are not good, Wen's skills are excellent and he should give it a try. Heng tells him to just call him by his name since they are comrades and there is no need to call him Lord. Huang replies that Lord Tamer is an important person, but that he will call him brother instead, and the protagonist says that is fine and that they will call each other brothers. He asks whether encounters with dangerous species are frequent in this area, and the blonde man, while eating, replies that the defense system here is considered mid-peripheral with less pressure than the outer area, but there are always some monsters that manage to get through. He tells him to take a look at the beasts they have hunted in recent days. In the middle, and at the end of each month, officers come to count military merits, take combat materials back to the city, and convert them into military merit points. Su says that this is amazing because even without a tamed beast, they are already able to achieve such results. The young man asks what Su's tamed beast is and whether he can show it. Huang complains, saying they do not know the rules and that tamed beasts cannot be summoned casually, but Heng summons his dragon and says it is fine. They are shocked to see that it is a dangerous species. The beast lands on the ground and the protagonist says that this is his summoned beast, a dragon. The young man comments that his very first beast is already a dangerous species and says that this is incredible. The dragon becomes irritated and begins releasing its terrifying aura, and Su flicks it on the head, telling it not to use abilities on them because it is very rude, and asks the young man if he is okay. Hu replies that he is fine, saying the tamed beast is incredible, and the blonde bursts out laughing, saying Hu claims he is fine but almost wet his pants. Hu tells him to stop talking nonsense, making everyone laugh. After a meal, Su is already quite familiar with the five brothers at the post. After tidying up a few things, Heng begins cultivating the mental training method following the teacher's guidance. The protagonist thinks that the mental tempering method taught by the teacher is called the crystalline breathing tempering method and has 3 stages. The first is to eliminate stray thoughts and construct a crystalline meditation environment, meditating while imagining oneself as a crystal. The second is to cooperate with a wonderful special breathing frequency, allowing the mind to gradually merge with the meditation environment. Finally, the core of the tempering method is the tempering of the mind itself. Based on the current progress, it will take a long time to reach the soul crystal the teacher mentioned, possibly half a month or more. Geniuses like senior sister Bai took a full month to cultivate it completely. She is a monster. The moon is bright, lights suddenly shine from the top of a castle, and Su notices that it is the emergency siren. Huang tells everyone to hurry out, saying something bad has happened. Locusts are moving toward them, and Heng observes through binoculars, saying that this dangerous species with armor and scythe-like limbs can easily shatter bricks with a swing, and appears to be a group of adult specimens. Huang says that scythe beasts are common along the northern defense line, but this type of insect has strong reproductive ability. With only 4 of them, it should not be too difficult to deal with. He orders everyone to prepare for battle, saying he will man the machine gun with Lao, Wen will shoot toward the northwest, Hu and Lu will take positions at firing trenches 5 and 6, and Ahwen and Huafu will kill the adults and guard what is growing for their brother. They all respond affirmatively. Bullets are fired. The locusts sense something approaching and activate their barrier, preventing the bullets from hitting them. But when the bullets make contact with the barrier, they shatter into pieces. Huang orders them to eliminate the targets and reminds them to aim for the head. Otherwise, the corpses will not be worth much. The protagonist thinks that the armor coverage ability of those scythe beasts is not very strong, but it greatly weakens the effect of normal bullets. He observes that using the machine gun to break open the barrier creates an opportunity for the sniper. Through the binoculars, Heng sees that they are defending with barriers, yet the guards continue firing until the barrier breaks. The blonde man, weapon in hand, says that now is his chance, fires, and lands a direct hit, destroying the target. The protagonist wonders if this is the northern defense line, and thinks that even without being tamers, they have excellent teamwork. After countless battles together, they are strong enough to eliminate those beasts. The locusts are killed, and they notice one escaping. Huang calls for Hu to take it out. They pursue it with the vehicle until they get close and stop. The insect notices them and watches cautiously. Su gets out of the vehicle and walks toward it, and Huang tells his partner to keep an eye on him, because those who come from the periphery to train often step too far forward, and they must not let him get hurt. Heng raises his ring, which emits light, and says to use the devil attack to see how good that guy really is. The dragon is summoned and uses its skill, devil attack. The locust activates its barrier, but the dragon effortlessly breaks through it and knocks it flying. The locust crashes to the ground and screams. The protagonist realizes that the armor blocks most of the attack and that it did not suffer serious damage, so he orders the use of Shadow Ball, continuous fire. The dragon flies forward with its terrifying aura and continues attacking. The locust activates the barrier again, but it begins to break once more, and Su watches closely. The locust also releases a powerful aura around its body. The two face each other, and the protagonist orders the dragon to use dragon power. The dragon stares at the opponent and opens its enormous mouth. The locust is terrified, and Su orders it to be destroyed. The dragon roars, and with the roar alone, a portion of the locust's body is sliced off. The insect begins to flee, and Heng asks whether it wants to run and whether it has permission, ordering the pet to use earth power. The dragon slams its paw into the ground, causing a massive impact and finishing off the locust. The guards inside the vehicle are shocked, and Hu says he does not think Su needs any help at all. Huang comments that he is very strong. The next day, Hu recounts the fight, saying he heard his brother shout, "Earth Spear Sacrifice," and the monster was easily finished. Huang says he is different from those who come only to train, that he is incredible and truly strong, and that he is impressed. The protagonist says no, that everyone performed well. A guard approaches, saying someone has arrived, and they go to take a look. When they see it, Huang says it is the headquarters convoy, finding it strange because usually when merits are counted, headquarters goes from post to post. He comments that they should not be there before noon, so why did they come so early? Su watches attentively. The commander-in-chief of the Northern Defense Line, Lu Ling, steps out of the vehicle and the guards greet him. Ling says that so many years have passed, yet nothing has changed. Huang says he never thought the commander would remember his name and feels honored, adding that it must have been a hard journey to get there. The commander replies that it is nothing, not a difficult trip at all, less than 10 minutes by car, and asks who Heng is and whether he's already used to staying there. Heng formally introduces himself to the commander-in-chief. Ling finds the title he is called by somewhat strange, and the protagonist replies that it is a pleasure to meet him and that he is already accustomed to living there. The commander pats his head and says it is great that he is already accustomed to the place. The teacher has mentioned several times that he has accepted another genius disciple this time, and he also heard from the chief of staff that he failed to see him during his last visit to headquarters because he had gone to exterminate a group of bastards. But this time, he came specifically to find him. The guards are surprised and wonder whether the commander-in-chief came all the way to such a small sentry post because of him. Huang thinks that he assumed Su was just an ordinary tamer and never imagined he was the lord of the castle's disciple and feels relieved that nothing bad happened. Ling tells them not to stand around and to go count the sentry's harvest for the latter half of the month, asking them not to disturb him, and then orders Su to summon the dragon, saying that the teacher assigned him a special mission to check the dragon's growth status and report back when he has time. Heng thinks that he assumed the teacher would stop caring once he left the city, never imagining he would send someone to check on him. The dragon is summoned, and Ling is surprised when he sees it, saying that the teacher mentioned it has not even been a month since it hatched. The protagonist explains that after learning dragon energy circulation, the dragon has been circulating it constantly because of the battles of the past few days, so it grew quickly and asks whether there is any problem. The commander replies that there is no issue, saying that Su's dragon is much larger than the one he raised back then, and that according to the teacher's request, he needs to test the dragon's combat experience. He adds that he also has a dragon-type pet and will use it to examine Su's, inviting him to play. A rhinoceros is summoned with a tremendous aura, and Ling explains that it is a dangerous species of the earth dragon type, just like Su's dragon, a high-danger species that he cultivated to the complete stage. With its thick skin and tough flesh, it can withstand attacks for a long time and is one of his main forces. The rhinoceros approaches while the dragon trembles in fear. Su asks him to take it easy and not eliminate the dragon, and Ling laughs at the word eliminate, telling him not to worry, that the rhinoceros knows when to stop and will not bully or injure the little one. Heng says to go ahead, and the commander comments that it seems the little dragon has just woken up, ordering the rhinoceros to use a ground stomp to wake it. The rhinoceros slams its foot into the ground, causing huge cracks and a massive shockwave. The protagonist observes and thinks this is the benefit of being able to control mental power after tempering, but now is not the time to dwell on that, so he orders his pet to use Devil Attack and get out of the attack range. The dragon grabs him onto its shoulder and begins to fly, and Heng orders it to use Shadow Ball continuously to return the favor. The dragon releases its skill, but the opponent remains unharmed. The protagonist realizes that defeating it with his current dragon is impossible. All he can do is demonstrate how much the dragon has grown so as not to disappoint the teacher who cares about him. He orders the dragon to take advantage of its speed and attack from all directions. The dragon flies around, releasing even faster attacks, opens its massive jaws, and unleashes a powerful strike that injures the opponent's back. Su then orders it to absorb energy to recover. The dragon lands on the ground while the rhinoceros remains unmoving, staring at it. Heng orders the pet to use Dragon Power, Earth Spear Sacrifice, creating a massive impact, yet the opponent still remains intact. However, the rhinoceros grows irritated, slams its foot into the ground, and flings the dragon far away, making it crash onto the ground. Ling comments that Su's tactics are good, but unfortunately, the rhinoceros's skill has already reached level 9, making it very easy to defend against the dragon and the Earth Spear. The protagonist asks whether he did not ask him to use all tactics so he could complete the mission given by the teacher. The commander replies that he already understands the dragon's combat capability fairly well and that it is quite good. The teacher will be very satisfied. The growth speed of Su's dragon is much faster than that of the senior brothers, and the teacher truly accepted an excellent disciple. Not long after the senior brother departs, winter begins. The outpost becomes extremely cold, with no walls sufficient to block the icy northern winds whistling through. Without electrical devices or heating, the only thing to rely on seems to be a sleeping bag. The blonde man trembles and complains that it is freezing, saying it is only winter and asking when it will end. Another companion remarks that since Brother Su became a tamer, he has mental protection, so he does not feel the cold as much. Suddenly, the siren sounds and they all jump up immediately. Huang says it is a call from Control Post number 3 in the northern section. Plantation number 25 has been invaded by a group of dangerous species. Huang tells Brother Hu and Su to come with him, and orders Lao to bring Wen and Xia to stay behind and keep watch. They respond and move quickly to their tasks. They get into the vehicle and a voice reports that, according to Captain Li, the situation is critical. Plantation number 25 has been completely breached, with many dangerous species entering the area. All plantation workers are trapped inside the staff dormitory and are currently relying on broken DUNS codes distributed by the security department to defend themselves, but sooner or later they will lose their lives. Support from Outposts 3 and 4, along with the main forces of the 2 nearby outposts, has already been largely dispatched to converge on the plantation. They should be assembled before 4 in the morning and launch the assault at 4, and since it is already 3:40, Lu needs to drive faster. At plantation number 25, northwest area, gate number 6, Huang reports that northern section 7 has arrived. The guard orders them to drive quickly to their battle positions and says the information will be shared over the radio frequency. Over the radio, a voice reports that reconnaissance has been completed. The bastards broke through the northwest wall at gate 6 and are currently in the grain area, feasting on the corpses of plantation workers. All survivors have been relocated to staff shelters for defense. All team members must line up their vehicles in a spearhead formation. 2 armored vehicles will serve as the vanguard, advancing directly toward the plantation dormitory and opening fire. The invading dangerous species this time is a pack of rotten toxic wolves. They have strong vitality, so they must aim for the head, eliminate them as quickly as possible, and rescue the trapped personnel. They begin firing, aiming for the heads. The lead wolf observes and lets out a howl. The protagonist senses something wrong and asks his partner to slow the vehicle and create some distance. Huang asks what is wrong, and Su replies that he heard a strange howl just now and asks if they heard it too. Huang explains that dangerous species like rotten toxic wolves have a certain chance of evolving into a supreme leader, and although the probability is very low, something is definitely wrong. Heng tells them to look closely and notices that the wolves are deliberately creating distance, wondering what they are planning. He comments that it is no wonder they managed to break through the plantation's defenses using only dangerous species. The lead wolf reveals a murderous gaze and releases an innate ability of rotten toxic wolves, wolf smoke. People in the vehicle ask what it is and whether it is poisonous fog. Over the radio, a voice orders them to activate infrared targeting, remain alert, and avoid accidentally injuring comrades. The protagonist says it will not be that simple and that they need to retreat. But then the wolves begin leaping onto the vehicles, tearing everything apart with their massive jaws. Su says this is a shadow wolf companion, and that the special ability of a rotten toxic wolf leader is companionship, meaning there is another leader. Huang says that one is coming. A wolf charges at their vehicle, smashing the windows and flipping it onto its side. Huang begins firing, but says it is too tough and they cannot penetrate its armor. The wolf leaps onto the vehicle, ripping chunks away. Heng remains calm and summons his pet. The dragon releases its terrifying aura and uses dragon power, intimidation, creating immense pressure, then follows up with evil thought bullet, rapid fire, causing explosions and blowing off the wolf's head as its body collapses to the ground. The protagonist speaks into the radio, telling the commander to avoid friendly fire and requesting a ceasefire, saying he will handle the rotten toxic wolf leader. The commander watches through binoculars and thinks that he truly is Baoju's direct disciple. Seeing such combat power in an apprentice is astonishing. He thanks him for the fire support but says to leave the rotten toxic leader to them, as they will deal with the other scum and not let them interfere with the battle. Su gets out of the vehicle, noting that the poisonous fog is extremely dense, and asks where the hell the rotten toxic wolf leader is. Huang points it out. Heng looks and sees the leader wolf destroying a vehicle while a guard cries for help. The protagonist orders the monster to stop and commands his pet to use surprise attack. The dragon strikes, making the wolf spit blood and sending it flying. The leader grows even more enraged and charges again. The guard thanks Su for saving him, saying he thought he would lose his life. Su tells him not to stand there and to start running, but the wolf leader thrusts its enormous razor-sharp claws straight through him before he can even move. The leader pulls back its claw and the guard's body collapses to the ground. Heng is shocked and orders his pet to use Earth Spear Sacrifice. The dragon slams its paw into the ground, causing a massive impact, and the system notifies that the rotten toxic wolf has released the Enlightened Power Shadow Assault, triggering a violent explosion. The protagonist says it is a good opportunity and orders Hu to suppress it with heavy fire, since the wolf is now outside the convoy's range. Hu responds that he understands. They open fire. The wolf leader tries to dodge, but before it even realizes what is happening, the dragon lunges forward and bites it. Su says he knew it would try to escape and orders the pet to intimidate it. While flying, the dragon releases Dragon Power 1, strikes the opponent again, and finishes it. Afterward, the vehicle continues through the mountains. Huang asks what is wrong with him and whether he is feeling down, and Heng replies that he is fine, he just wishes he could have done more. Huang says that according to past conventions, support is usually not even mobilized for an invasion of dangerous species on this scale, and that without him, the casualties this time would have at least doubled, because he helped a great deal. Huang shows a scar on his arm and says it is from the first time he participated in a plantation support battle, explaining that that battle was even more dangerous than this one, with more than 50 people dead or wounded, and an armored vehicle destroyed and turned into scrap by a super dangerous adult species called the golden-backed steel arm ape, whose attacks ground the crew members into minced flesh. In the end, it was the senior brother, the commander-in-chief of the Northern Front at the time, their martial elder brother, who personally took action and eliminated that beast to end the battle. He offers a few swallows of alcohol, saying it will make him feel better. The protagonist takes it, thanks him, and says he understands what he means. Huang says it is inevitable that ordinary people in these settlements live like floating duckweed with no roots to cling to, that no one can guarantee that if they fall asleep today, they will wake up to see the sun tomorrow, and that only by becoming someone like him can they truly gain the power to control their own fate. Su tells them not to overthink it and asks when for food, and Huang replies that they will eat a lot and wear that stinky kid out. The plantation support battle is the first time Heng faces massive casualties head-on. He behaves like a true warrior, and after a brief period of mourning, finally understands that only by constantly growing stronger can he protect himself and also protect the people around him in this chaotic world. In the following month, the protagonist enters special training for both himself and his pet, following the ancient dragon canon, and the results are remarkable. In addition to growing larger, the serpent dragon lizard's control over the 3 elemental energies becomes stronger, skills are developed one after another, and their effects become several times more powerful than before. While Su is immersed in training, watch post number 1 receives a familiar visitor. Ling arrives riding a lion and says it has been quite a long time. Heng thinks it looks really cool and wonders whether the pet has a mount attribute. Ling jumps down and says he heard that Su participated in a plantation support battle last time, and that his field performance was excellent. According to the senior brother, the commander at the time even submitted a report and praised him specifically. He truly is a student valued by the teacher. The protagonist asked whether the teacher did not say he should do a test once a month, and whether it has already been a month since he last left. Ling asks whether it was once, and says nobody really cares, explaining that he happened to have some free time these days and came over to avoid the teacher complaining later when he becomes too busy. He orders Su to release the serpent dragon so he can train it, saying they can talk later. Su responds that he understands and summons the pet, which is much larger than last time. Ling is shocked, saying it is growing extremely fast and asking whether the cultivation formula is perfect or something like that. Heng asks how that could be possible and says he has always used the teacher's G-Men formula. Maybe the little lizard just absorbs it better, and then tells him to put the serpent dragon away, saying there is no need to test further. Ling explains that according to the teacher's instructions, once the serpent dragon lizard reaches the mid-growth stage, the training on the northern front will be considered complete, so they should pack up the materials and prepare to return to the castle to meet the teacher. The protagonist asks whether he really can go back so soon. The companions behind ask whether he really can leave so early and say they cannot bear to see him go and will not be able to sleep. The blonde asks if that is really the case, saying everyone seems to be in a great mood and whether they should let the little lizard run with them for a race. Su plays along, saying it really does seem like everyone is in a great mood and asking whether they should let the lizard run with them. Huang asks why he is looking at him like that and says Ah Wun cannot sleep, and Heng replies that no one will escape. Everyone will run with the little one. The next day at the Dark Lamp Training Hall gathering point, the protagonist lies flat on the ground, exhausted, saying he cannot take it anymore. Lin Fu, the trusted disciple of the Fortress Master, his steward and loyal servant, comments that he lasted quite a long time under his bombardment and that, just as the Fortress Master said, he did not slack off this month, reporting to the Master that he gained a good disciple who, although not as talented as the senior sister, is persistent enough. Zhou says he did not expect the training to be completed in just 1 month and declares it a success, asking how it was for him and saying it must have been hard. Su replies that not at all, thinking that through practice and training he can clearly feel growth and challenges at every moment, which is far better than the 3 years spent incubating and hatching the beast egg without any progress, and wonders how such a life could be considered difficult. He also feels that being able to train and cultivate the dragon to this point far exceeded his expectations. Zhou says that this also gives him confidence in the plans he has for the protagonist in the future. Heng asks what the arrangements are, wondering whether they will go to the outer perimeter of the watch post, but the Fortress Master replies that they will not, saying he is preparing him to participate in the 6 Territories duel to be held in 1 month. The 6 Territories duel is held once a year, jointly organized by 6 major gathering places to compete for the opportunity to enter the Blood Forest ruins. Although it is called a duel, in reality it is a competition for the chance to explore those ruins. The protagonist asks whether so much effort is really necessary just to explore ruins, and whether there are not similar ruins near the gathering place. Zhou explains that the Blood Forest ruins are completely different from ordinary ruins found anywhere in the wilderness because the outer area of the ruins is separated by a hidden energy barrier that prevents entry, and moreover, the ruins are occupied by a powerful and terrifying race. The master of the hidden area is an unimaginably powerful creature. Years ago, the 6 major gathering places joined forces and reached an agreement with it after a fierce battle, and under the pressure and probing of the 6, it agreed to open the hidden area once a year to allow 3 human beast masters to enter and explore, thus giving rise to the 6 Territories duel. Su says this exploration opportunity is extremely rare and asks whether that means the competition will be intense, and whether, with his current strength, he can participate and has any chance of winning. Joe tells him not to worry, explaining that the area open to humans by the master of the Blood Forest ruins is only the outer perimeter of the ruins, while the inner area and core are inaccessible. For a novice like him, it is already a true treasure, but for real masters, it is not particularly attractive. Heng declares that since the teacher has said so, he will definitely compete for a slot and bring it back, and he says that is the spirit. Besides him, there will be 4 other participants, and tomorrow arrangements will be made for them to meet and get acquainted, after which a new round of training will begin. The protagonist asks where this new training will take place, and the Fortress Master replies that it will be in the Grizzly Forest. South of the gathering place lies a vast black forest covering an immense area known as the Gray Bear Forest. Beyond the southern wilderness, a staggering number of wild bears live there, all enormous creatures about 4 meters long and weighing several tons. However, due to their inability to utilize energy, they are not considered dangerous species, yet occasionally the bear groups give birth to incredibly powerful evolved individuals that become legendary figures even trainers admire from afar, earning a reputation as beings capable of soothing crying infants. Sue asks whether the Gray Bear Forest is not a forbidden area, and Joe replies that he will understand the situation when the time comes, and that before that, he should go back and rest for a few days. Later, elsewhere, Heng thinks that the advanced support of 250,000 grams of steel credits provided before going to the watch post is almost exhausted, and that the next support will not be distributed for another half month. To maintain the current growth rate, there can be no shortage of food, and advancing by relying only on this is not a long-term solution, so it seems he needs to find a way to make money. In fact, as a trainer, there are many ways to earn profits. Healing-type trainers can make decent gains by treating injuries and illnesses. Plant-type trainers can receive substantial rewards by increasing crop yields on large plantations. Water and electric-type trainers can also go to the resource department at the gathering point. However, with the help of the ancestral dragon manual, there may be even more efficient methods. In the Black Lantern gathering market, merchants shout to attract attention, offering the best and newest goods, big discounts, 1 gram of steel credit, 3 grams of credit, and so on. The protagonist wanders around wanting to make use of the ancestral dragon manual, but finds nothing after half a day of roaming until a merchant calls for everyone's attention and talks about high-price buybacks, saying he purchases dense black fat at an excellent price, long-term. Sue approaches, places money on the counter, and asks whether he buys dense black fat. The old man replies that he does, at a high price, and asks why and whether Sue happens to have some. Heng answers that he does not, that he only wanted to ask what the use of buying that stuff is. The old man says that is none of his business, that if he has it, he will buy it, and if not, he should leave quickly and stop meddling. The protagonist calculates the grams of steel credit per milliliter of dense black fat and concludes that 1 liter is worth 83,000 grams of steel credit. He did not expect anyone to buy dense black fat at such a high price, and finally finds a way to make money. According to the records of the ancient dragon manual, by mixing black octopus mucus, black oak resin, and thickening fusion agent in a ratio of 3 to 1 to 2 and refining them at high temperature for a few minutes, dense black fat can be prepared. Although according to the description in the manual, the dense black tree that naturally produces this fat is already extinct, it is not a rare item in the Black Lantern collection market. Therefore, as long as he can obtain the thickening fusion agent, he can succeed in this profitable business. Elsewhere, Sue tells his pet to stomp twice, the dragon stomps, and the furnace ignites. While Heng prepares the mixture, he keeps ordering the pet to stomp. The Black Lantern gathering market has a very special organization among its 5 offices and 13 locations, known as the Dangerous Bioenergy Research Department, whose function is to study dangerous creatures and peculiar energy substances. The research department has 3 institutes which are likely the true buyers purchasing large quantities of dense black fat. The protagonist thinks that although selling a large amount of this fat on the market could yield a considerable sum of money, they must be careful not to let the secrets of the ancient dragon manual be discovered. Dense black trees are not only rare but also grow extremely slowly, and in addition, some herbivorous, dangerous species love to feed on the tender branches and leaves of these trees, making trees over 1 meter tall extremely rare. Therefore, if a large amount of dense black fat suddenly appears on the market, it will certainly attract the attention of higher authorities. The best approach is to find a shop that can handle the goods, sell them at a discount, and leave quickly. Sue notices something ahead, a steel trading shop. He enters, places several potions on the table, and says that it is 30 liters, 2.5 million grams of steel credit, and asks whether they can handle it. The merchant says they can and asks where he got so much. Heng shows his dagger and says not to ask questions. The clerk, frightened, replies that some things are better left unknown. The door slams shut and the protagonist leaves with coins in his hand, thinking that they cannot use this money immediately, and that the best option is to go to the inner fortress and exchange only a small amount of ingredients for the serpent, dragon, lizard, waiting until things calm down. It is also a good opportunity to meet the teammates for special training. Elsewhere, a voice says that he knows Sue and that, speaking of it, they participated together in special training, and Sue seemed like an ordinary person with no talent as a trainer. This is Wang Shun, who also comments that he never thought about it, but it turns out that by chance the protagonist was appreciated by the castle lord and accepted as a disciple, which is truly extraordinary luck. Luo Chong says that Sue is very lucky, that the castle lord really wants him to be the captain of this duel. Lena comments that last year her class captain lost the chance to enter the secret place even after finishing 4th, yet still possessed extraordinary strength. A girl says that no one dares to question the castle lord's decision, much less them, because even the teacher does not dare disobey the castle lord. Everyone knows Heng, but they have to admit they misjudged him. His first pet is the most dangerous serpent dragon lizard, and none of those present have a high-level dangerous species, and she asks whether that is not enough to explain the difference. An elder says that if the castle lord has something to do, he will not come there, that several teammates have already arrived and Heng should go meet them first, and tells them not to be shy. The 5 of them should talk and introduce themselves, and he will leave first so as not to interrupt the young people's gathering. They stand up and tell the elder to take care. The door closes and Wang says that the captain is here. Lena states that there is only one captain who controls the pets, and the protagonist looks around sensing something wrong with the atmosphere. A girl calls out and introduces herself as Lin Yoxin, saying she has been a tamer for over a year and is now an official tamer. She currently has 2 pets, a mid-level dangerous adult phantom flower tiger and a mid-level dangerous adult electric-tailed swallow. Sue also introduces himself, saying he became a tamer 2 months ago and is currently an official tamer, with only one upper-level dangerous serpent dragon lizard that is in the middle of growth. Luo says that is amazing, becoming an official in 2 months, and having a serpent dragon lizard, the most dangerous species, as the first pet is incredible. Heng says he is right, it really is better than him, and Chong responds that he wants to see something stronger than himself and summons his red-scaled beast. The animal is summoned, and Luo asks whether the protagonist is afraid. He thinks that compared to this guy, the serpent dragon lizard really would not have much chance of winning. But with the help of the ancient dragon code, if he cannot crush him to the finish during the competition, he can at least find a piece of tofu to crush to the finish. He says he has watched for a long time, that it is not bad at all, and asks whether it does not look like a high-level dangerous species, telling him not to do that. Chong retorts that this is a gathering organized by the castle lord and that he should think about the consequences. Lena says not to worry, that the castle lord will not take action against him, but no one knows what the guards will do if he summons beasts at will inside the castle. Sue comments that it is better if he does not run into him in the duel a month from now. Luo says they do not even have the awareness to unite and fight for Lena's reputation, where the Black Lanterns gather, and Heng thinks it is better not to have such a teammate now. The protagonist steps away, saying not to worry, there will be opportunities to deal with him in the future. The door closes and Luo is irritated, but Wang tells him not to mind it as there will be a chance to deal with him later. Sue walks upstairs thinking that, as agreed with the teacher, they will go to the Bear Forest tomorrow and that those few teammates who were unconvinced should also be tested by the teacher. If he makes good use of the special training in the Bear Forest, when he returns he should become a worthy captain. The next morning at Heng's home, someone knocks on the door. It is a young man saying he is the Black Lantern War Chief, Zhang Cheng. A voice tells him to come in, they enter, and Zhang shows a map saying that this is where the Black Lanterns gather, and that this is their destination this time, a small to medium gathering point on the edge of the Black Bear Forest, the city of Ermet. The city of Ermet lies in a straight line to the left of the Black Lantern gathering point, but only half the distance between the two places has repaired roads, so the actual route is more winding. The distance is a little over 150 kilometers, and in addition to dangers and uncontrollable factors that may be encountered along the road, the protagonist says it will probably take 1 or 2 days, so they should prepare. Chung asks whether he has any questions, and Sue replies that he does not and tells them to set off immediately. In a forest, the vehicle moves along. The Black Lantern gathering point is located in the Grey Wilderness, as are Rivet Town and Grizzly Grove, an extremely vast area with dozens of large gathering points, many others of medium and small size, and even more refuge camps scattered throughout the wilds. The vehicle keeps moving, and Zhang says this is the place and tells them to wait, explaining that he will continue on afterward and rest here for the night. Someone atop the fortress introduces himself as Chanam, deputy mayor of Dru Prefecture, and asks whether they are from the Black Lantern gathering area. Chung introduces himself as the leader of the 5th Tactical Group of the 1st Squadron of the Black Lantern Castle Guard 3rd Detachment, and says he needs to go into the city for repairs. Over the radio, a voice asks for the latest password, and Jung provides it. A gate opens, and Chanam approaches, saying they have come from far away and worked hard. Jung says he's in a good mood and that this time he brought distinguished guests, asking them to help arrange accommodations. The deputy mayor asks what is going on with him and tells them to go in first. Elsewhere, a voice says that these are the beast control materials prepared for Su. Jung introduces Chen Han, saying he will be responsible, and Heng thanks him. The protagonist moves his ring, summons the dragon, and tells it to go eat something. Everyone is shocked by his level of pet control, and Chen jokes that he wonders whether Su even opened the box, because the beast looks like it is going to eat the container along with the food. The dragon opens the crate and begins devouring everything at high speed, leaving everyone astonished. Han says Chanam is different from the Black Lantern gathering point, that there is no curfew and the nightlife is lively. Many comrades stationed in Chanam go to the bar at the foot of the mountain to have fun, and he invites Su to join them. Hang replies that they can go have fun if they want, but he will not go himself, and asks whether Han can help him find a guide since he wants to walk around the city. Someone knocks on the door. It is a little girl asking whether he is looking for a guide. She apologizes for overhearing the conversation and explains that Grandpa Andrew asked her to bring Lord Shaw's specialty. Chen confirms that she is indeed Mayor Andrew's granddaughter, and says that if Su wants a guide, she is perfect. Lena agrees excitedly. The city of Chanam is quite distinctive. Its architectural style is very different from Black Lantern Castle. Most houses have triangular roofs and square or rectangular shapes with strong three-dimensionality, and according to the traditions of the people of Trondheim, residents like to paint the exterior of their homes black and brown. According to Lena, there are hundreds of such houses throughout Chanam, as well as shops and businesses, built along the mountain slope of Chanem. Higher up the slope, there is a small castle of earth and stone that looks like a fortress. That small castle is the original Chanam and the seat of the city hall. Lena confirms this and adds that tonight there will be a special beast fight at the Chanam Coliseum, asking whether he is interested. The protagonist asks about the Coliseum, and Lena explains that guards and residents occasionally capture wild beasts, and the Coliseum uses them for duels and events to attract spectators. If a beast is injured and dies in battle, it is not wasted but butchered and distributed as meat to the residents. Coincidentally, today someone offered the Coliseum a special beast that no one in Chanam has ever seen before. It will fight an adult wild tiger, and the match has attracted a large crowd. Su thinks that although a wild tiger is only a common beast, it is ferocious and unusually aggressive, and observing it could be useful for cultivating the little lizard, so he asks to be taken to see it. The attendant hands over 2 tickets and asks Lena whether she has a boyfriend, who that handsome guy is, whether he is new, and why she has never seen him in Chanam. Lena gets annoyed, tells her to stop talking nonsense, and urges them to go inside quickly. People recognize Lena and greet her, and one even invites her to sit with them. She thanks him and says it is not convenient today, but definitely next time. Heng thinks she is quite well known here. A man approaches calling her niece, and asks why she has time to come today. Lena calls him uncle and says she is accompanying a distinguished guest, telling him to prepare the best booth in the Coliseum, or she will complain to his grandfather. Lad looks at the protagonist, notices the master ring, and realizes that someone of this status must never be offended. He says it is an honor to receive him, and welcomes him to the Chanam Coliseum, and the protagonist replies that it is a pleasure to meet him. A roar echoes through the arena as the host announces that the beast fight is about to begin. The crowd cheers excitedly, and she announces that, just as everyone expected, the city guard has brought in a wild tiger with a body exceeding 3 meters in length and weighing over 600 kilograms. A tiger appears at the side, and 2 boys in the audience comment that it was captured in the trap of Chanam's best hunter, a Saizi, and that this wild tiger looks to be in excellent condition, brimming with ferocity, a true beast. One of them shouts for the match to start, and Lena, extremely excited, shouts as well. The host asks the audience to calm down and announces today's challenger, admitting that she has never seen such a strange creature before and hopes that this little guy, caught by accident, will bring everyone some surprises. A cage is thrown into the center, and the little guy inside looks dazed. The tiger approaches, and it runs away, scrambling up the bars. The crowd laughs, saying it is the first time they have seen something flee like that. The protagonist wonders what it is and whether it could be what he is thinking. The tiger opens its massive jaws and lunges at its opponent. The little guy screams in fright and keeps running, the tiger chasing after it as the pressure grows more intense. People comment on its speed, saying they thought the creature would be finished immediately, but did not expect such a turnaround. A small boy asks his mother what kind of beast that is. Su thinks that according to the records of the ancient Dragon Code, among dangerous creatures there are 4 rare species that almost only appear in rumors, recognized as powerful and incredible, and thus called the 4 gods of rumor. The 4 rumored species are Mystery, Enigma, Miracle, and Muth. Speed and reactions like this cannot belong to ordinary animals. Combined with the golden seal on its forehead and its round body, that little beast is one of the 4 rumored races, the mystical treasure hunting race. Treasure hunters are extremely dangerous species, but almost non-aggressive, possessing an exceptionally rare mysterious ability born to seek out and feed on treasures. Their traces usually appear only in extremely dangerous large-scale ruins and can indicate the presence of a hidden realm. He never expected to encounter such a creature here and cannot miss this opportunity, so he asks whether he can buy that little beast. Lena replies that the beast was sold to her uncle by the brewmaster of the cellar, Rio Rad, who owns the Colosseum, and that the Colosseum's beasts are his wealth. Hang says it would be best to ask her to take him to meet him. In another room, a man says he is afraid it will not work. Even though he is a friend, he cannot agree to such a request because she knows the Colosseum's rules. Unless one side is injured and loses combat effectiveness or even dies, the fight cannot be stopped. Lena pleads, but the man replies that it is not really about money. Lena says she knows that the little creature was sold for 4,000 grams of steel at the old shop and offers 8,000 grams of steel, asking whether that is enough. The man reminds her that she knows not even her father, from old Lad's generation, ever broke the Colosseum's rules, and says that Lad is concerned about the registered bets and sold tickets. Sue says that from what he knows, that little creature is not only rare but an extremely special species, and asks whether he really wants to let it be eliminated in the arena. The man replies that Sue has misunderstood, that he has his reasons, but he does not want to break the rules. Hang says he has an idea. Meanwhile, in the arena, a voice announces that due to special circumstances, the beast fight may have to be terminated. The crowd becomes irritated, saying they bought tickets and were excited for the show, but the voice asks for patience and begins to explain. First, all ticket holders will receive triple refunds, and those who placed bets will receive full refunds. Second, the Colosseum will present a spectacular duel, and here is the challenger, Sue. The crowd erupts in excitement, asking whether this will be a battle between humans and beasts, and saying it has been years since such a confrontation happened. The tiger opens its massive jaws and charges forward, and everyone fears the challenger will be finished. Lena says they must win. Hang extends his hand with the ring and summons the dragon. The tiger freezes, and the crowd watches in shock, exclaiming that it is a dangerous species, a dragon, and commenting that the last time they saw one in Chennai was 3 months ago, so today was not in vain. The administrator wishes the Colosseum prosperity and is stunned, thinking that being able to raise such a dangerous species at such a young age is impressive, and that fortunately he was polite earlier, as it seems the little beast was lucky this time. The dragon stares down its opponent as the protagonist calls to his pet. The dragon releases a powerful aura, creating tremendous pressure, and the tiger holds up a little sign asking not to be eliminated, as if saying this is unfair. Then they notice something else. The little guy moves quickly again. Sue thinks that judging by its body shape alone, it looks like a child in the early growth stage, but its reactions and speed are so fast that they clearly indicate a mysterious race. He orders his pet to attack. The dragon lunges toward the little creature, and Hang commands it to use the second stage of enlightenment. As the smoke dissipates, the dragon opens its massive jaws and stretches out its claws about to strike, but the little guy moves even faster and dodges. The protagonist orders his pet to unleash the second shock, and the dragon releases an absurdly violent power, making everyone feel fear as they ask whether that really is the power of a beast tamer, saying that if he were to lose control of such a creature, the entire city might be annihilated. While the little guy trembles in terror, the dragon approaches, grabs him in its hand, and carries him back to its master. Later, inside the Colosseum administrator's office, the man says it is incredible that this is the first time he has seen a tamer capable of controlling the most dangerous species at such a young age. Sue says it is an exaggeration and asks to be forgiven, but admits that he is truly curious and asks how such an extremely fast creature was captured. The man asks if he is referring to the little guy and explains that as a vassal of Black Lantern Castle, Chennai is not only an important supply point on the southern line but is also famous for wine production, and that it was precisely Chennai's wine that initially attracted the attention of Black Lantern Castle and led to its status as a vassal. The person who captured the little one was Old Cumin, the city's master brewer, and it is said that the little guy sneaked into the wine cellar 3 or 4 times and ruined several barrels of 30-year-old wine that were meant to be offered as tribute to the Lord of Black Lantern Castle. Old Cumin and his apprentices stood guard for 7 days, then thought it had all failed and returned, only to find the little fellow drunk and drowsy inside a wine barrel, so they simply sold him. Hang says that now he understands that a treasure-hunting species is born with a mysterious power to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages, but this one is so stupid that it got itself drunk. Outside Sue's residence, the protagonist thanks the little girl for everything and says that he now owes her a great favor. Lena replies that it does not matter, that it was only a small problem, and that she heard he will be traveling tomorrow, so it is better to rest early. Sue says that is fine, that he will explain things to Chen and the others and bring back some interesting items from Hailing next time. Then, in his room, Heng asks the little guy in the cage what that expression is about and says that if it were not for him saving him from the Colosseum, whether he believes it or not, he would have lost his life there sooner or later, and the little guy's eyes fill with tears. The protagonist thinks that the steel bars of the cage are no thicker than a little finger, and that if it were a dragon serpent lizard, it would easily destroy the cage and escape once it grew to the size of a treasure hunter, which makes it seem that this mysterious treasure hunting beast truly lacks aggressiveness. The next step is to establish a bond with it, but the ancient dragon code says nothing about what the little guy likes, so Sue says to forget it, and that it is better to let him go hungry for a few days, so he will eat anything he is given. At that moment, the ring begins to glow and Heng realizes that, while focused on the treasure hunter, he forgot the dragon's dinner. So he places a box on the table and starts preparing food, and the little guy becomes excited. Sue stirs the food while the treasure hunter watches closely with interest, and Heng says that if the dragon eats 3 times the normal amount, it should be able to reach the rivet formation by tomorrow night. The little guy is practically drooling with desire. The dragon is summoned and immediately stares at the food and starts devouring everything. The treasure hunter feels intense longing and sadness at not having eaten anything. The protagonist asks if he wants some too, scoops a bit with a spoon, and calls him over to eat. The little guy starts eating eagerly, and Heng thinks that, unexpectedly, the treasure-hunting beast likes eating the dragon serpent lizard's food, and now it will finally not starve anymore. When the little guy finishes, the protagonist asks if he wants more, but when he reaches for it, the dragon has already eaten everything. Sue comments that if this does not work, the dragon will have to eat less in the future so that some can be left for the treasure hunter. The dragon becomes annoyed, and Heng says it is fine since it is the older brother and should act like one, so today he can let the two of them have fun together. Elsewhere, Lena takes her leave early, and the next morning, the protagonist bids her farewell and sets off for Rivet Town. Compared to Chanam, Rivet Town, a medium-sized gathering point, is obviously much larger. This small city has a large-scale smeltery that mainly produces 3 metals, iron, copper, and aluminum. But according to Zhang Cheng, there are also some internal stories involving Rivet Town and the Grizzly Bear Forest. However, due to discipline, Zhang could not explain them clearly, so Heng could only wait until arrival to naturally understand. After entering Rivet Town, Sue feels a strong industrial atmosphere, with the air filled with the burnt smell of coking coal and steelmaking. And Chung sends him to the management meeting at the city center, where the protagonist finally understands what could not be clearly explained before. He learns that Rivet City has thousands of residents and a guard force of 150 people, and that in name it is an independent small to medium gathering point in the Grey Wilderness. But in practice, it is a vassal of the Black Lantern gathering point, mainly supplying metals and crops, and that the minerals mined by the city are actually located within the Grizzly Bear Forest. It is impossible for ordinary people to mine in the Grizzly Bear Forest, and the reason Rivet City managed to successfully extract a large amount of ore there leaves Sue even more shocked. The entire bear forest is in fact the professor's domain, or more precisely, the domain of one of the professor's controlled pets, which can even control all the bears throughout the entire forest to a certain extent through pet control. Inside the management committee hall, Heng thinks that he already tried his best to imagine the professor as powerful, but did not expect the power and fear he inspires to be far more unfathomable than imagined. According to the committee, there are currently 4 beast tamers stationed in the Grizzly Forest. Among them, the strongest is a near-professional veteran tamer from Black Lantern Castle, and the other 3 are also above the level of high-grade tamers. Although there are people from the Black Lanterns on the surface, inside the room, the dragon is sleeping, and the protagonist watches the little guy, thinking that for a beast tamer, a precious pet is no different from the temptation of money, power, and status for ordinary people. It would be extremely foolish to gamble on whether the trainers in the Grizzly Forest can recognize the mysterious treasure-hunting beast and choose the better path, so he asks whether the little guy would like to be his partner. The little guy sticks out his tongue, and Sue says to forget it, that they should eat first and talk later. The dragon immediately wakes up, and Heng asks what the two of them want to do, and says to just serve a meal without saying a word. After learning that there are 4 powerful trainers in the Grizzly Forest, the protagonist, who originally planned to head there immediately, instead chooses to stay in Rivet Town for 3 days. The reason is simple: to find a way to establish a spiritual bond with the treasure hunter, so that he can control it at any time. However, this matter is not as easy as he imagined, as every time Sue tries to establish a spiritual bond, he is repelled by the consciousness of the treasure-hunting beast. Even after flipping through the ancient dragon code, he finds no relevant records, so Heng simply comes up with a stupid idea and asks whether the little guy is not a treasure hunter, saying that he will take him treasure hunting right now. Unfortunately, things are not as simple as imagined, and the protagonist jokes about treasure hunting, saying that all he did that morning was chase butterflies and asking whether, after discovering that he is a useless beast, he should not just feed him to the dragon. The little guy gets angry and begins to release energy, and Sue asks whether he found something. The little guy points his finger. Heng looks behind and asks whether he means he sensed the aura of treasure from that direction. The little guy tilts his head, and the protagonist wonders whether this time it is real, thinking that there seems to be a wave of mysterious energy in his body. Sue smiles and says he does not want to go, that it might just be some kind of fake, and that it is better to go home and cook for the dragon serpent lizard. The little guy starts pointing insistently, and Heng asks whether he really wants to go, whether he wants that treasure so badly, and why he should help him obtain it. The little guy lowers his head sadly, and the protagonist says that he likes doing good deeds. But for that, the little guy has to agree to one request, and the little guy becomes afraid of being made into a slave. Sue asks whether he is worried about that and explains that it is only to establish a spiritual connection, not to subjugate him. The little guy understands, and the two bump fists. Heng thinks that it is impossible to establish a spiritual bond overnight, and even if it is proposed, it is easy to be rejected. While establishing a spiritual connection is different because as long as the other side no longer resists, it will not be difficult to gradually form the bond. Elsewhere, someone hands over a bottle. It is the attendant saying that the signed spiritual harmonium is there. The protagonist enters the place, and the attendant asks whether he wants a glass of the special drink. Sue replies that he is just visiting, and the attendant gets annoyed, wondering whether he is the type of person who goes to a bar at noon just to look around and mutters to two young men that this guy looks strange, maybe a foreign mercenary or connected to those soldiers, asking whether they should check what he is doing there. Heng asks what that is and whether it is a treasure hunter or a junk hunter. And he comes across items that look extremely old until he notices something and thinks that it cannot be the transformation color stone mentioned in the ancient dragon code. The journey of beast control and dragon transformation is filled with hardships, and the demand for evolution materials is almost absurd, with transformation color stones being the core materials required by extremely powerful dragon species on the path of transformation. And he never imagined that he would encounter something he barely even dared to hope for, all thanks to the treasure-hunting beast, which truly is a mysterious existence. The attendant asks why he is standing there in a daze and whether he is a guest or here to cause trouble, and Heng replies that he wants a price for that stone. The attendant asks if he wants to buy that landscaping stone and thinks that it is true the boss found that stone in wilderness ruins, but even after searching it, many big shots found it useless apart from being pretty. So it was considered a landscaping stone and placed in the shop as decoration. But if he said that out loud, other customers would feel the shop had no taste. The attendant says that thing is so precious and invites him to have a drink before leaving, saying that he cannot afford it, and the protagonist tells him to name a price. The attendant replies 10,000, and Sue takes out the money and places it on the table. The attendant feels embarrassed, and Heng thinks it is a fair price, saying he can pay without any discount, but that it is their responsibility to remit the amount to the building administration. The attendant notices his master ring and immediately apologizes for the insult, saying that he did not realize a master ring holder had entered the shop, that the stone must be delivered and the price is negotiable, apologizing again and revealing that the real price is only 1 gram of gold. The protagonist says that trainers risk their lives to protect the gathering point, not so that people inside can take advantage of them, and hopes there will not be a next time, and the three repeatedly promise it will never happen again. In the process of subjugating a pet, there are 2 situations in which it can be done quickly. One is when an overwhelmingly powerful controller subjugates a low-level pet, and the other is when the pet itself agrees and even wants to be subjugated by the tamer. And the treasure-hunting beast at this moment belongs to the latter. In order to subjugate it within these 3 days in Rivet Town, Sue racked his brains, going on treasure hunts through a city full of rivets and delicious food. And he even acted like a mother, telling bedtime stories to the treasure hunter. Of course, cakes were also indispensable. For example, promising to take it to treasure-hunting ruins in secret lands in the future, where treasures would pile up like mountains. And now the treasure-hunting beast regarded him as an angel, wishing Heng would take it away as soon as possible. But the protagonist was more like a dog, and in order to accelerate the little one's sense of dependence on him, Sue euphemistically called it training the treasure-hunting beast's speed, reserving time every day in the training field behind the management committee building to let the dragon serpent exercise the treasure hunter. The dragon runs toward the little guy with red eyes. Heng notices and orders it to stop. And when the treasure-hunting beast has been tortured to the point that it no longer has any love for life, he appears like an angel to stop the dragon serpent's violence. The protagonist says that the dragon quickly released the treasure-hunting beast and asks why it bullied it again and whether it could be a little gentler, and the dragon just stares back. Rescuing the treasure-hunting beast from the dragon serpent's claws increases the little one's trust and gratitude toward him, and Sue tells the little guy not to cry and to close his eyes, saying that he will subjugate it now and that it will obey. And up to this point, his plan has been perfectly executed. On the outskirts of the grizzly bear forest, a vehicle comes to a stop. Jung says that crossing that river means leaving the outer area of the grizzly bear forest and entering the inner area, that someone will come to receive them on the next leg of the route, and Heng says he is tired. Someone approaches and jumps down with a dangerous species, a red-flamed tiger, and a red-haired woman asks if he is Sue, saying that she is Hei Ju, the tamer stationed at the grizzly forest garrison, and that he can call her senior sister. The two guards greet her and Heng greets her as well. Ju jumps down and says that the castle lord has already notified them through the short-range communicator that he would come to the forest for a month of training, and she thought he should have arrived earlier but did not expect him to arrive only today. The protagonist apologizes for the delay due to some unforeseen circumstances, and Ju says it is fine, telling the two guards they can head back. The guard asks whether the luggage behind is safe. Hei touches her necklace and orders her pet to come out. A monkey is summoned, and Sue thinks that the silver-backed, iron-armed monkey, a highly dangerous species, is at least purebred, and Ju comments that if its strength has broken the racial shackles, it is even harder to judge just by appearance. The monkey senses something, and Jung says to take the luggage to the base. Hei mounts the tiger again, and Heng says there is no need, then summons his own pet. Ju is surprised and says that he truly deserves to be proud, the professor's junior disciple, whose first tamed beast is already an extremely dangerous species, and she wants to see how capable he is, because riding and fighting are completely different matters, saying that this one was also pretending to be weak at the start to deceive them. Not all bears can master this ability, which instantly increases strength and defense, and with this, the dragon is no match for such an enemy. So Jen says it is time to interrupt the challenge. The protagonist replies that in his mental world he has not yet received any request for help from his pet and chooses to trust it. The bear becomes even more enraged and charges with full force. The dragon releases its mana and flees, but the bear is too fast, and Jen says that at that speed the pet will not be able to escape and will end up seriously injured. The bear leaps, the dragon hesitates for an instant, flicks its tail, and activates the second phase, Stubborn Stone, causing a massive impact that strikes the opponent and knocks the bear down, sending it rolling away, while the dragon watches until the bear stops rolling and lies motionless on the ground. Lin remarks that it is a foolish bear and asks why he has never encountered such a stupid one before, and Sue replies that it was just luck. Jen adds that with Heng's current spiritual energy, he cannot remain airborne for long, while the protagonist is hanging from a tree. Lin whistles to summon his own bird. The eagle grabs the protagonist by the shoulder and places him on the ground, and Jen says that, as expected of the master's disciple, from what she saw in today's battle, he has clearly put in a great deal of effort training his pet. Lin summons the Lotus Hat, a plant-type healing pet that roots itself into the ground to absorb nutrients and recover injuries, and the Lotus Hat begins to heal the bear. Jen explains that this is also one of the forest challenge rules. After the battle, it is mandatory to heal the bear, otherwise they will be attacked by an entire group. Sue gives his thanks. The bear wakes up and upon seeing the two pets, immediately assumes an attacking posture, but Lin tells it that the battle is over and that if it wants to fight again, it will have to put another bear energy fruit into the wager. The bear leaves dejectedly and Heng watches, surprised and confused, while Jen tells them to follow the animal, saying he will understand better if he keeps watching. The bear walks until it reaches a fruit tree, picks a fruit and places it on the ground, drooling all over it. The dragon watches, picks up the fruit, and the bear bursts out laughing. Lin comments that Ju probably already explained that each area is guarded by a bear, and within each territory there is a small tree that produces the bear energy fruit, right at the center of the ring of trees, which is the bear family's treasure. The protagonist asks whether that is the bear energy fruit and says it is much smaller than he imagined, asking how it should be used. Jen replies that it is meant to be eaten, and that once harvested, the energy begins to evaporate and disperse within minutes. So if there is no special preservation method, the best option is to eat it as quickly as possible. Sue tells his pet to open its mouth. The dragon remembers the bear spitting on the fruit and makes a disgusted expression. Heng asks what that look is and states that it is an incredible fruit, then asks his senior brother if he has water. Jen asks whether he plans to slice the fruit later, and Lin, laughing, washes the fruit with water. The protagonist orders the pet to eat it, the dragon swallows the fruit, and Jen warns him to prepare, because as soon as the dragon fully absorbs the energy of the bear fruit, they will depart immediately. Otherwise, a great deal of energy will be wasted. Sue asks what he should prepare for, and Lin summons the owl lion and the rock python, calling both out, while Jen tells them to stay alert. Heng thinks that absorbing the bear energy fruit is truly not easy, and thanks them for standing guard. Lin explains that the bear energy fruit can be preserved, But usually by the time one returns to the base, it is already too late to consume it, so it must be eaten right there in the dense forest. And if there is no beast strong enough to stand guard, the best option is to find safe, hidden places like tree hollows or mountain caves, saying he will get used to it after experiencing it a few more times. The dragon stands at the center of the magic circle and the protagonist calls out to it, while Jen says that the fruit's mysterious energy will transform the biological body and even the cells at an abnormal speed, which will certainly trigger a strong stress response in the body. After all, the bear energy fruit is famous for its aggressive effects among energy fruits. The dragon begins releasing extremely powerful energy. 3 days have already passed since it ate its first bear energy fruit, and in these 13 days its size has rapidly grown to approach the limit of the growth stage. Its strength, endurance, and physique are no longer weaker than the peak of that stage and may even surpass it. And since arriving there, it has eaten about 8 to 9 bear energy fruits. The dragon seems to have a talent for provoking itself, and its challenge to success rate leaves Lin both shocked and embarrassed. In 3 days, it fought around 20 bears with a win rate close to 50%. And aside from the first foolish bear that the dragon defeated by luck, the real reason for such a high success rate is the hero, the treasure hunting beast. Almost every bear the dragon challenged was one that treasure hunters had previously discovered, which is why Jen only managed to obtain a single bear energy fruit in more than 10 days, while the dragon obtained 8. This is the secret Lin has still not been able to figure out. The dragon roars, and the protagonist asks whether it means it is sensing again the bear that used that talent ability on the first day. The dragon nods, and Sue tells them to go take a look. Hidden behind bushes, Heng wonders whether this is another fight and thinks that the armored wolf is a mid-level, dangerous species that usually lives in dark caves and mining veins, and since this is the grizzly forest, it must be a tamed pet. There is a tamer nearby saying that, as expected, that guy is not enough, and ordering his armored wolf to advance and eliminate the bear. The protagonist thinks that the heavy armored wolf has no weaknesses, that it is a powerful special danger species, comparable to a weaker high-level dangerous species, and far stronger than Ju's red flame tiger. That wolf is in perfect stage and well-maintained. It charges at the bear, strikes it, and knocks it down with a single blow, and Sue is shocked by how easily the bear was defeated. Brother Huang had already said that Black Lantern Castle is a force that has existed in this wilderness for 100 years, and that in the process of development, battles and conflicts are inevitable, so some enemies naturally emerge. The force hostile to Black Lantern Castle appears to be made up of tamers, who control heavily armored wolves, because they dominate a habitat of armored wolves just as Black Lantern Castle controls the grizzly forest, though on a smaller scale. Their appearance in the forest is no surprise, and they must have come for the bear energy fruit. Sue wonders how they plan to preserve it, knowing that not even Black Lantern Castle has fully grasped the sinister method of harvesting energy fruits. The masked tamer approaches the fruit with a syringe and injects something into it, and Heng wonders what that is. The protagonist notices a scout beast above them. The tamer continues applying the liquid until he hears a sound and, annoyed, mutters that he never thought a rat would be hiding there. He calls his pet to take a look and mounts it. A few minutes later, the tamer is chasing after the dragon, with Sue riding on its back, and Heng thinks that this man is capable of taming a special classification dangerous species, a heavy armored wolf, and even sneaking into the grizzly forest while concealing his identity to avoid detection. So he must be someone important. The protagonist grabs the radio and reports that he has found an illegal hunter and requests reinforcements, but the radio has no battery. Sue realizes he has been too relaxed at the gathering point for too long, and that relying on his teacher's name for protection made him less cautious. He vows to himself that he will bring this information back and leave alive. Heng releases energy to boost his pet's speed, while the tamer continues riding the wolf in pursuit, ordering the heavy armored wolf to use its awakened skill to catch up and eliminate the rat and the beast. The wolf stops, looks ahead, and activates its awakening, Devil Attack, Straight Line Shadow Strike, rapidly closing the distance. The protagonist reacts and orders his pet to use Level 2 Devil Attack and keep running toward the densest area of trees. The dragon keeps running and flapping its wings, and Sue thinks that the acceleration effect of Level 2 Speed Boost is not as strong as Straight Line Shadow Strike, but it has the advantage of changing direction. Since the enemy likes reckless attacks, it is better to lure those strikes into the trees, and if luck allows, even drag the senior brother into the chaos. The wolf uses its paws and head to smash trees in half, and the tamer comments that the rat is too fast to escape. He then summons another beast, an electric-type tiger, mounts it, and orders it to pursue them. The tiger bursts forward at terrifying speed, quickly catching up to the dragon. Sue's pet manages to dodge the attack but still takes a scratch, and Heng recognizes it as a special classification, dangerous species, a lightning-light tiger at the perfect stage. He realizes that at this rate, even if they are not captured, they will still be badly injured. At that moment, the protagonist comes up with an idea and asks the treasure hunting beast to guide them to the nearest bear leader's territory. The treasure hunter tilts its head, points the direction, and the dragon shoots off along that route. Su orders his pet not only to flee, but also to counterattack with Earth Spear sacrifice, and while retreating, the dragon activates the skill and raises a stone barrier. The tamer commands his pet to attack, his ring begins to glow, the wolf smashes through the stones, and the chase continues. The tamer sneers that he does not believe the boy can escape. Heng looks back and sees the pursuer refusing to give up, the tamer ordering them to be found. The tiger sniffs around and begins to feel fear, and the tamer asks what is happening. When inside a cave, a series of red eyes open in the darkness. The bear chief emerges from its den, and the tamer panics upon realizing it is a leader-rank monster, ordering his pet to run. On the other side of the forest, the protagonist looks back and thinks that the bear leader can summon the entire group to attack, and that without his teacher's token, even a powerful hunter like this will not be able to withstand all the bears of the grisly forest. He orders the dragon to run, saying they must return to base and call Senior Suayu, otherwise many of the forest's energy fruits will be stolen. The dragon activates level 2 devil attack speed until it suddenly stops, and Su shouts for it to dodge quickly. The dragon leaps and climbs onto a tree. The tamer remarks that it is a pity that he was lucky to dodge, and Heng asks whether he really managed to catch up. The tamer replies that his lightning light tiger has a target locking ability, so even at long range it can still track the enemy. The protagonist realizes it is a tracking skill. The tamer says that using the bear leader to draw danger and then fleeing to report is a clever strategy. But Su must understand that a tamer of his level is easy to use an idiot bear as a shield, and that in the end, he is nothing more than someone who can only control a low-level scaled lizard. He orders the tiger to finish everything. The tiger charges, but suddenly stops, confused and frightened. The dragon activates level 2 awakened power, and Su understands that the treasure-hunting beast, being of the mysterious type, has used its talent skill, illusion, making the pursuer see the dragon as an ordinary scaled lizard. Although the dragon's power cannot completely restrain the tiger, it is enough to buy a few seconds. Fortunately, he had prepared a smoke bomb using residue extracted from dense black grease, and now it finally proves useful. The explosion erupts, smoke spreads, and the dragon shoots away. Heng says this is their last chance. The tamer shouts that Su is still trying to escape, swearing that he will be finished today no matter what, and orders his tiger to use lightning dash to catch up and kill the trash first and the beast afterward. The tiger leaps, about to strike, but someone with a glowing ring activates a level 6 fire defense skill, Fire Guardian. It is the protagonist himself who raises a barrier and hurls the tiger away. Su wonders since when Fire Guardian could directly protect him and why no one told him earlier, complaining inwardly that he nearly died of fright. The tamer says that skill is normally mastered only by high-level dangerous species sealed in a special ring, and that such a ring is rare even among tamers. Not even he possesses one, so he demands to know who Su really is. Heng ignores the question, asks his pet what it is waiting for, and orders it to run. The tamer snarls that Su still wants to escape, that no matter who he is, he will not have a chance to report anything, and that he will have to show himself eventually. A white lion is summoned, and the protagonist asks how many tamed beasts he brought, saying this is unfair. The tamer replies that it does not matter who the master is, he will definitely kill him today. The dragon stops, and the tamer asks whether it will not run anymore. Su asks whether he recognizes that tamed beast. The tamer looks up in shock and realizes it is the green hummingbird, Lin's scout pet. Jen approaches with her pet leaping onto the ground and demands to know who dares harm her junior brother. The tamer asks whether she also dares to stop him. Lin replies that he will not only stop him but also kill him. And Jen says, "City of Sinful Fire, trash." Heng recalls that he has heard of them before. The full name of the City of Fire is the Sinful Fire Gathering Area, also a large-scale gathering place with deep and exceptional foundations, and it has always been hostile to Black Lantern Castle. Unlike the Grizzly Forest, their leader appears to have a deep connection with the wolf leader, which explains why their main force of tamed beasts is of the wolf type. The tamer says they are becoming more and more arrogant, but doubts they can do what they claim. All of the tamer's beasts charge forward as he declares that when Su is about to lose his life, he wants to see whether he will still be so arrogant. The beasts surge ahead. Lin smiles and says he will find out whether they are capable after he's eliminated. Jen summons her python, which releases its power and flings the wolf away, and the protagonist calls out to his senior brother. The wolf is struck in the face. Lin summons a flame and heat avatar that slams into the wolf and hurls it away, and the tamer looks on in shock. That is a flame and heat avatar with poison, martial, heat, magic, and charm attributes, a special classification dangerous species. Su realizes that his senior brother planned this from the start. When he summoned the python, he also summoned the flame and heat avatar, but concealed it with a magical stealth skill, preparing an ambush. This is the combat capability of a tamed beast with 5 attributes. The wolf begins releasing flames and terrifying power, and the tamer, still stunned by the flame and heat avatar, admits that it truly is a rare tamed beast. And no wonder Lin dares to be so arrogant. He hid it so well that not even the sinful Fire City's intelligence agency discovered that he had tamed such a rare creature. Lin asks if, now that he has found out, the man understands how he will be killed today. The tamer scoffs, saying that an avatar of fire and heat wants to kill him and must be daydreaming, claiming that the armored wolf is also among the few special-level danger species, and that a mere fire and heat avatar will not be able to defeat it. The wolf uses a straight-line shadow strike, opens its huge mouth to swallow the avatar, but the avatar dodges and releases flames at it, hitting cleanly and blasting the wolf away. The protagonist is shocked, wondering if his senior brother is really that strong, and the tamer says that power is terrifying. He asks if Lin thinks he can seriously injure his heavy armored wolf, ordering the wolf to reapply its armor. Zhen orders the avatar to make him feel even more pain and use Heat Fist, crystal form. The avatar's strength surges and the two charge together, their blows colliding in a massive explosion. Flames spread around the avatar with tremendous energy. The tamer admits it is incredible, saying that, as expected of a rare tamed beast like a fire and heat avatar, it can master both classification type and awakened type skills, and no wonder it managed to heavily injure his heavy armored wolf. The tamer then summons another beast, a red-scaled beast, and Lin asks if he thinks that trash can help him defeat him. The tamer replies that he does not need to defeat him, only stall him, because people will naturally arrive to kill Lin. He asks over the radio which of them is interested in killing Lin, and Zhen answers that if that is what he is thinking, Chief Shu has already been notified, and now it depends on who arrives first. The tamer asks if there might be another way, and Lin asks if he still dares try something. The tamer says he should be able to hold them for 4 seconds. The red beast charges, and Lin orders the avatar to use the superheated explosive strike. A violent impact erupts, immense power surging outward, and the tamer says that even a rat about to be finished dares come closer. The smoke begins to shift and the dragon appears within it. The tamer thinks that all their beasts are tied up and Sue can seize the moment now. But the protagonist uses the evil bomb and the piercing soil pearl. The dragon releases a fierce, heavy blow, closing in on the enemy and detonating an explosion. The smoke clears and the tamer summons a chimpanzee, starting to laugh, when at that moment a bald man approaches with his own beast. The tamer says Sue is unlucky because his people arrive first. He orders the scorpion to deal with Lin and retreat, warning them not to get blocked by Shu's bastard. The bald man advances with a manticore, an extremely dangerous species in the mature stage. The pressure in the air rises sharply and the dragon's tail is struck, sliced into strips, while the chimpanzee opens its massive mouth and lunges at them. The dragon takes an attack stance and Lin warns Sue to be careful. The chimpanzee slams the avatar from behind, eyes brimming with killing intent, lifts its giant foot and is about to crush it when it is struck by flames first. Ju arrives with Z and Yu, and he, furious, calls the enemies sun thieves, saying they are bullying them and asking if there is no one left in Black Lantern. The bald man asks if Yu should not be in Rivet Town and how he could arrive so fast, and Z replies that if Lao had not been there, they would not have gotten anything done with those tricks, and that everyone will have to stay there today. The tamer says that since their grandpas dared show up, they must be prepared, and orders them to bring out the final trump card, telling them not to hide anymore. The bald man explains that the creature was kept as a secret weapon against KE, but this time it will be used to bury those 4 bastards. He says 4 tamers will die at once, including 3 high-level ones. And even Joe, the Lord of Black Lantern Castle, might not be able to bear such pain. The chimpanzee opens its mouth, releasing a deafening sound, and Ju says it is a super dangerous species and that this is a huge problem. The chimpanzee charges, but is struck hard in the stomach and hurled away with a thunderous impact. Everyone is stunned, and Hay says that is Chief Shu's main force, and that beast is a terrifying dragon. Z comments that it truly is the most powerful, super dangerous species in a completed stage among them all, and the golden-backed steel-armed ape was finished in 2 blows. The terrifying dragon opens its enormous mouth and lets out a booming roar. Everyone stays on high alert, and the protagonist asks if this is the power of a super dangerous species, while the bald man tells his partner that Shu K is here and they need to run. A beam fires in front of them, trying to hit them. The tamer falls off the tiger and is struck by overwhelming force, while the bald man keeps running. Shu K approaches with his beast and says he did not expect those men to infiltrate the bear forest while he was away, thanking everyone for their hard work, until he notices something. The python has been killed, and Lin is beside it, watching with grief. KE asks who did that, and Sue answers that it was the out-of-control Earth Dragon of that sneaky bastard from Sin City. Shu orders everyone to be taken back to base to rest. Ju says she understands, and Ke leaves with the dragon, telling them to leave the rest to him. Later, elsewhere in the forest, 4 people talk, saying that the plan that seemed foolproof was ruined by a little bastard, and that Lei, Tu, and Ma did not escape and were probably all finished by Zhu. The masked one curses, saying those intelligence agents should be hanged because they did not even find out that Shui and that kid were in the grizzly forest, so they only try to avoid Lin and Ju. The partner beside him says it is too late to talk nonsense. The operation has been discovered by Ke and the mission is declared a failure, and the best thing is to send the news back to the gathering point so they can prepare in advance, because hiding is not the kind of gathering point that takes a loss and does not retaliate. 2 of them agree and ask about the other, and the bald man tells them not to worry about him, that he can decide for himself. They fall silent for a moment until they hear a commotion. They ask what happened, and Ke bursts out of the bushes with his beast. They stare in shock when they realize it is Ke, then turn and run. Back at the grizzly forest base, many beasts lie finished, and Shu says that most of the intruders were eliminated, and that 2 fish slipped through the net, but it is not worth chasing them. Ju comments that if they are transferred off the mountain, it will be dangerous. Ke says he took a quick look at each area, and the losses this time are not that great. There are hundreds of Xiangli fruit trees in the grizzly bear forest, but only 1 out of every few dozen was harvested, less than a tenth. On the other hand, the bears killed and wounded nearly 100 invading creatures, which is a major loss for the entire grizzly group. The owner of the grizzly bear forest, the bear leader, will certainly be furious when he finds out, but they will not be held responsible for the later consequences, because Black Lantern Castle will launch revenge against the city of sinful fire to give the grizzly forest's owner an explanation. As for the individual losses, Ke acknowledges that Lin's losses were not small. He promises to report the truth to the castle and try to compensate him with a super dangerous cub of excellent qualifications. Regarding Ju and She, the timely support from both will be considered a meritorious service and properly reported to the higher authorities. Yu thinks to himself that it was fortunate they did not investigate why the young master left his post without authorization and remained in Bear Forest. Shu then asks why he was not in Rivet Town and what he was doing there. She replies that he came to support Lin and Su. Ke tells him to stop pretending, stating that he has no patience to argue about that and that he will take him back to Rivet Town immediately and make him stay there. Shu leaves awkwardly without arguing. Shu comments that the plan of Sinfire City being thwarted this time was mainly due to Su and Heng, and that both deserve credit. He believes the castle lord will be very satisfied and will not hesitate to reward them. Since they are in Grizzly Forest, they cannot ignore the achievements obtained there. Shu suggests that the base warehouse has many valuable items, and that he can choose 1 or 2 as a reward. Su replies that if Lin had not arrived in time, even though the enemy's plan was ruined, he would probably have lost his life, and that it would be better to transfer this reward to his senior brother. Ke smiles and says that it is a good thing to see 2 juniors so harmonious. He assures them that both are indispensable and that Lin's rewards and compensations will be decided directly by the castle lord, so there is no need to refuse them. He then tells them to prepare, as he will take them to the warehouse. Su asks to wait until the next day, claiming that it is not very convenient at that moment. At night, elsewhere, Heng comments that after reflecting for a long time, he has finally reached a conclusion. If one is to choose a treasure, it would be a waste not to consult the ancient records. He says that the final destination of beast tamers is always the same: to turn their beasts into dragons, reaching the top of the food chain. However, the journey to become a dragon is extremely dangerous and requires countless precious materials to obtain a tiny chance of success. In this context, the cost-benefit ratio of the treasure-hunting beast becomes even more evident, because a treasure-hunting dragon beast would have a much higher probability of obtaining evolutionary materials. Just as there are various ways for a scaled lizard to transform into a dragon, there is also more than one path for the treasure-hunting beast to evolve. However, while lizards have dozens of evolutionary routes, treasure-hunting beasts have only 9. 8 of them depend on the bloodlines of other dragons. To preserve the ability to obtain treasures, there is only one option: evolve into a treasure-hunting dragon beast, still under the dominion of the mysterious system. Su opens the ancient book and decides to wait until dawn to go to the warehouse in search of treasures. The next day, at the Grizzly Forest base, he asks if he can already go to the warehouse. Ju replies that the chief asked him to inform them that a border observation station happened to discover traces of a Sinfire City supply convoy the previous night. Without wasting time, the chief departed immediately to destroy it. Ju comments in an ironic tone that if only it had been finished yesterday, and that now the reward will have to wait for his return. At that moment, Heng has a sudden idea and tells his pet that he has just thought of something important. The dragon is confused, but the 2 leave quickly. Hei observes the scene and complains, asking why he spends the whole day grumbling, In the forest, Su walks with his pet by his side, reflecting that hay washed chi, which made him remember that the bears of Grizzly Forest probably never received proper care. After the recent invasion, many of them were also injured. He recalls that the ancient dragon code contains an appropriate recipe for bears and that, using the treasure hunting beast, he can find docile individuals. Su concludes that no one said the only way to obtain Xiongli is by fighting. He calls his pet to make use of the remaining time in Brown Bear Forest and move on. The dragon, still confused, simply follows him. Under his leadership, relying on the treasure hunting beast, the dragon lizard, and the special formula of the ancient dragon code, one person and two beasts go through another abundant harvest. They heal a brown bear again and even give it a bath, obtaining a good reward. 3 complete Xiongli fruits and some rare bird eggs, all handed over to the dragon serpent lizard. At night, something unexpected happens. The bear assumes an attack stance and activates a level 4 illumination skill. Heng watches carefully and says that, since the food was delicious, the bear wants to repay them with a battle. The dragon also takes a combat stance. The bear charges, but the dragon attacks first. Su comments that it is a pity since his pet's broken tail has not yet recovered. The bear hits it head-on, knocking it down and pinning it. Su tells his pet to admit defeat, reminding it that the injury has not healed yet, but the dragon insists on fighting. The bear glares at the dragon with red eyes and raises its paw to attack. The dragon grabs both paws, unleashes its power, and activates Dragon Song combined with the Warhammer, releasing an absurd force. Heng gets excited at the sight while the bear flees in terror. Su is surprised to realize that this is a level 4 illuminated skill. He approaches his pet, strokes it, and says he did not expect it to be so talented in Long Way, reaching the 4th level of illumination. Fragments of the dragon's skin begin to fall off, which makes Heng worried. Suddenly, an overwhelming energy is released. The dragon's tail regenerates and becomes even more powerful. Su is astonished and recognizes this as late growth, finally manifested. Elsewhere, Kei asks whether the dragon serpent really grew and whether what he heard is true. The answer is affirmative, and Lin is testing the creature. Shu asks if this is happening on the training field. At the base entrance, Jen calls his junior brother and asks whether the chief has already returned. Kei replies that the supply convoy has been dealt with a small delay, and comments that he heard Su's dragon lizard has reached the final growth stage. Lin confirms that it fully meets the standards of that stage. Shu remarks that the progress is truly incredible. The castle lord only expected him to break his limits, and entering the final stage would already have been a bonus. He did not expect him to completely exceed expectations, demonstrating the true spirit of the Black Lantern. He orders that, the next morning, arrangements be made to go to Ermet City, and that someone take the young man back to the castle as the special training has been completed. Before that, however, he will take him to the storage to choose rewards. Su says he has just returned and that the journey was exhausting, suggesting choosing the next day. Kei responds that he already broke his promise before, and that since he had promised 2 items, he will compensate him by allowing him to choose 1 more. In the warehouse of the Brown Bear Forest base, Su asks if he can really choose freely. Shu says he will wait outside. Heng runs excitedly at the sight of the quantity of treasures, commenting on the vastness of the Brown Bear Forest, which includes forests, lakes, rivers, valleys, and hills, each region producing different materials. Su remembers that he can only choose 3 items and asks the treasure hunting beast to look for something specific mentioned the previous night. If they find it, he will help it evolve into a treasure hunting dragon beast. The creature runs off among the treasures. Su comments that in the end, everything depends on luck, until Heng notices something strange when he sees it stopped on the chest of a statue, refusing to move away. In the city, people carry boxes back and forth. One of the men holds a piece of paper and warns them to be careful with the pilot master's baby. Lin comments that Chief Shu recently eliminated several gathering points of Sinfire City, and that, judging by their style, revenge is inevitable, so it is best to double their vigilance on the road. Shua asks what he's talking about and who exactly is being looked down on, stating that now that Su has arrived in Rivet City, he has entered their territory and they can guarantee that he will return safely. Jen replies that then everything is settled, as Chief Kei still has matters to handle and welcomes the junior brother to return to the forest whenever he wishes. Heng says he will certainly return and thanks them for the care during this period. Yu comments, somewhat irritated, that they have already been sentimental enough and that they will check the firepower unit again as they are about to depart. The target is the Black Lantern's meeting point, and everyone responds that they understand. In Rivet City, a hooded woman states that the information has been confirmed. According to a local informant, that day, a group of guards would escort an important person to the Black Lantern stronghold. From the descriptions, it is the little problem protected by the Ring of the Fire Guardian, someone capable of interfering with the operation. The bald man says he also received news that Lin has already left Armet City and that now all that remains is to wait for the escort combat of the Little Mouse. They decide to ambush the group in that valley. Hidden among bushes, they observe vehicles passing by. The bald man snarls that the cursed rat has developed a special taste for escaping death, and that the hunting team exists solely to make him taste the fear of being finished off. He guarantees that this time, he will make the man watch his own brother die. Suddenly, an explosion echoes. The bald man asks what happened, and Lin appears from behind with his avatar, telling him to stop hiding. He says that the two companions have already been massacred by Shu, and that, as for him, he will handle the job personally. The bald man panics and says that it is impossible. Jen tells him to look more carefully and asks whether Su's team deliberately stopped at the entrance of the valley without entering it. The bald man grits his teeth, calling it despicable, saying that they use the information as bait just to lure him out. On the other side, the masked man lying on the ground spits blood and sneers, saying that when it comes to despicable methods, no one surpasses Sinfire City itself. Ke replies coldly that he is there only to protect the Black Lantern Knights, otherwise there would be no reason for them to cross blades. The avatar releases its power and Ju steps forward, increasing the pressure on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the vehicles continue moving. Su observes from a distance and calculates that, judging by the level of destruction, it must be a high-tier dangerous species. He remembers that his senior brother asked them to depart with a half-hour delay precisely because of this. Realizing that the situation has been resolved, Su calls the chief, thanks him for the support, and says that in the future when Ke returns to the castle, Quan will personally offer thanks. Ke simply tells him to hurry up and not keep the castle lord waiting. 2 days later, at the Black Lantern gathering point, the fortress master remarks that he heard Heng worked hard and asks whether there was significant progress. Heng replies that he did not disappoint his teacher. He then summons his dragon. Zool stands up, walks over to the creature, and begins examining it closely, even opening its mouth to inspect it. Su grows tense, thinking it would be best if the dragon did not move, because if the master became irritated, he could easily tear it apart. He comments that Sinfire City has been severely struck in recent days by the vassals sent by the master, including the armored wolf breeding sites, which were also destroyed by the senior brother. Heng asks whether they will not attempt revenge again against Grizzly Forest and Lin, Ju, and the others. The fortress master tells him not to worry. The lord of the forest has secretly returned, and unless the ruler of Sinfire comes personally, no one would dare cause trouble. Moreover, Heng not only completed the special training, but also contributed greatly to the illegal hunting case in Sinhuo. Su asks whether the master still has the high-level dragon scales he gave him before, and whether he could eat another slice. Zool laughs and asks whether just one piece is enough, saying that he performed excellently and asking whether he does not want to formally enroll as a disciple, or if he desires anything else. Su asks to request a reward on behalf of his senior brother, stating that, in Grizzly Forest, if Lin had not sacrificed the main combat force to restrain the beast and save him, he might not have returned alive. He comments that Lin is indeed a good seedling with spiritual cultivation at its peak, and that after the new year, someone will send a Qingyan Liaohu cub as compensation, so that the rescue will not have been in vain. Heng thinks that Lin truly received a blessing in disguise. Zool adds that he also arranged a villa for Su, suggesting that he use his free time to visit his sister and organize the move, since the grand competition of the Six Lands is about to begin. Su thanks him and says that he lived up to expectations. As he leaves, he calls him and says that as a teacher, he must teach him something. Excessive humility is not a virtue in the world of masters. Strength must be respected, and when it is necessary to fight, one must fight. On the way home, Zool's words echo in Su's mind. After everything he experienced in Sinfire City, he understands that he can choose to be a moral person, but only if he has enough strength to force others to listen to his morality. When he arrives home, he hears a female voice commenting on an old scandal of his. Confused, he wonders which old woman is spreading that. When he opens the door and announces that he is back, Ching runs to hug him, saying that she heard from the guards that he was attacked on the way. Su replies that everything is fine and that it is already over. Only then does he notice two young women in the living room. Ching explains that they are colleagues from the administrative department and the materials department, Meng Wan and Jin Mei Li. Su tries to say something, but Ching interrupts him, launching into a speech about marriage, children, and stability, saying that she chose girls with good hips, and that they even helped prepare the table. Su says that he is tired and wants to sleep a bit before eating. Dinner proceeds in an awkward atmosphere until he takes out the treasure hunting beast, immediately drawing the attention of the three women. Later, as they leave, Ching says that he should accompany them home. Jin replies that it is not necessary since they live nearby and only need to cross the street. Manga agrees, saying that she expected something more lively, but found someone very reserved. At that moment, Su feels something strange and tells everyone to be careful. A giant rat appears ahead. Mei Li panics and asks how a rat that big could appear there. Su explains that it is a giant rat, a low-level dangerous species in the adult stage, possibly mutated after eating the remains of beast tamers animals. He warns that giant rats live in packs and tells them to move back. Red eyes begin to appear, but Su summons the dragon. The rats panic and flee. The dragon charges and eliminates them with ease. Guards rush over, praising the feat. Su instructs them to request a blood-tailed cat from their security department, because if such rats invade the area, something serious could happen. He orders the bodies to be sent to the internal office and informs them that Villa number 73 is now his. Later, Heng discovers that this villa was He's former residence, and that since then, the troublesome Lu Ling, the neighbor across the way, has begun behaving himself, especially after seeing Su's sister. One of the men tells them to be careful not to dirty Master Su's garden. Su Reng, however, already had other plans to make use of the corpses of those dreadful rats, because raising and maintaining beasts as mounts, especially the snake dragon lizard, the great devourer, along with the consumables for dragon transformation and skill development, is extremely costly. The thick black grease previously used to make money is, after all, a material for crafting strange items and also a strategic resource, and if it circulates too easily among many traders, it becomes unsuitable. The mutant ferocious rat that appeared this time, however, makes Su Reng consider another possibility, related to the ancient dragon code, the fragrance of plasma, also called the bloodline fragrance, whose name already indicates its function. The principle of this perfume is to simulate an illusion, almost connected through plasma between the tamer and the pet, allowing both to immerse in it for a short period to accelerate mental synchronization, bond formation, and even training for those who have not yet become riders. It can also accelerate spiritual connection with young pets in Yuchongdan. Thinking about this, Su Reng believes that the bloodline fragrance could become a mass-produced commodity, so he adds venom from the dream-devouring worm's poison sac to the fluff on the underside of the moon orchid leaf, bonds it with a binding agent, and performs distillation and purification. As he mixes, he wonders if that is really the scent of plasma, and comments that if it truly works, it would be a good way to make money since the cost is low, although he is unsure whether the effect will meet expectations. The little one asks what happened and what that smell is. Under the effect of the plasma aroma, Su Reng and the treasure-hunting beast enter a hallucination at the same time. Reng seems to have become the old father of the adult treasure hunter, and after the little one was born, he would take it out every day to hunt for treasure until they found a massive mountain of riches. The treasure-hunting beast enters a dazed, egg-eyed state, its body paralyzed with excitement, in front of the Lord's treasure. The Lord says that if he does not come to see him again, he will personally go to him. Su Reng apologizes, saying he has been busy moving and forgot. The Lord replies that he knows and that he should follow him. The Lord walks, and a snake coils around his arm. Su Reng thinks it is a parasitic guard beast, the most dangerous crocodile squid slave, with mysterious dual attack and defense lines, impenetrable innate abilities, and capable of strengthening the entire treasury. To open the door, one needs the castle owner's verbal promise. Otherwise, the person will be swallowed in a single bite. Compared to that, Chief Shu's treasury is not on the same level. The door opens and the Lord explains that the second-floor treasury is the fundamental reserve of the Black Light's gathering and that this is the first time he has promised a beginner rider 3 items. Not wanting to disappoint the castle owner, Reng thanks him and accepts, saying it is good to have someone helping. Unlike Chief Shu's messy treasury, the second floor of the Black Lights resembles a massive library, with treasures neatly arranged and items covered by acrylic-like cases emitting a faint glow. Su Reng thinks about not disappointing the castle owner and making the most of the opportunity. Above, there is a dangerous investigative species, the Evil Eye Monitor, whose racial ability of light and shadow regression allows it to see reflected images with clarity superior to an X-ray, and he knows there are many other security measures there. He tells the treasure-hunting beast that this time, it can hunt through Yu Yinwu and lead him to the dragon scale and the 2 materials for transformation in the fire guard space. With the help of the treasure-hunting beast, Su Reng finds high-level dragon scales and 100 grams of spiritual essence, but the floating secret stone does not appear. The beast becomes excited, and Reng states that it is definitely not a floating secret stone. The Lord explains that it is a high-level dragon scale mixed with essence, and asks how he managed to knock down the ceiling. Su Reng replies that he simply does not have such a piece at home. The Lord warns him not to be careless, as the bricks are mixed with floating secret stones, a treasure exclusive to the 3rd floor, and says his eyes are poisonous. Su Reng thinks that poisonous or not, he is a treasure hunter capable of finding even treasures hidden in the ceiling. Later, Reng sits with a book in hand and says that all the materials needed for the dragon transformation ceremony are now ready. He keeps flipping through the book while the treasure beast watches in confusion. Su Reng comments that he had imagined something like a dragon lizard and wonders if it really turned out to be something so simple and crude. He then picks up the treasure beast, places it in a spot full of riches, making its eyes shine, and announces that the dragon transformation ceremony will begin. Jo Hei, the lord of the Black Lantern Castle, previously had 8 disciples, and Su Reng is the most recent. The 8 older brothers and sisters hold central positions in the castle and are powerful trainers. This improvised meeting, initially between Bai Susu and the eldest sister Kuna, to discuss with Lu Ling, the candidate for the hunting guard, ends up being used by the 3rd senior brother to introduce Su Reng to the 2 senior sisters, so he rushes to the door. Everyone sits around the table. Kyu comments that she heard the teacher intends to form the 8th hunting guard and asks whether all team members and followers have gathered. Susu replies that those summoned have already assembled and asks if they are still choosing the final member. The protagonist listens silently and thinks of Karara Mamoru, while Ku says she does not know. The hunting guards are a special group composed of trainers from the Black Lantern gathering area, although other gathering areas also form similar structures. They are responsible for hunting the offspring of dangerous creatures in the wild, with the main objective of collecting materials and treasures. Each Black Lantern hunting guard consists of 4 drivers and 12 followers, and currently there are 7 active guards in the entire area. The beast eggs used by the Black Lantern to select tamers are all brought back by hunter Huang Wei, which makes this organization extremely important. Susu then says she can recommend a promising newcomer, a girl named Reina, a trainer for only 2 years, owner of a complete iron demon tree, and a complete sleeping butterfly, both with strong instant combat power among mid-level dangerous species, as well as a young, high-level dangerous plasma lion. The protagonist comments that she has good strength and potential, quickly thinking about Reina, the demon tree, and the sleeping butterfly, remembering that she was not his partner in the Six Lands duel and noting that the plasma lion shows how everyone is striving. Kyu, however, says that unfortunately she still cannot keep up with her current team and that it would be problematic to divert attention to protect newcomers at this moment. Someone stands up. It is Lu, who asks what she thinks of the senior brother and says he will introduce a super rookie with great potential capable of meeting the guard's needs. Ling points directly at Su. Ku says she has just connected with the younger brother and that they can rely on him, as when the time comes he will be able to obtain good things. The protagonist asks what connections those are. Susu scolds the 3rd senior brother for causing confusion and says that the younger brother has only been a driver for 2 or 3 months, asking if he wants to throw him into the fire by sending him to a hunting guard. Q asks if the super rookie is the younger brother. Lu replies that yes, the recommendation is precisely the junior super rookie, and asks them not to underestimate him just because he has only been a driver for 3 months and has only 1 beast, because it is one of the most dangerous species. He recalls that the brother's snake dragon, more than a month ago, while reinforcing the northern defense line, was already in full growth, and that according to its talent after Grizzly and the Feast, that growth should not yet have ended, characterizing late-stage development. Q questions whether a highly dangerous species can be called a super rookie, and Susu asks whether the snake dragon lizard is truly entering its late growth stage. The ring on the protagonist's hand begins to glow, and everyone realizes he has just summoned his beast. The dragon lizard appears, and Su thinks about the furniture around, reflecting that with that size and aura, if it had not escaped the final stages of growth, how could it have reached that stage just the day before? Susu says that what he lacks most now is real combat, and states that he can go with her, as her Karaway will carry him, allowing him to train as much as he wants. Q comments that the 7th senior sister already has her Karahara guards complete and that one person is still missing. Susu says she's not joking and declares that the younger brother will be her man from now on, while the protagonist thinks he still cannot decide. Ling asks if there are so many guests today, and then Tim appears, son of Papa Jolly and owner of the pharmacy where Su had tested the bloodline incense. To deal with the 6 places confrontation, Su plans to replace all previous plasma incense with Ganke, rapidly strengthening the snake dragon lizard. The bloodline incense is a new drug, unprecedented in the Black Lantern, costing 100,000 per bottle. Since the market has not yet opened, Su has only been able to send free samples to pharmacies with initially modest effects. Even so, Tim shows up wanting to buy a large quantity. The seller asks for 10 more bottles. Su says he only brought 1 sample that was already sold 10 days ago and that he does not accept credit. Tim clarifies that he will pay up front, shows cards prepared by his father, and Su cannot understand how everything changed so quickly. Later, the seller says they can make money and obtain products, asks them to contact him if there is news. Reng leaves exhausted. The seller explains to his son that if they do not sell, the losses will be enormous, says that it will become scarce once it spreads, and reminds him that the young man is the genius disciple of the castle's great master, a talented writer capable of producing this kind of magical perfume. Taking the opportunity to gain wealth and make connections, he does not know exactly where to start and asks why one should do business, just by looking at someone's eyes. Tim says he will return soon, that they can talk when there is time, and asks him to stop hitting him. In another place with 6 people gathered, Lu says that this duel of the 6 places is directly related to the honor of the Blacklights gathering and other areas, and that for him personally it is also a great opportunity, because if he achieves a good ranking, he will have a much broader path as a trainer. He reminds them that they are all a team, that they must remain united and cooperate with each other, and asks if everyone understands, receiving affirmative responses. Yu says that is great, asks everyone to get into the vehicles and prepare to depart, explaining that Wang Xun himself and Luo Chong will take the 3rd armored car, while Reina and Lin Yuxin will be in the 2nd, and Su will go with her in the 1st armored vehicle. Everyone heads to their respective cars. Wang asks why they did not sit with Lord Lu for special training, saying it always seems to be Su who gets such opportunities. Luo replies that the boy has only been a trainer for a few days and may be trained separately out of caution, telling Wang not to be irritated because there will be many chances to deal with it along the way. Compared to the Grizzly Forest, the dual location is farther from the Blacklights gathering area, but since the road is unobstructed, the actual travel time is shorter, taking about 2 days. This time, in addition to the Black Lantern Fortress, the meeting place includes Red Scorpion City, Iron Anvil City, Eagle Fort, Luanxia City, and Luyun City. Although the Black Lantern Castle is powerful, the other 5 lands also have their own advantages, and it is still impossible to predict who will emerge victorious. Near the mountains, with tents set up and a bonfire lit in the center, Lu explains that the 3rd group will be responsible for the first half of the night watch and then check the nearby fortifications, while the 1st and 2nd groups handle food. The protagonist thinks that the general's special training will still take some time, so they can warm up on their own first until he notices something strange and spots the treasure hunter. Finding it impressive, the treasure hunting beast is summoned. Reng holds it and says it is a dragon scale, the plasma dragon bloodline granted by a high-level dragon scale. The protagonist observes his beast and asks whether after devouring the floating stone, it also gained the ability to fly, commenting that he was very lucky. Lu claps and says they should first feed the pets and keep the beast under control after the competition. Yu asks about Su, and Luo replies that he does not know where he obtained a mixed plasma scale beast, saying he seems to be exchanging emotions with it, as different people match with different beasts. The treasure beast immediately looks at him angrily. Scaled beasts are the general designation for dangerous creatures with scales and armor, such as red-scaled, common-scaled, and fire-scaled types, while a mixed plasma-scale beast is the offspring of a scaled beast with another dangerous creature. The protagonist thinks that a dog cannot spit ivory and notices that more than one person there is dissatisfied. Wang asks if that is not a mixture of humans and animals, comments that the 6 places confrontation is about to begin and they still do not even know how to feed the beast properly, questioning what kind of strength he can have among so many tamers, and suggests feeding the beast quickly to calm them down. They summon their beasts: the Highland Earth, the Steel-Helmed Mountain Lion, the Iron Demon Tree, the Sleeping Butterfly, the Plasma Lion, the Flower Phantom Tiger, and the Electric-Tailed Swallow. Qing reminds them that during special training, it was already said that they all represent the Blacklights gathering, that they are a small team and must remain united, asking whether it is appropriate to gossip like that. Luo replies that a small team should listen to the strongest, and that if someone becomes a burden, it could drag the entire team down, saying that in that case there will be no need to rely on Brother Wang. At that moment, Luo's beast begins to tremble upon sensing the terrifying aura of Su's beast. The two stare at each other and charge, and the dragon lizard pushes the other beast away. Luo asks what he means by that, and Reng looks around, asking if he is talking to him. Luo asks if he wants to cause trouble, and the plasma wolf is summoned. The protagonist says no, that it was just a misunderstanding, that he gave no order to fight, and comments that his beast seems to be in a bad mood, perhaps because someone spoke ill of it. The dragon also strikes another beast further back, and Su says that even he cannot fully control it, remarking how difficult it is to be human in that situation. Wang also becomes irritated. Luo asks what he is doing and reminds that they are a small team and must unite. Reng replies that it is normal for there to be mixtures of humans and animals, that it is not polite to say such things, and that a small team should indeed listen to the strongest, because if someone drags the team down, everyone will suffer, asking if that is not how it is. Wang hesitates before speaking, and the protagonist says that at that moment he will still have to rely on Brother Wang and asks about training. Wang replies that he was referring to the scaled beast, not the lizard, and asks if he made a mistake. Su asks if he's afraid, and Wang retorts that they are not a team. Reng replies that he truly does not dare fight alongside Luo Chong, since he ended up letting the snake dragon lizard face 4 at once. Lu observes silently, thinking that Su seemed calm at the training ground and did not expect to see such a rigid side, finding it interesting. Later, still there, the protagonist says he is not intimidating anyone and that they can go together. Wong comments that he considers himself a veteran and is trying to improve. Su replies that these are simple and effective tactics, but in the face of absolute strength, they seem naive, and that if they continue like this, the snake dragon lizard will not need to use much strength to break them if they are not careful. The wolf opens its mouth and begins to emit a sound, only to be struck and thrown away by the dragon lizard. Everyone watches closely. The beetle also takes an attack stance. The lion roars and charges, and the dragon lizard exchanges blows with both, sending them flying in sequence. Ching wonders when he became so strong. Later, everyone sits around the campfire. Luo asks if he wants to eat and says the meat is very good. The protagonist asks if it is salty and comments that the blue bait last time was excessively salty. Luo replies that it is not, admits that last time he did not think properly and should have tasted it first, and says that if he still finds it salty, he can wash it with pure water to fix it. Reina comments that this is a talent and asks why she did not realize it earlier. Ching asks what his partner thinks, and Wang replies that he does not know. Su thinks that placing absolute strength first is a common concept among people who live in the wild, and that individuals like Chong are rare. In any case, he is a teammate, so he decides to pretend he did not see anything. The next day, the duel location is Hongfeng Valley, named after the red maples that grow there. The main competition building is made of Lei Ying stone, resistant and self-regenerating, built through the joint effort of the 6 gathering places. Despite the high cost, it requires no maintenance, and outside the duel period, almost no one stays there. The referees come from the Black Lantern Fortress, Red Scorpion City, Iron Anvil City, Eagle Fort, Luensha City, and Liuyun City, all at professional level or higher, serving the competition and representing the authority of their respective locations. The vehicles stop, everyone gets out, and the protagonist notices people ahead. Lu comments that Red Scorpion City has a good relationship with them. A woman approaches saying she did not expect her to lead the team this year. Yu greets Ji Fei, saying it has been a while and she did not expect her to arrive first. Ji replies that she had to come early, otherwise the Black Lantern mead would be stolen, and says that if someone were to disappear, it could not be among them. Suddenly, a light appears and Fei looks to the side, irritated. A car approaches. Ji walks up and kicks it. Someone gets out asking who offended her and why she kicked the vehicle. Fei asks who told him to honk and says it was bothering her. The partner beside him takes the blame and says he will drink as punishment. Ji comments that drinking is not a problem, as hiding will not give even a sip of mead. The young man tries to speak until his partner notices someone nearby, and the protagonist also notices, wondering if that is the seed player from Iron Anvil City. No one sleeps well at night as convoys arrive one after another, but everyone manages to gather. The next day, after the explanation of the traditional rules and the referee's oath, the duel of the 6 places officially begins. The point system is relatively fair. 30 people fight 5 times by draw. A victory adds 1 point, and a defeat subtracts 1 point. At the end, the 8 with the highest scores advance to the quarterfinals. In the arena at the registration counter, Ji reminds that each person can only register 2 beasts. Su thinks the snake dragon lizard is easy to register but decides not to expose the treasure-hunting dragon beast to avoid greed. Reng begins filling out the form, and a young man comments that surprisingly, in a place as large as the Black Lantern Gathering, there is so much trash, mocking the fact that he brought a mixed plasma-scale beast, saying he has already earned points with that. On the Hongfeng Valley field, the announcer declares that in the first round of individual qualifiers, each player can switch beasts at most once, and once a beast loses combat capability, it is defeated. On one side, Black Lantern Castle, Su, on the other, Liuyun City, Yunhe. The fight begins. The opponent, beside his mid-level Clouded Leopard, asks him to show his arsenal. The protagonist remarks who there would be the cannon fodder, saying that just a mid-level dangerous species might not even be enough for Luo Chong to defeat. The opponent tells him not to worry, states that even if he only has blood-scale beasts, he will not be intimidated, proposes a fair fight, and says that a tamer's training begins with the mind, and that even if one is weaker, one must dare to fight. People in the audience comment on what kind of big-tailed wolf is pretending to be a mid-level dangerous species. The dragon lizard is summoned, looks to the side, and lies down calmly. The opponent questions the scaled lizard and says that without fighting spirit, it cannot be high-level, ordering the leopard to attack. The leopard charges, and the dragon calmly knocks it away with a single strike, sending it flying. The opponent questions what suspicious method was used, and others also raise doubts about how the Black Lantern Fortress won. Yunhe requests to use the second beast control. A red-haired man shouts for a report alleging cheating, while a blonde comments that he does not even know that it is the most dangerous snake dragon lizard, asking whether the beast is not a mixed plasma-scaled one. The opponent summons another beast, which is also knocked down with a single strike. The audience protests, saying it is unfair and that the fortress sent a competitor with a super dangerous species. Luo replies that his brother's snake dragon lizard has not yet reached maturity, that even though it is only 1 day away, it does not exceed the competition limit, asking whether anyone there has the ability to subdue a super dangerous species, and concludes that it is envy, saying that he and his brother grew up among beast eggs since childhood. On the day he became a trainer, the Sorcerer Knights gang lined up to beg, and he tells them to take a good look at themselves. Wang looks at his partner and comments that that boy must have been misled by Su, saying he definitely was not like that in his time, and asks how she can approach a man like that without even knowing him well. The first round of the 6 places duel is basically a collision of cannon fodder from all social strata, and a true master can control the enemy with a single move, like Su, although naturally there are also those who pretend to be weak to surprise later. In addition to Su's overwhelming victory for Black Lantern Castle and his group, it is worth mentioning that Wang unleashed his power this time, and his opponents, with comparable strength, engaged in a fierce battle, both sides fighting on stage for nearly 20 minutes before the end. Reina also scores a point, and the scores of Wang Shun, Luo Chong, Lin Yuxin, and Lei Na stand at 1 point each. By the 4th round, Su Huan faces Wang Yi from Iron Anvil City, one of the 8 favorites who controls 2 mature high-risk species. Wang Yi, like Su, holds 3 victories, and based on previous years, usually 1 win in 5 matches already guarantees a safe spot in the quarterfinals, making this confrontation crucial for both. The protagonist considers the temperament and natural controllability of steel-type beasts, and at a critical moment, the black steel-clawed tiger uses its tempering skill to increase defense and stop bleeding. Relying only on the steel system to trade blows with the dragon lizard does not seem worthy of him. He commands Basilisk Dragon, self-propelled Earth Force Cannon. The dragon enters an attack stance and releases its power. Su realizes that by taking advantage of the increased recovery of the Earth system, he strengthens the malignant thought bullet and fires it at high speed, not lethal, but difficult to deal with, becoming the new offensive of the snake dragon lizard after reaching the advanced growth stage. The dragon lizard opens its mouth and fires, causing a massive explosion. The smoke clears, and the leopard is left stunned. On the dueling field of Red Maple Valley, people comment that the referee acted just in time, because that evil ray is truly powerful. The announcer declares that in the first match, Huan wins for Black Lantern Castle. Huan thinks that after this fight, the dragon lizard must have consumed a great deal of energy, and that the second tamed beast, a mixed plasma-scale beast, should not have that much combat power after all, since it would be impossible to cultivate several super dangerous species to the advanced stage in such a short time, and he wonders whether Su can also take care of other pets. Huan then summons the 2-tailed Steelbeard, equally dangerous. The protagonist decides to use the evil Thought Bomb first to test the situation and slowly recover his strength. The dragon releases its power, causing a heavy impact. Huan smiles and says that the steel-type beast is his real main force, and that he will not lose again, activating the enraged Twin Maiden Saw. The beast emits a dark aura, and the crowd comments that it is a level 4 enlightenment skill, something no longer within the realm of novices, saying that Su's second beast control is only supplementary. Luo retorts that this is nonsense, and that his boss still has an even greater move prepared. Huan keeps issuing orders, and the 2 beasts exchange violent blows until the steel beast presses the dragon's head against the ground. The protagonist notices that the evil thought bullets strike the tough hide with heavy sounds, and that only the rays can break through the defense. Huan tells him to admit defeat, saying there is no need to waste strength, and that with this capability, Su could easily compete for the top 3 places, but continuing would only benefit the others. Su replies that for him it makes no difference if he gives up now, and Huan says that then he can only wait to lose. The pressure increases, the dragon lizard drags its claws across the ground, and Huan insists that attacks of that level cannot break the defense. Su asks how much longer is left. Another attack explodes until the dragon lizard releases an astonishing power, completely altering the terrain. The 2 beasts face each other. Huan realizes it is not good to continue with this level of consumption, because the dragon lizard can absorb the power of the earth to recover, and he tries to change the pace, ordering a barrage of steel shots. The monster opens its mouth and releases its terrifying power. The dragon reacts, and Huan takes advantage of the opportunity, ordering the steel crack sniper. The dragon moves away, but the particles keep advancing. A rope coils around its body, and Huan's beast becomes excited. Yet the dragon breaks free by force and summons a hammer wrapped in an oppressive aura. Huan says he does not want to continue. The ice shatters beneath the hammer, and the commentator announces that in the second match, Black Lantern Castle with Su wins. With Reng's victory, the list of the 5 consecutive winners is announced, and they advance directly to the quarterfinals: Black Lantern Fortress, Liaoning Fortress, Luoyun City, Red Scorpion City, and Luansha City, one representative from each location. They are all seeded players, but Wang Yi of Iron Anvil City ends up eliminated by the roar of Su's dragon. There are still 6 players left with 4 wins and 1 loss, and it's a pity that the other members of Black Lantern Fortress are not among them. They will accompany him to the very end. After the elimination stage, 3 of those 6 advance to the quarterfinals, and first place naturally goes to Wang Yi of Iron Anvil City, whose strength is impressive. By now, the top 8 have already been decided and await the decisive battle on the following day. The quarterfinal format is simple and direct, elimination style, with the qualifiers competing one by one, the winners advancing and the losers being eliminated. Su once again demonstrates Yu Huang's luck and is drawn in the very first fight. By coincidence, his opponent is Li, the weakest pilot among the 8 from Lianying Fortress. Huan immediately admits defeat, and the protagonist comments that Li's master recovered well, and that he will eagerly await the next match. The people in the audience comment that in less than 20 seconds both tamers gave up, and that the gap in level was clearly enormous. Luo mocks them, saying that even chickens from Eagle Fort dare to bully someone like that, commenting that his brother is dominant, and that such acts of crushing the opponent cannot be seen often, so they should observe carefully and learn, because this is the true strength of Black Lantern Castle. A bald man corrects him, saying it is Black Lantern Fortress, and keeps staring at Su. The presenter announces the second battle of the day between Liu Lan of Liuyun City and Chen Dingxuan of Luansha City. Liu Lan enters with his red pole wolf and an advanced dangerous hawk, while Chen has the sandline mantis, a mid-level dangerous species, in addition to a super dangerous fire beast. The fight between the two is intense. The beautiful blue feathers of the Liu Feng hawk are cut by the fierce Sha Xian, but Liu Lan manages to win thanks to the powerful level 3 civilized wind skill. In the second round, the Liu Feng Kang hawk is defeated quickly, before consuming too much of the fire beast's energy, and Liu Lan sends out the stronger Red Wolf to control the situation on the stage. Although the Red Wolf was not a direct match for Chen's fire beast, he did not want to be disrespected in that competition. Chen's elimination officially marks Luansha City's withdrawal from the race for a place in the Plasma Forest ruins. In the third battle of the day, Ji Meiyu of Red Scorpion City faces Lian Yingbao. Meiyu brings the advanced dangerous Black Needle Plasma Scorpion, while Lian relies on the Flame Monkey, also advanced and dangerous, as well as advanced explosive beasts. During the fight, the Plasma Scorpion uses its sturdy armor and, relying on its high defense and thick plasma, swings its tail and teaches the Fire Monkey a harsh lesson with scorpion venom, nearly grabbing the monkey's tail directly to throw it out of the arena. Just when everyone thinks the result is already decided, a mortally venomous needle reverses the situation. In the next round, Kwang Zureng sacrifices an explosive beast and attempts a long-range offensive, but ends up being confronted by the Great Scorpion King and is violently thrown against the iron plate. It becomes clear that this time, Kwang Zureng lost to bad luck, and Ji Meiyu successfully advances to the semifinals. The two remain in the arena. Huang thinks that he first encountered a pervert with a high-level dangerous species, then managed to come back through a rematch. But that fate is unfair because now he has run into Huo Hong, someone almost as monstrous as Huan. The representatives of Iron Anvil City have no intention of giving up easily, but in the face of this, they can only admit defeat. The bald man addresses Su of Black Lantern Castle, saying that now both of them are victorious and asking if he dares accept the challenge. The protagonist wonders why he's looking at him since he had only intended to wait for the draw. Luo asks why he does not accept, reminding him that his own brother already accepted, and that he cannot simply eliminate him. Su comments that all the people responsible for this are the people he offended, and Luo asks him to listen to the explanation. Reng lightly smacks him and tells him to explain what kind of idiot he is. The bald man provokes Su again, saying that he just defeated a pilot who humiliated himself even in Eagle Fort, and asks what kind of villain he was to be so disorganized now. Su asks him to listen, saying there is a misunderstanding. The bald man shoots back, asking whether the tamer who bullies people is not the same person, and what there is to explain. Luo shouts that that is exactly right, that there is nothing to explain. The bald man summons his gorilla wrapped in flames. Su realizes that this is the evolved form of the fire monkey, a super dangerous species at the final stage of growth, and that if it lands another direct blow, the situation will become complicated. The dragon lizard is also summoned, and the two beasts stare at each other. The bald man thinks it is better not to fight head-on and decides to use the monkey's flexibility to wear the opponent down, since he still has his main beast, wanting to see how Su intends to win. The gorilla releases even more flames and charges, but the dragon lizard dodges and moves away, glancing sideways. The bald man notices and thinks that this enlightenment skill is level 4, the Dragon Song Warhammer, and imagines that Su is secretly accumulating power. He orders the explosive monkey to open the armor. The gorilla charges again, wrapped in fire. The dragon lizard rises up, releasing a terrifying aura, and the two rush at each other. The bald man says that he already knew he would use the Dragon Song Warhammer, and asks whether he thinks he is Wang's iron bastard. He shouts "Furious Monkey Head," and the monkey responds with red eyes. The dragon lizard senses something strange. The bald man says that with the armor, the head is now both the strongest defense and the strongest attack, and that he will show how to withstand the Dragon Roar Warhammer. Su replies by asking what self-awareness is and who said that the power gathered in the throat is the Dragon Roar Warhammer, explaining that it is actually a technique perfected by the snake dragon lizard's throat sac talent, compressing evil lightning. The dragon charges and fires the rays. The bald man senses the danger and orders a retreat, but it is already too late. The dragon lizard releases an extreme power and opens a huge hole through the middle of the gorilla's body. The bald man watches in silence. The presenter announces that after the battle, Su of Black Lantern Castle has won. The bald man, however, says it is not over yet and summons his eagle, stating that this time he will not give another chance. The protagonist thinks it is very unfair to the snake dragon to limit the fight to the rule of being knocked out of the arena, since the griffin is excellent in aerial combat, while the snake dragon has never experienced that kind of battle and he wants to settle everything in a single move. The bald man, meanwhile, realizes that even after the explosive monkey had already consumed a great deal of energy, the snake dragon still retains astonishing strength, and that almost insane desire to fight truly alarms him. Su says that maybe there is a way to try and ask them to wait a little. At that moment, a voice announces surrender, and Reng looks to the side and sees Lu, who states that as the leader of Black Lantern Castle, he has the right to make that decision on behalf of the players. The sudden decision leaves Reng confused for an instant, but he quickly understands the reason. The Duel of the Six Places only served to define 3 entry slots into the secret site of the Plasma Forest Ruins, and the rewards for first, second, and third place are exactly the same, with no additional benefit. According to Lu, the wisest course is to preserve strength, and whether or not to use a false name is not the main point, but rather ensuring that once inside the ruins, they can obtain the maximum benefits, because that is the true meaning of victory. In the end, Su Rung places second in the final, securing the slot, while Huo Hong and Ji Mei Yu take first and third respectively, officially bringing the competition of the 6 places to a close. Afterward, inside the tent, the protagonist enters and sits down at Lu's request. She says that the castle lord has probably already told him the origin of the secret site of the Blood Forest Ruins, but that what she's about to say next is extremely important if he wants to gain real benefits there, and that he must memorize everything carefully. Su replies that he understands, special training complete. Lu explains that she should have told him this before the competition, but since the castle lord did not have high expectations for this year's performance, it ended up being saved for now. Reng thinks that she really does like catching him off guard. Lu says that he is the second driver of Black Lantern Fortress to win a spot in the past 3 duels. In the previous edition, the castle stopped in the top 4, and in the last one, the 8th senior sister, Bai Susu, also earned a place. She asks if he knows what the most valuable item in the Plasma Forest Ruins is, and the protagonist thinks that there would be no way for him to know if no one had ever told him. In the Plasma Forest Ruins, there are many pets that are extremely rare in the outside world, nourished year-round by the energy of the secret site, with often astonishing potential. These young creatures are highly valuable and difficult to find, but according to the owner of the ruins, it is not permitted to take too many of them. Finding 1 or 2 that truly match oneself is already considered the greatest gain of the trip. In addition, if there is still capacity, it is also possible to collect resources in a targeted way since the ruins are rich in plasma and dragon-type materials, which can be used or traded with other trainers. Su thinks that the way she describes it, this opportunity is truly rare, and he remembers that he still has the treasure-hunting beast. Lu adds that the secret land of the Blood Forest Ruins is extremely vast, and that even after years of joint exploration by the 6 great gathering places, only about 1/10 has been mapped. Considering that they belong to the domain of the Black Lantern, that is all the information currently available. She recommends that he first explore the already known areas since they are relatively safer, and reinforces the importance of caution, reminding him that despite the ruins owner's verbal promise to protect visitors, over the years many people entered and never returned. Su replies once again that he understands. Special training complete. Yu tells him to take something with him before leaving. Su asks what it is, and Lu explains that although it is strange for the castle lord to have sealed a trace of the first principal power of pet control, since it can be used to open the ruins and is a trump card left by the lord himself, it is best to carry it with him. At the entrance to the Plasma Forest Ruins, Yu tells them to begin. Everyone places a hand on a stone, which starts to glow and forms a circle of energy around them. Reng asks whether that is the spiritual energy of an almost professional tamer, commenting that it is truly powerful. The energy keeps expanding, forming another circle, and a voice asked whether the time has already come to open the secret site again this year. The dragon sticks its head out of the energy, and the announcer answers that yes, the time has come for the annual opening of the Plasma Forest Ruins. The voice orders them to connect and a passage opens. Lu explains that from that passage it is possible to cross the energy barrier and enter the secret site, where an entire mountain is available for exploration. When the time runs out, everyone will be sent back by the owner of the ruins. Next, the protagonist and the bald man walk to the passage and enter. A dinosaur head appears and says that the commander told him to fetch them and that he will imprint them with his bad breath. That way, as long as they do not attack first, the creatures of the plasma forest will not attack them without reason. He warns, however, that if they dare to invade the inner ring or the central area of the forest, he cannot guarantee anything because there are creatures there whose strength is not inferior to theirs. The wind blows and the dinosaur warns them not to be greedy. The passage closes and they are thrown near the mountains. When they get up, they realize that a tyrannosaur is already waiting for them. The girl comments that it is a cursed tyrannosaur that came to fetch them. The tyrannosaur spits on them, leaving them completely soaked, and Sue thinks that this is an extremely peculiar ceremony. The tyrannosaur says that the task assigned by the commander has been completed and that they are free to explore, explaining that after 1 month, he will track them by their breath and send them back to the outside world. The girl comments that every gathering place should have guides and suggests that they explore separately. The bald man agrees, and at Mayu's request, the three split up, following directions that had already been explored earlier by their respective gathering places. In truth, since the night before, after meeting Lu, Reng had been constantly thinking about how to hide the secret of the treasure-hunting beast, but he had not found a truly suitable solution. When he heard Mayu's proposal that day, keeping this girl from Red Scorpion City away seemed like a convenient opportunity. The protagonist asks the treasure-hunting beast if it is sure that the thing grows in that place. The beast becomes irritated, and Sue asks how he could possibly not believe it, telling it to lead the way. He thinks that the hair removal grass prefers shade and a dry environment, but the entire place seems far too damp. The dragon flies, Reng mounts it, and thinks that ever since the creature digested the floating secret stone and learned to float and fly, it no longer likes being carried, and besides, it weighs more than 20 kilos, far too heavy to hold for long, until the protagonist notices something and feels that there is another world there, a hidden dry environment with a misty flow of water. The dragon keeps flying, the treasure-hunting beast jumps near the water and points ahead. Sue looks on in surprise and thinks that in the records of the Black Lantern Castle veterans, that thing is called Shedskin, but in the ancient dragon canon, it is the famous Huajiao Shedskin. It is born after thousands of years in the marrow of a dragon, after the fall of a giant dragon in a specific environment, and can allow weak bloodlines to gain the chance to transform into a Jiaolong. The older it is, the greater its value, changing color every 10 years and growing an extra leaf every 7 years. Reng thinks that he has found something extraordinary. They observe the surroundings, the treasure-hunting beast jumps onto the protagonist, and he tells the lizard to fall back. They quickly retreat and hide behind the rocks. Sue thinks that where the grass grows in excess, Jiaolong-type creatures lie in wait, guarding it until it matures, and that it would make no sense for there to be no predators. Ahead appears one of the most dangerous species among frogs, combining water, lightning, and venom, already in the final stage of growth. A giant deep pool crocodile rises from the water, a super creature of water, strength, and savagery. The two creatures stare at each other, lightning crackles. The frog tries to flee, is struck, and is thrown far away, and Sue watches hidden as an extreme battle between species unfolds. Lightning gathers. The frog returns wrapped in electricity and strikes the crocodile, which roars and releases crushing pressure. After violent exchanges, the crocodile seems to fall, surprising the protagonist, who understands that the dangers of the plasma forest are real. The frog tries to devour the plant, but the crocodile awakens, lunges, and tears off part of its leg. Reng thinks that the crocodile feigned defeat to strike back at the perfect moment, just like in battles between trainers. The frog flees, mutilated. The crocodile chases after it, and when both move away, Sue takes the plant and says that now they need to flee as far as possible. Further ahead, the crocodile finishes devouring the frog and catches the scent of the plant. Sue runs with the beasts. The treasure-hunting beast notices the aroma spreading, and he understands why it is called a fragrance. Reng runs a hand over his head and realizes that he underestimated the attractive power of the Huajiao grass. He tells the dragon to open its mouth, and the dragon lizard swallows the plant, seeming to enjoy it. Their speed increases. Sue asks whether there is an acceleration effect and realizes too late that he forgot the treasure-hunting beast can also transform into a dragon. He says that it contributed a lot, promises to prioritize it in the future, and the two cross their fingers. The dragon flies at extremely high speed, Su clings to it and energy begins to be released, and pieces of the dragon's skin start to peel off. Reng tries to heal it, but the dragon falls and injures itself. The protagonist thinks that the energy of the grass is still dissipating and does not know what it might attract. Not knowing how long the snake dragon lizard will take to recover, he understands that he needs a plan, takes out a potion, and decides that in that state the snake dragon cannot move, and that they will have to remain on watch through the night. At night, in a forest, the protagonist sits with the dragon resting on his legs and says that it has always protected him with all its strength, and that now it is his turn to repay it, while thinking that it evolved from a scaly lizard into a dragon serpent, and then from a dragon serpent into a terrifying existence beyond dangerous species, a true natural disaster. Every evolution in pet control is accompanied by greater danger and pain, and one day, it inevitably runs into the limitations of its own plasma. At that moment, trainers must face the difficult choice of replacing their main pets, because those who cannot keep up with the trainer's advancement cease to be a boost and become a burden, leading trainers to subdue stronger and more advanced creatures for their own use, since even someone as powerful as Professor Zul Ray must face this kind of decision. As one of the weakest pet masters among terrifying species, the scarlet wolf is not a beginner's pet, and whether due to emotion or the active rupture of the spiritual bond, this causes great trauma to the trainer's mind and spirit. Therefore, they do not completely abandon these pets, nor leave them to fend for themselves, but place them in specific locations and artificially strengthen them until the end of their lives, doing everything possible to help them evolve, because they cannot simply part ways. The next day, still in the same place, Su orders them to advance. The golden pet clenches its fist and strikes, and Reng, irritated, asks how he dares to try so hard, saying he is finished. The three play rock, paper, scissors, the dragon wins and the other two hug it, while the dragon serpent rises with defiant eyes and gleaming scales. The protagonist comments that 6 meters is a sign of maturity, and the dragon lizard emits a light toward him. The power to transform the floodgrass brings the dragon serpent lizard infinitely closer to maturity, and it is about to display its most perfect form. The shedding, full of oppression and pain, ends up allowing the dragon serpent lizard to learn new abilities, and this trick is not limited to it, being able to help other pet owners and even Su Ruan, the master of masters, recover quickly from injuries and maintain physical conditioning during sleep. Before, the plasma limit was always a problem he avoided facing, but upon analyzing the newly unlocked content of the ancient dragon code, an intense light begins to spread around the book. Later, still in the same place, the protagonist sits on the dragon reading and explains that if he chooses the lizard lineage as the main body, there are 23 evolutionary paths for the dragon serpent lizard to reach terrifying species. Among them are intermediate terror species such as the hammer-tail dragon lizard and the electric horn dragon lizard, both on the same level as the plasma tyrannosaur, the ruler of the plasma forest ruins. The hammer-tail dragon lizard is known for its enormous tail, whose swing and destructive power are comparable to the firing of a heavy tank's main cannon, while the electric horn dragon lizard is born with the ability to control lightning, possessing a sharp horn capable of releasing electrical discharges and also functioning as an almost indestructible weapon. In addition, there are variations such as the hill dragon lizard, the magma dragon lizard, and the fortress dragon lizard, all at an advanced terror level above intermediate, the latter being a race that follows the path of flesh shield and firepower, functioning as a mobile war fortress with iconic steel fire fusion abilities and metallic flame storms capable of terrifying any enemy. Ordinary pilots and even masters at the professor level, if they obtained one of these evolution methods, would likely cry with joy, and the protagonist finds himself in real difficulty deciding which is the most powerful. The book begins to flip by itself until Su notices something, still in the plasma forest ruins, and reads that if the dragon serpent lizard chooses the plasma dragon serpent lineage as its main body, there are 37 evolutionary paths toward terrifying species. Among them are intermediate terror races such as the mist dragon, the wind and rain dragon serpent, the ice dragon serpent, and the fire dragon serpent. The mist dragon serpent controls mist, water, and draconic power, being able to ride clouds, but Su considers this ability too flashy and of little practical value, discarding it. Other options include the earth vein dragon serpent, the Tanglong, the Zenlong, the thunder dragon serpent, and the wind and thunder dragon serpent. Although the earth lineage preserves earth talent, the absence of the evil attribute greatly weakens the creature's potential, while the wind and thunder dragon serpent, which combines wind, dragon, evil, and lightning, represents the highest racial level among advanced horrors. This dragon serpent masterfully controls wind and thunder, possesses nearly perfect potential, and although the bulwark dragon lizard is extremely powerful, its excessive size works against it. making the wind and thunder dragon serpent the ideal choice. Reng evaluates that giving up the defense of the Earth system in exchange for flight capability and stronger attack methods makes this metamorphosis the best option, while the protagonist continues reading. The ritual requirements list: a complete dragon serpent, a high-level lizard descendant of a dual-line wind and thunder dragon at the terrifying level, a Fenglay plasma crystal, 2 sets of secondary dragon plasma essence totaling 5,000 milliliters, a complete windstone, a thunderstone, complete sound, and 1,500 grams of wind and thunder essence. Su says that now he has a direction and that they should go there. On the Moonbay Plain, Reng approaches with his pet and comments that their luck must have run out, as in the last 3 days they found nothing of value. According to the map provided by Lord Lu's special training, if they cross that region and continue further, they will enter a dangerous and unexplored area. Treasure Hunter, open vision sharing. After further digesting the dragon transformation materials, the treasure hunting beast developed new abilities and, with the blessing of spiritual energy, begins sharing with Su the images it explores. The protagonist asks what that is and says that from the situation, it seems to be 2 fiery dragon beasts with rising demonic energy, and that they have just captured one of them. He asks if that is not a tree and whether trees can also walk. The beasts around roar along with the tree. Su feels that the tree is strange, as if he had seen it before. Reng continues flipping through the book and says he found the answer. It is an energy-absorbing tree. According to the ancient dragon code, the record of this tree is extremely rare in the world and nearly extinct, being a unique entry in that book. The energy-absorbing tree does not belong to the species of the known world. Its family comes from the outer void, spending its entire life in the dark and boundless void, growing by absorbing energy tides with an extremely long existence. When they reach the end of their lives, these trees float in the void in the form of seeds until they absorb enough energy to germinate again, repeating the cycle until even the seed form is destroyed. Those that appear in the known world enter through void fissures into secret lands, and another reason for their rarity is their inability to produce offspring. The protagonist comments that this is like a pillow when one is sleepy, because the ability of the energy-absorbing tree can fully accelerate the transformation of the dragon serpent lizard. The dragon lizard looks confused, while Su deduces that the tree has no combat power and was therefore captured by the fire dragon beasts, although its ability is absurd. The energy-absorbing tree belongs to the 4 super dangerous species of the void: magic, devouring, and evolution systems, being even rarer than the treasure-hunting beast. It can swallow large amounts of energy, store it, and generate fruits when necessary. Even a small piece is enough to sustain a beast for a long time, drastically increasing the master's endurance. Even more unbelievable, it can copy materials it consumes, functioning as a living battle laboratory. Su states that any trainer with such a tree can easily form an army of high-quality pets and asks if the dragon is not excited, while moving quickly through the area. Soon after, 2 beasts and a tree remain there. A stone hits one of them in the head, thrown by the golden pet, followed by several others. The beast and its partner become furious, and the tree, with teary eyes, tries to dodge, but one of the beasts is struck. A hammer begins to float, exuding a powerful aura. It is the Dragon Song hammer, which strikes one of the beasts and knocks it down. Reng observes and says it is indeed a high-level dangerous species, already mature, and that it was only moderately injured by the blow. The ground-piercing spear technique strikes the target, while the protagonist turns and sees the dragon already beside the tree together with the golden pet. Su holds a rope and says it is done. Later, Reng ties the tree behind the dragon lizard. At night, in another place, they gather around the campfire, and the protagonist states that if the contract is completed, the dragon serpent, the lizard, and the treasure-hunting beast will have nothing more to worry about. When Su's spiritual energy connects with the energy-absorbing tree, a light appears and Reng closes his eyes. The tree appears dressed, wearing glasses, and says that it lived as an energy-absorbing tree on a deep mountain, growing carefree until it was observed and captured, feeling tormented and powerless. The protagonist comments on its style and tells it to eat, saying that it is high-energy food from the treasure-hunting beast, promising to give more to the dragon serpent lizard if it likes it, asking if it is delicious and suggesting becoming its beast controller. The tree replies that it is delicious, but that it needs to say no. Su answers that there is no alternative, since they no longer have dinner and the tree has already eaten, leaving the golden pet irritated and Reng covering his ears. The protagonist thinks of carrot and stick, unsure if it will work, until he remembers the plasma incense, saying that the stick is infused with plasma and that the tree simply followed it. When using the incense, Su and the tree fall together into an illusion. Reng feels as if he has become a mature, absorbing tree, floating in the infinite void. On a distant day, Su finds a colorful seed, the energy-absorbing tree, and Reng, as a great tree, roots himself in a void meteorite to care for it, being the closest person. The protagonist says he agrees. The tree smiles, holds his hand, A light explodes and the pressure increases. Su says that this energy-absorbing tree seems to be at the end of its growth stage, and that the rejection of the contract's psychic energy actually allowed it to jump directly to the point where its eyes began to shine intensely. The light in the eyes is a phenomenon that only appears when entering a higher stage of spiritual practice. And reaching this level also means that a conductor has completely stabilized the cultivation of entering the room. From that moment on, Reng's title of semi-genius is officially confirmed. The protagonist asks whether the high-energy food delivered now can be replicated with the current strength. The tree begins to sway and several fruits fall. The golden pet, extremely excited, jumps onto the tree and begins eating. Su comments that it is too fast and that it seems future rations are already guaranteed. The energy is absorbed, and the tree explains that it has reached its maximum age this year, 1,200 years, and that eating and copying have already become trivial, almost tasteless. It says it can produce the energy fruit from the plasma forest ruins and that the master just needs to take it and enjoy. Reng observes that one of the fruits has a steel color and shape similar to a steel bullet, while the other is light blue, vaguely resembling ice cream. He confirms that everything is correct, completely according to the manual provided by the special training. The iron marrow fruit appears to be just a common iron ball with no special appearance, but it is a true energy fruit. According to the records of the Black Lantern meeting place, to this day only the plasma forest ruins have managed to produce it. In the past, the forest of iron marrow fruits was occupied by a super dangerous species of hammer-horned rhinoceroses with steel armor, covered in hundreds of scales similar to those of the fruit tree itself. Now, with an energy-absorbing tree, it is as if they carry the remnants of the plasma forest with them. The greatest effect of the iron marrow fruit is that, after being ingested, it forms a layer as resistant as steel on the surface of the pet. In creatures with scales, resistance increases drastically. Without further delay, the tree continues swaying and dropping fruits. The protagonist asks if the treasure hunter wants to play a game, and he and the golden pet begin throwing the fruits for the dragon to eat. Gradually, the tree becomes exhausted, while Reng comments that the iron marrow fruit truly has impressive effects. An aura begins to circulate around the dragon lizard, and the pressure generated becomes absurd. The protagonist evaluates that that claw already has at least 7 points of strength, and that this level of defense is comparable to the scale armor of an adult dragon serpent lizard, concluding that unexpectedly the dragon serpent lizard was the first to reach defensive maturity. He thinks that if energy-absorbing trees can also transform into dragons, then this tree also has that possibility. Then the routes appear: the superior horror species, the energy-absorbing shield dragon tree capable of converting energy into defensive enchantments, and the energy-draining dragon tree focused on attack, which transforms absorbed energy into indestructible blades. Su states that although compared to the first two dragon transformation routes, the third direction almost has no combat or defense capability, it is clearly the most suitable for him. This route corresponds to the main terror species, the energy-absorbing dragon tree, an auxiliary beast controller with dragons as the main body, which receives 2 clear enhancements. The efficiency of the produced energy fruit is doubled, and the energy consumption of this fruit is reduced by half. The next destination becomes the Black Tomb Forest in the Plasma Forest ruins. Following the principle that thieves do not leave empty-handed, after reviewing the ancient dragon code, Reng also informs the treasure-hunting beast of the materials needed to transform the energy-absorbing dragon tree into a complete dragon. Unfortunately, after traversing the entire Moonbay Plain, they still did not obtain anything relevant, leading Reng to adjust the destination of the next stop to the Black Tomb Forest near the central area of the ruins. The Black Tomb Forest is covered with the vegetation of a dark red, almost black color, creating a gloomy and evil environment worthy of the name Black Cemetery. The level of danger there is much greater than that of the Yuewan Plain, mainly due to the large number of worms that inhabit the place and are extremely difficult to deal with. Even so, it is an area that needs to be explored. According to the elders of the Black Lantern Castle, many dragon-type horrors are buried in that region, and there are records of someone who managed to collect a terrifying treasure that only grows on dragon corpses, the dragon skeleton flower. In addition, Su has another reason to gather courage and move forward. With the help of the energy-absorbing tree, the dragon serpent lizard finally digested all the remaining energy from the flood dragon grass and successfully entered the maturity stage. They continue advancing until they stop, when Reng comments that with level 4 illumination ability, indiscriminate long-range attacks, and long-way roars, they should already have the capacity to face creatures in the depths of the forest. Even so, something does not seem right. Reng observes that according to Lord Lu's special training map, that place should have been just a shallow stream, but now it has turned into a ravine more than 10 meters deep. The stream dried up, the trenches opened, and this type of damage could only have been caused by a terrifying species. He asks whether they should continue advancing. remembering that half of the exploration time of the secret land has already passed and that wealth and opportunities are at stake, but that they must act with extreme caution. The dragon continues flying with the protagonist on its back. They pass by a stone with strange inscriptions, and soon the dragon attacks a giant snake. Sue realizes something is wrong because in less than half a day they encountered more high-level dangerous species than in the entire previous week, and this does not match the map records. Reng then notices something, pulls the golden pet, and shouts to run. The snake rises, releasing an oppressive aura. It is a super dangerous species. The evolution of the green constrictor ox, the green ox boa, and that head has clearly already reached full stage. The protagonist tells the dragon lizard to run, and the pressure in the place is intense. Sue climbs onto the dragon and says to venture into the depths of the dense forest and find a place where it cannot pass. The snake tries to attack them, but they manage to dodge. The snake opens its enormous mouth and advances toward them until the dragon lizard stops moving. Reng looks back and thinks that if he had not followed, he should have thrown it away, and says that now it is certain they must have entered the plasma forest ruins by mistake. If they go back the same way, they might encounter that giant anaconda again. The golden pet becomes irritated, and the protagonist says they will diligently search for the dragon plasma treasure that has not been seen for more than half a month just ahead. With the help of the energy-absorbing tree, the treasure hunter finally entered the intermediate growth stage, and the detection range of its talent abilities also expanded, from a radius of several kilometers in the early growth stages to a radius of 15 kilometers. But this time, the treasure the hunter sensed was more than 10 kilometers away. Sue becomes increasingly frightened as he travels the short distance of more than 10 kilometers in the direction guided by the treasure-hunting beast. With each kilometer forward, it is possible to feel incredible coercion, and for Rang, it is as if there is a ferocious beast roaring in his ears all the time. Clearly, also because of this terrifying coercion, Sue does not encounter attacks from other dangerous species along the way, which makes Reng relieved, but also even more worried. The protagonist asks how far the treasure he now perceives is. The treasure pet emits energy, and Sue says that at a distance of 4 kilometers, the pressure can already crush the treasure-hunting beast to the point of almost preventing it from flying. He fears that the region is the territory of some creature born from a dragon of a certain level or even a group of terrifying species. In the lair of the Black Tomb Forest, facing possible advanced terrifying species and even deadly threats beyond that, the reason Reng still chooses to move forward is not overconfidence, but the decision to believe in the metaphysics of treasure-hunting beasts, which have repeatedly performed meritorious feats. Soon, under the guidance of the treasure-hunting beast, the dragon serpent lizard takes Sue to the source of the coercion. As the treasure hunter said, there is nothing there, and there are no dangerous creatures posing an immediate threat. It is a nest located in a huge cave, whose entrance is more than 10 meters high. The highest point inside the cave exceeds 200 meters, resembling the lair of an extremely large terror dragon species. The protagonist looks surprised. Unexpectedly, there are many finished bones scattered throughout the lair. Sue says the lair is enormous, until he notices something and becomes even more surprised to perceive a dragon source, a plasma pool. He did not expect something like that to exist. Some dangerous and horrific creatures, although less intelligent than humans, have also established a barbaric and primitive civilization. The Longquan plasma pool is the use of energy from a dangerous biological civilization to cultivate descendants, and some powerful dragon creatures build a special cultivation tool called the Dragon Plasma Source to increase the descendants' potential and the concentration of dragon plasma. The way to build a Long Qi Suequan is extremely bloody, barbaric, and primitive, made from plasma essence and even the life force of gigantic dragon creatures. The protagonist asks why the dragon lizard is still standing, and tells it to drink quickly, saying this is a dragon treasure. The dragon lizard's eyes shine and it approaches the water to start drinking. Sue says this is too slow and orders the tree to be summoned. Then the tree stands still and begins to grow, saying it is already developed. The branches expand, energy is emitted around it, fruits grow, the pressure intensifies and soon calms down. Reng asks if this is copying. The golden pet becomes excited upon seeing the treasures, and the protagonist says it is dragon plasma marrow, and that there is a lot. According to the records of the ancient dragon code, dragon plasma marrow does not form innately, but accompanies the formation of a type of treasure after the plasma pool and Longquan. At least the vitality and blood essence of dragon descendants above the terrifying level are required for a chance to form this type of treasure, and in terms of rarity, it is inferior to the dragon plasma crystallization needed for the dragon serpent and dragon lizard. However, the bottom of the pool was paved with a thin layer of dragon marrow, which probably cost nearly 100 yuan. To condense so much dragon marrow, it may not be as simple as 3 or 5 completed terrifying level dragon descendants. Su thinks that at least 10 or more essences of vitality and plasma from terrifying dragon descendants might be needed to condense so much dragon plasma marrow, and concludes that this is something they cannot afford to meddle with. Rang observes and thinks there is no doubt and that they must leave now. It is a cocoon again, and the treasure-hunting beast has indeed activated the purification ability of the Longquan plasma lake. Forcing the treasure hunter to leave would not only waste the opportunity but could also seriously injure it. The protagonist knows how dangerous that enormous lair is, and in his heart there is a voice telling him to flee. The energy-absorbing tree is withdrawn, but right beneath it, there were two mysterious giant eggs full of red plasma and covered with dark red lines. For the dragon serpent lizard, this may be the greatest opportunity in the plasma forest ruins. Su says that in 10 minutes they must eat what they can and take what they can, and that when the time is up, regardless of whether the treasure-hunting beast has completed the plasma purification, they will leave immediately. Rang thinks that this time they did not disappoint the Black Lantern Castle. In the cave of the Black Tomb Forest, the protagonist kneels on the ground murmuring that he simply cannot do it. The dragon has a full belly, and Su asks if it really cannot eat anymore since there are still many left and it is almost time to leave. The dragon starts devouring the defeated beast and Hang watches, asking if that will become the scale armor of supreme terror. A dark aura approaches and everyone looks on in fear as a deafening noise echoes. The protagonist says it has returned and that they need to go, because failing the purification is better than losing their lives, so they need to escape. An egg begins to move and Su notices it, saying they must lure that guy away because the treasure-hunting beast is about to emerge from its cocoon. The dragon watches carefully and starts walking, and Hang asks if that is what it just sensed. While beside them there is a dinosaur. The protagonist says there are 4 layers of protection, and maybe they can wait until the treasure-hunting beast is successfully purified. Su stops walking and widens his eyes when he sees the dinosaur destroyed by a single strike, absurdly powerful. An explosion occurs, the smoke disperses, and the bloody Tyrannosaurus approaches, releasing an incredibly loud sound and a crushing aura. Hang, fallen on the ground, coughs and says that breath can be felt from at least 2 kilometers away. The golden pet approaches, and the protagonist asks if the purification is complete, saying there is no need to worry now and that they can go all out. The dragon follows the scent while the Tyrannosaurus unleashes its power with absurd pressure. Su says that breath will wipe them out if they are hit head-on. It is because of the eggs. It wants to seal the hole and keep those 2, and they cannot let it have them. The golden pet touches his hand and Hang asks if that is kindness. The Tyrannosaurus continues releasing its intense breath toward them, causing a massive impact until the system notifies them that the purification was successful, the growth phase has been completed, and the super dangerous treasure-hunting dragon beast has awakened. The protagonist tells it to control its altitude to 40 meters, and the treasure hunter looks confident. But Su says he is crazy because those 2 eggs are treasures and could attract something from the sky, so they need to descend. The treasure hunter descends as a light is emitted between the 2 of them, and Hang explains that these are innate concealment abilities, a benefit of the plasma purification. The Tyrannosaurus nearly hits them, but they dodge by a hair, and the protagonist is grateful that the purification was completed in time. At the current pace, they should be able to shake off the Tyrannosaurus running on 2 legs. It roars, tilts its head, and releases that terrifying breath again as it closes in. But the treasure hunter maneuvers more than 2 kilometers away, impressing the protagonist. Even so, the attacks continue, and Su says this is not good at all. The system notifies them of a speed-type technical talent. An intense light appears, and they shoot forward rapidly. Even from a distance, the Tyrannosaurus still notices them and roars. Somewhere else, Hang is already far away. The treasure hunter lands exhausted, and the protagonist says it deserves the credit for their escape. But next time, they should not fly without knowing how to brake. The dragon is summoned, and Su apologizes for bothering it, saying he needs to rest. He sleeps through the entire night, and with the help of the fruits from the energy-absorbing tree, the treasure-hunting dragon beast fully recovers its physical strength. According to the ancient dragon scriptures, it is born with 3 abilities: treasure-hunting talent, sealed treasure, and mystical premonition. The treasure call draws special items out of hiding, and mystical premonition improves risk evasion. Avoiding direct combat, it excels at theft. After purifying its bloodline, it also gained the ability to restrain the dragon's soul, collecting nearby souls for its own use. In the forest, the crocodile realizes that the plant it was protecting has been taken and becomes furious. With the help of the dragon beast, Su becomes like a tiger with wings. The flood dragon grass becomes nothing more than an appetizer, and treasures that were once unreachable now fall into his hands. Soon, it is almost time to leave the ruins. Hang recalls that, according to Master Lu, the special trainer, it is forbidden to take young animals out of the bloody forest without a spiritual bond. Dangerous species cannot leave together, except for the energy-absorbing tree. Meanwhile, the two pets eat the fruits, and the annoyed protagonist asks if all they know how to do is eat, or if they can help him get the eggs out of there, sarcastically saying that if they taste delicious with energy fruits, maybe they would also taste good fried. Then Sue tells him to wait and gets an idea, inspired by the great green-striped anaconda, the giant crocodile from the deep pool, and the dragon snake. These reptile beasts share one common predatory trait. They swallow their prey whole and break it down into energy and nutrients through gastric acid. And that is the key to smuggling those two large eggs. The dragon snake is 7 or 8 meters long, equivalent to a small truck. But even so, swallowing a dragon egg over a half a meter wide is still difficult. After that, Sue will place the dragon snake inside the sealed space, called the Russian doll, without anyone noticing. Heng picks up a fruit and everyone is confused. That blue jelly fruit is another essential piece of the plan. As a dragon predator, the dragon snake's gastric juice is terrifying. Even steel can be decomposed and fully digested with enough time. The blue gel fruit, together with the dragon plasma marrow found earlier, will form a protective layer around the egg, solving the problem. If the energy-absorbing tree had not copied all the energy fruits from the plasma forest ruins over the past decade, none of this would work. The blue gel fruit is an excellent natural coating, though it is rarely used directly because it is far too luxurious. But with the energy-absorbing tree, that is not a problem. The protagonist squeezes the fruits over the eggs, and Sue says that with the blue gel and the coating made from the unique fungus of the ruins, the 2 eggs are ready. The dragon lizard licks its mouth with shining eyes. Heng hands over the eggs and warns it to open its mouth and not bite hard because they will not taste good if they break. The protagonist throws the eggs, the dragon swallows them, and its belly becomes huge. Sue says it is done, and it is all up to him now. The next morning, near the mountains, the Tyrannosaurus declares that time is up and orders the 3 humans to show everything they found so it can check for smuggling. If everything is fine, it will escort them to the exit of the bloody forest ruins. G shows her items and qualifies. The bald man does as well, and the protagonist displays the largest bag of all, surprising everyone. Sue comments that he collected a little more, and the Tyrannosaurus examines the bag while the 2 partners hope he gets disqualified. But it says that despite the quantity, he is qualified. Irritated, the 2 complain that it is unfair, and Heng smiles, certain that it worked. The Tyrannosaurus orders them to summon all their pets, including those captured there, to check whether any are forbidden. The protagonist thinks this is bad. The bald man summons his and qualifies, and G does the same. Then Sue shows his. The bald man says there is something strange and that he will be disqualified, but the energy-absorbing tree attracts attention. The Tyrannosaurus declares that lower plant beasts, although ugly, are qualified. The tree becomes indignant, and the protagonist gets excited until the Tyrannosaurus notices something in the dragon's belly and comments on it. Sue hesitates. The dragon approaches, and the Tyrannosaurus senses a living and powerful heartbeat, a youngling with a strong bloodline from its own clan. Heng thinks about the master's talisman, but he still cannot use it. Even if it blocked one attack, escaping the ruins would be difficult. The Tyrannosaurus questions their boldness in stealing younglings until it notices a familiar aura. In the plasma forest ruins, the Tyrannosaurus race is powerful. There are dozens of bloodthirsty leaders, but only 2 evolutionary leaders, the most dangerous in the pack. A single one of them can rival an entire race. The old patriarch, loved for his fairness, was challenged by Scarface, the strongest warrior who used despicable means and seriously injured him before being expelled. It is said that he occupied a forest in the northwest and began hunting dragons to create a plasma source and produce offspring, a method forbidden by the Lord. Each Tyrannosaurus can challenge the patriarch only once. Although he failed, purified descendants can compete for the position. The protagonist realizes that something always seemed strange. Perhaps that bastard was plotting something. The Tyrannosaurus considers letting the human take that plague's offspring away to avoid future problems. And after checking, it declares that there is only food in the dragon's belly, so he is qualified. Sue thanks it with a gesture. G asks when they became so close, and the bald man says he will record everything at the meeting point. After that, a portal opens and they leave, until someone calls out to Heng. It is Chief Shu. The protagonist asks if he came to pick him up, and Shu replies that the situation is urgent, and they will talk on the way. As they walk, Sue asks if the city of Sinfire is causing trouble again, but Zhu says no. It is a disaster wave. Heng naturally knew what that disaster wave represented. Even though he had not personally experienced one in his 18 years of life, the people at the meeting point, relying on old memories and ancestral rumors about past waves, had a relatively clear understanding of what it meant. Simply put, the so-called disaster wave was a catastrophe caused by dangerous and super terror species that, for different reasons, entered a frenzy and attacked human gathering places like successive tides. If they were not finished off or completely defeated, the attacks would not stop, forming a continuous and devastating wave. The most recent wave at the Black Lantern meeting point had occurred more than 30 years ago, And on that occasion, not only did the former castle master lose his life in battle, but almost all professional level knights were finished off, and Black Lantern Castle was almost completely destroyed. Master Suzhou had also been on the brink of death in that battle, but by uniting the remaining resistance forces, he managed to hold the defense until the end. And because of his great achievements, incomparable prestige, and demonstrated strength, he was eventually elected to the throne as Castle Master. Shu tells them not to worry too much, explaining that this time it is only a medium-sized wave and that, compared to the catastrophe from 30 years ago, it is completely different in scale. The Castle Master has departed with nearly a dozen Black Lantern Knights, including elder brother Cao Nian, second in command of the Harness Knights, to track the source of the wave and try to eliminate its formation once and for all, preventing something larger from happening in the future. Precisely because of this mobilization of the Supreme Combat Force, the strength currently present at the meeting place is not enough to quickly extinguish the ongoing wave, which has led to the tense situation in the city. Before leading the troops, the Master ordered the withdrawal of the forces stationed along the 4 defense lines, and now all Black Lantern troops are concentrated on the walls of the meeting point. The withdrawal represents a painful loss for the crops cultivated in the safe zone, and the protagonist immediately thinks of his sister, fearing that she may be in danger and asking them to return as quickly as possible. Shu, however, says they must first head to Chanaim, because all the knights scattered outside Black Lantern Castle have already answered the Master's call and gathered there, preparing to march together toward the castle. The journey from the Plasma Forest ruins to Chanaim takes at least 2 days. Even if the Dragon Snake Lizard or the Ice Lake Demon Horse possesses extraordinary endurance, they still cannot surpass the speed of an ordinary car, because they need to stop periodically so the pets can rest, eat, and drink water to recover their strength. At one point, Heng steps away under the pretext of refilling their drinking water and heads to a hidden bush near a stream. There, he makes the dragon snake spit out the 2 dragon eggs and the items it had swallowed, hiding everything in a safe place indicated by the treasure-hunting dragon beast. He avoids Shu not because he lacks trust in him, but because, for now, he does not want to reveal the news that he smuggled out the younglings of terrorist species from the bloody forest ruins. As for the energy-absorbing tree, Sue does not hide it. On the contrary, he gives Shu some fruits capable of quickly restoring the Ice Lake Demon Horse's physical strength, leaving him amazed and even more optimistic about the young man. Even so, Heng does not allow the tree to produce energy fruits indiscriminately. At night, when they arrive at Chanaim, the protagonist observes that the place seems to have transformed into an important military center. The guards recognize them and order the gate to be opened. Shu calls them inside, and they proceed together. Heng notices a strange smell in the air until the protagonist realizes it is tough meat being prepared in large quantities. Shu explains that before the troops move out, food and provisions must be delivered to ensure the army departs properly supplied. Then they enter a room where several people are already gathered. Gao Zun appears, the chief knight of Black Ruin City and former director of the operations department of Black Lantern Castle, now responsible for the external support of this combat operation. He guards the city where the only energy crystal-producing mine among the castle's vassals is located, an essential factor that has allowed Black Lantern Castle to remain standing for hundreds of years. Beside him is Xia Yuping, a poison specialist who once defended the mine alone with 6 super dangerous species under her command and defeated a low-level mature terrorist species that approached. The protagonist is impressed and comments on the feat, but Shu scolds him, telling him to go help move supplies instead of standing around talking. Later, Sue asks about the current situation of the castle, and the answer is that large-scale battles require careful planning. Faced with a wave of disastrous beasts, they need to discuss strategy and follow the decisions of the veterans. Heng asks why he has not seen Sister Hei and Brother Lin. The hairy man replies that Lin stayed behind in Rivet Town. After all, the metal warehouses are there, which is very important to the Black Lantern meeting place, and they cannot afford to lose them. By the way, after they decided to ask the castle master for the blue flame tiger, that guy Lin had always wanted to thank them. Suddenly, a deafening noise echoes. They look to the side and Huan approaches riding a bear. The protagonist says it is his sister. She is on top of a brown bear, the leader of the bear forest. The hairy man comments that from the looks of it, that is the leader of the brown bear forest, and Sue confirms it, saying he did not expect even that being to come help Black Lantern Castle. The guards approach and the city's chief knight orders them to welcome the esteemed bears. The bear roars and Gao states that the food has been properly prepared. They themselves will distribute it to the bear warriors who have traveled from so far away. The hairy man comments that the leader of the brown bear forest was once the leader of a low-level terrorist species. However, it was cultivated into a super terror species by the castle master, whose strength is truly beyond imagination. Sue says that must be why the brown bear warriors are doing this. She fears that the forest leader not only has the strength of a super terror species, but also possesses considerable wisdom. No wonder the chief and the others prepared such an enormous mountain of meat. They begin delivering the boxes of meat until someone calls them two big idiots. It is Ju, holding two boxes while they carry only one, asking if that is too heavy for them. The hairy man says that for some strange reason, she gained the approval of the firstborn of the leader of the Little Bear Forest. She is simply too crazy, and if it were not for that, who would let her lead the bear army? Ju pulls his ear and asks what nonsense he is saying again. The protagonist thinks it is true. Only she can control that army. The bear army that traveled from the bear forest quickly recovers its energy with enough food and, under the command of the grizzly leader, settles on the hillside outside the walls of Chanaim, falling into a deep sleep. Thus, the entire city of Chanaim is enveloped in loud snoring because, after eating, the bears simply went to sleep. And so, obviously, with the battle imminent, Heng definitely would not have time to rest that night. Under the arrangement of Shu Kei, Su, and the others, they followed a secret passage behind Chanaim at night, which led to a strange convoy. Hei tells everyone to prepare to unload the truck, and then the men begin unloading it until something falls to the ground. The protagonist says it is such a huge helmet and asks who could possibly have such a big head, and Shua tells him to guess whose terrible idea it was. Under Su's shocked gaze, the army of bear warriors from the forest obediently walked to the center of the convoy and, with the help of the people of Chanaim, managed to put on customized armor made of special steel. Seeing the shining blades on the armor and the helmet with a spiral horn on top, Heng had every reason to believe that this group of ordinary bear warriors, who had not yet mastered the use of energy, would be enough to fight alone against mature, mid-level, dangerous species after putting on the armor, and the protagonist thinks of a full physical confrontation. While the giant bears were busy putting on their armor, the humans were not idle either. Under the plan of Gao Shu and the other high-ranking officers, the armed forces of more than a dozen vassals, including Cha and Black Ruin City, were centralized. 70 or 80 armored vehicles gathered in Chanaim, along with the conventional armed forces of thousands of men. Considering that each of the 70 or 80 armored vehicles was a complete 5-man combat team, this represented an armored force of nearly 400 people. In the end, with Gao and the others included, the support force gathered in Cha reached nearly 2,000 people. The bald man says that today, they have answered the castle master's call, all reinforcements have been mobilized, and they are marching directly to Black Lantern Castle during the night to break the siege of Black Lantern Castle, and wherever disasters fall upon them and their homeland is at risk, the glory of their ancestors will bless them in triumph. They must fight until the end, defend their homeland, and go there. Inside the armored vehicle, the officer says he is the temporary captain of the 2nd Tactical Squad of the 4th Brigade, and that he will also be his comrade in arms from now on, and that he is very happy to have him there. According to the chief's plan, Chief Gao, Shu, and Deputy Chief Xia will form a high-level combat power group responsible for dealing with high-risk areas on the battlefield. Under the command of the three of them, all combat power this time has been divided into 4 tactical brigades. Currently, he is the escort of the 2nd Tactical Squad of the 100th Unit of the 4th Tactical Brigade, and his main combat mission is to assist the 4th Tactical Brigade in eliminating as many surviving forces of the disaster wave as possible. The protagonist thinks that, compared with Shuha's 100th Tactical Squad, which is responsible for leading the army's main assault, the chief is placing him in the safest position. According to the combat plan, the 4th Tactical Brigade, being the least powerful, having the weakest firepower and still not being at full strength, has also received the lightest missions among the 4 tactical brigades, responsible only for assistance and harvesting residual plasma, and he hopes this trip goes smoothly. Unlike humans, dangerous creatures rely on instinct rather than human wisdom when facing disasters. In other words, it is their intuition for battle, and this biological instinct to avoid the heavy and take advantage of the easy is no weaker than human tactical command. Fortress Lord Zhou led a considerable number of high-level fighters to the source of the disaster, trying to get rid of it once and for all. Black Lantern Castle also adopted the method of reducing its outer defenses and firmly defending the city walls. And at some point, the entire castle was surrounded by dangerous creatures. After the reinforcements were dispatched, the War Bear Legion from the Brown Bear Forest set out. According to the battle plan, the War Bear Legion will not enter the battlefield at the same time as the 2,000 reinforcements led by Gao. After all, in close combat, with the insane discharge of firepower, it would be difficult to prevent bullets and artillery fire from accidentally injuring those big guys charging at the enemy. According to the combat plan drafted by Gao and the others, the Mechanized Legion will lead the battle against the disaster, drawing out the mid to high-level combat units hidden within the disaster tide, and then the controllers will advance and enter the center of the battlefield. After that, under the cover of the War Bear Army, The mechanized legion will advance on its own and finally reach the base of the city wall, press against it, and form a comprehensive firepower network with the defenders of Black Lantern Castle. Then, inside the car, the captain says that if they want to execute this combat plan, they must reach Black Lantern Castle before dawn. To avoid the formation of a larger-scale disaster tide, Sue says they are not close to Black Lantern Castle and that if they want to get there before dawn, they will have to cross the dangerous zone until a sound is emitted and the telescope moves, noticing a presence ahead. It is an advanced horror species, the Fear Golem, and Heng thinks that with this level of coercion ability, all dangerous races would have already been driven away. In fact, with the help of professional-level knights, the dangerous zone is no longer as dangerous as it used to be. Ahead, there is a giant bear and a Fear Golem staring each other down, and the protagonist thinks this is a secondary horror species, the Grim Lunar Bear. This is the first time he has seen a battle between horror species up close, and he needs to observe carefully. The Fear Golem smiles while staring at the bear until it begins releasing its power toward it, striking it in the eye. Sue thinks it is terrifying because the lunar bear could not recover from the fear caused by the golem's terrifying ability before its death. As expected, it is a high-level horror species, a mixture of ghost, alien, and spiritual energy that, even against an opponent of the same horror level, can eliminate it with a single blow. Gao's strength seemed greater than he had imagined, which gave Heng more confidence in the approaching battle. Under the powerful coercion ability of the Fear Golem, the army crossed one after another without any danger. However, to prevent the after effects of the Fear Golem's coercion ability from affecting the ordinary soldiers, Gao sent it 1,000 meters away from the army. The Thunderhammer Rhinoceros does not have a horn as sharp as that of an ordinary rhinoceros, but this war rhinoceros has extraordinary destructive power. Each impact is not only accompanied by powerful kinetic energy, but also triggers electrical damage. The Thunderhammer Rhinoceros was positioned by Gao to march at the rear of the entire army responsible for guarding it. This way, even if creatures escape the Fear Golem's coercion ability, there is no way to avoid the majestic Thunderhammer War Rhinoceros, which is like a fortress protecting the army. Gao says that all vehicle crews must stay close and keep the distance between them as small as possible. The next stretch of road is the most dangerous area before Black Lantern Castle, and they need to be very careful to ensure they pass through without injuries. He asks if he brought his things, and Shu tells him not to worry. Then Kei opens the roof, releases his energy, and his animals are summoned, a Brontosaurus and a Thunder Demon boy. The protagonist observes in surprise and thinks that, together with the Horror Golem and the Thunderhammer Rhinoceros, a total of 6 horror species have been summoned, wondering how many terrifying things are still to come. Sue wonders if that is all until something appears. Giant crystals. Heng says those crystals do not look like natural minerals and asks how he feels about it. The protagonist looks surprised. Noises are emitted, and a monster begins to emerge from the ground, while another of the same race also appears with ice on its back. Sue wonders how something like this could exist in the dangerous zone around Black Lantern Castle. Very loud noises echo all around. Heng never imagined that such a beast existed near the meeting place, and only found out after asking Shua through the communication channel. It turns out that this plane was called the Rocky Rift Plane, and was discovered by the Castle Master 20 years ago. The reason the Rocky Rift Plane had not been discovered before was because of the relatively hidden location of this canyon, and even more so, because almost everyone who had ever discovered this great canyon had lost their life there. That is why it had remained hidden right under Black Lantern Castle's nose for so many years. This giant beast is now called the Rockthorn Mount Dragon. It feeds on energy crystals, and it is the ruler of the entire Rocky Rift Plain. At first, even the Castle Master did not expect that a little more than 120 kilometers from Black Lantern Castle, there would be such a terrifying group of them. Of course, the Castle Master was the first to come out alive and completely conquered the pack. The evolution of the upper-level terrorist species is the Rockthorn Dragon. And so the Rockthorn Dragon and the Castle Master made an agreement not to invade each other. Otherwise, even someone as strong as Gao would not dare lead the army through there, because the Rockthorn Mount Dragon clan is naturally aggressive, and even under the leader's control, it is still full of aggression. That is why Gao summoned all the main forces as a deterrent. The protagonist thinks that it feeds on energy crystals, is aggressive, and wears crystal armor on its back, but that is nothing compared to the Rockthorn Mount Dragon clan. According to the ancient dragon scriptures, which are quite rare, the Crystal Rock Dragon is one of the top 3 on the list of most desired harness pets, being one of the best defensive types. No wonder he could not find any records of Crystal Rock Dragons even after searching through his master's library. It turns out that in Black Lantern Castle, the Crystal Rock Dragon is called the Rockthorn Mount Dragon, and it is already under the castle's control. After they overcome this crisis, he needs to find a way to subdue a crystal rock dragon. Sue hears a sound, looks to the side, and asks if they will have to fight. The mission of this reinforcement is to strengthen Black Lantern Castle, and they should not cause unnecessary losses by fighting those simple-minded beasts from the rocky rift plain. Gao thinks he hopes he brought enough things this time, and tells them to unload. The pressure around them increases. The truck stops moving, and crystals are dropped onto the ground. The monsters look interested and start eating. Gao observes and tells them to keep going. After successfully crossing the territory of the Crystal Rock Dragons, there were no other dangerous creatures blocking the army on the road ahead. Finally, around 4 in the morning, the reinforcements spotted Black Lantern Castle. But chillingly beneath the walls, countless dangerous creatures had gathered to form a black mass of the disaster wave. There was a constant hissing and roaring coming from the disaster wave. Most of them were common jungle races, but their numbers were enormous, with beast types and insect types predominating. Amid the disaster wave, from time to time, powerful and dangerous creatures expelled streams of energy toward the 30-meter-high walls. The defensive fighters on the walls retaliated, sending artillery fire into the attack zone and destroying everything. The two sides went back and forth in the confrontation. The roar of 2,000 reinforcements and hundreds of war vehicles attracted the attention of the disaster wave. The wave from the failed siege instantly split into a large section and rushed toward the reinforcement formation. The driver notices something and says to inform the commander-in-chief that 2 groups of the disaster wave are approaching from the 2 o'clock direction, mainly insect types and beast types. Among them, the 6-blade sword spiders and carrion wolves are the greatest threats. The monsters get closer and closer. Gao says they are only upper-level dangerous species and that there is nothing to worry about. Everyone should, as the disaster wave approaches, aim at the 50-meter zone in front of Black Lantern Castle's walls and prepare to attack, taking care not to affect the city walls because they and the defensive fighters cannot attack at the same time. Knights and ground troops must use all their strength and provide full cover for the mechanized forces. High-level warriors on the battlefield must be ready to eliminate high-risk creatures at any moment. Everyone responds yes, gets into attack position, positions their weapons, and begins firing. Gao tells everyone to open fire, and along with the roar of artillery, a large number of creatures from the disaster wave fall like wheat harvested by sickles. But this is limited only to the weaker, dangerous species of lower, low, and mid levels. Huge beasts with unfathomable auras emerge from this disaster army, withstand the artillery fire, and stand before the advancing beast horde and insect swarms. They have one common name: terror species. The protagonist says these giants can withstand conventional gunfire without a single scratch. The golem remains intact, and Sue says the commander is taking action. The demon boy advances, and Heng says it first used the exhaustion light wave to slow them down, then used the Thunder Demon Boy's group damage ability to attack. It is simply devastating, and he thinks that, sure enough, the battle chi of high-level terrorist species is no lower than that of humans. They want to interrupt the Thunder Demon's abilities. The beasts use a barrier. The barrier is attacked but remains intact, and the protagonist asks if this is the strength of a perfect pet control formation. A Thunderhammer War Rhinoceros specialized in defense, allied with 2 extremely lethal pets. Among them, the Fear Golem also has a control ability and easily blocks more than 10 terror species. The child launches its attack, causing a massive impact, and Gao says all masters must summon their harness pets and join the battle. Insect-type pets are particularly good at underground warfare, so they must make sure to protect the maneuver units. Another beast is summoned. It is Heng's beast, and in the face of countless imminent disasters, this will certainly be a long-lasting battle. Although the exceptional artillery fire from the maneuver units cannot stop the disaster's top combat power, it can effectively eliminate mid- and low-level dangerous creatures, saving more energy for the reinforcements and increasing the chance of winning a prolonged battle. Surrounding the maneuver unit's artillery and firearms in the center, and containing the enemy's top combat power, this formation turns into a meat grinder on the battlefield. But controlling only the ground combat power is not enough. The aerial forces and underground creatures in the disaster will never allow this meat grinder to remain standing. Gao says that for the rest of the battle, it will be up to them, the masters, to act, maintain the maneuver positions, and eliminate the enemy in the air and underground. The dangerous creatures from the carriage, the pets, and the catastrophe tide collide in an instant. In addition, many-legged insect-type creatures emerge from the ground. In the sky, bat-like creatures constantly fly around, spitting acid and launching explosives that look like pieces of rotten flesh. And as a result, the battlefield turns into chaos. The dragon snake lizard shows great power, and creatures from the catastrophe tide lose their lives around it. They begin firing their own weapons, and the officer says that luckily Heng's dragon snake is an ally or they would be in trouble. The protagonist notices something and widens his eyes. An attack is launched toward them, but they manage to dodge by a hair, and Su thinks his pet is nervous and being targeted. Fortunately, Gao had asked him to come there earlier, just in time to save the soldiers. An extremely dangerous species at the complete stage appears, the plasma-thirsty tiger. Hang thinks that a fully advanced plasma-thirsty tiger at the second upper level of combat power is naturally thin but possesses incredible strength. Its defense is somewhat fragile, but that can be overcome, and he tells his pet to keep its distance and use evil thoughts to bombard it, without competing with it in strength. The dragon lizard opens its mouth, releases its power, and causes a tremendous explosion. Noises echo, and the dragon lizard advances toward the tiger, attacking it. The smoke disperses and more tigers appear, and the protagonist notices there are 5 of them. If he cannot defeat them, he should just influence them, without respecting any martial ethics. The monsters attack together, surrounding the dragon lizard, but the dragon advances, releasing a flying strike with its claws and using the power of the dragon. Su thinks this is not an arena ring. Although the dragon snake lizard's recovery power is incredible, in real battles it is injury for injury, and that is exactly what the creatures of the disaster wave want. Plasma-thirsty tigers are naturally united, and that blow will certainly awaken their thirst for plasma. The monsters approach, the dragon lizard stares them down and uses its fully solid pressure creation ability, the dragon spirit roar, causing an explosion. The protagonist says he will hold 2 of them for it and that it should do it quickly, ordering Wei to make the Black Walker assault armored vehicle fire at the 2 plasma-thirsty tigers on the far left. The rest will be handled by the dragon snake lizard. Wei replies that of course he will take care of it. More explosions happen, striking the monsters. The dragon walks toward the surviving opponents, attacking them with its claws. Gao says the castle master received such a good disciple this time, and cannot believe he can make a tamed beast go against its wild instincts, use tactics, and execute combined skills. Shu says that boy is very good. He surprised him when they were in the Brown Bear Forest, and if it had not been for him, the city of Sinfire would have succeeded that time. He simply did not expect such a well-behaved child to be so fierce on the battlefield. Ke observes a screen and asks if they are heading towards Su, and Gao says something is coming. Meanwhile, outside, more monsters approach, attack, and break a car in half. Hang observes and says it is the 1,000-legged steel-armored centipede, a low-level terrorist species, and asks why it is coming there. On the radio, Gao tells him to focus on fighting the enemy and that he will leave the Flame Lion to protect him, reminding him that the disaster war is different from the battles of the past. There are many upper-level dangerous creatures hidden within the disaster wave, especially waiting for humans with top-tier combat power. Unlike dangerous creatures, it is much harder for humans to reach that level of power, and once there is no containment against that top-tier combat power, humanity will undoubtedly be defeated. He can act, but he must be cautious. Birds fly toward the lion, and the bald man asks if it has already started using the power of the air and tells the Thunder Demon Boy to appear. The demon child is summoned. Shu tells them to be careful because attacks from above are fatal to moving troops, and they must not let them pass. The demon child releases its power with lightning and defeats the birds, and the protagonist asks if this is the strength of Gao Zun's main beast. Then Su notices something. The ground also begins to break apart, and he thinks the attack from above was only cover, while the real fatal blow is in the ground. With such an ability, it must be an advanced terrorist species. Everything goes silent for an instant until the pressure increases and more monsters appear. Advanced and dangerous species called ground-erasing squids. The monster opens its mouth, releases power, and injures an officer. The centipede stares at them and continues attacking. Hang observes and says that if this continues, the mobile army will be completely destroyed and the dragon lizard needs to help. Unlike the commander, once the mobile army is defeated, all the soldiers present will share the same fate. It is the end. The dragon lizard is attacked and receives a small wound, and the protagonist thinks they need to bring them back because protecting them is the master's responsibility. A spiritual energy technique is used, creating dragon-scale armor. On the radio, Gao says the disaster tide is coming, and that what they can do is distribute their top-tier combat power within the tide, ensuring they are not instantly finished off by the terrifying monsters. It is an almost endless war of attrition. Whether it is them or the enemies, this battle is destined to end with someone falling, and that is today. They will be in the lullabies of future generations, and their names will be testimony to the glory of their ancestors. The centipede continues advancing. All the masters use fluorescent light on their bodies to assist the beast with all their strength, and the figures of the masters in the crowd look like stars shining in the night sky. The beast continue advancing, and Su realizes this is bad. He says that Shua and he cannot contain this terrifying species, not even the dragon snake lizard. The centipede releases a loud noise. Hang notices something. It is the red-haired girl with the war bears. They charge toward the centipede and tear it apart. From midnight to dawn and from dawn to dusk, Gao, Su, and the entourage, together with the defenders of Black Lantern Castle, crush more than 200,000 dangerous creatures. Finally, when the flaming sunset is about to fade, that terrible battle comes to an end. As for Black Lantern Castle, 3 walls were destroyed and 20% of the city's civilians were affected. More than half of the tens of thousands of allied troops gathered from Cha Naim will remain on that scorched land forever. When they entered the war, there were nearly 100 people in the army, but only 39 made it to the end. After this war, it will probably take at least 2 or 3 years for Black Lantern Castle to recover. The crisis is also an opportunity for development. Every corpse of a terrible species is a valuable resource for any gathering place. Meat, hide, scales, and bones are excellent materials for making rare items and various strange artifacts. If Black Lantern Castle can absorb the dividends brought by the war, it will certainly reach an even higher level of development in the future. At the Animal Domestication Sanatorium, the high-level dangerous species light pink flower is summoned. The healer treats the dragon lizard and the protagonist says it looks like the dragon snake is enjoying it quite a lot. The beast is great, and in the future, if the dragon snake gets hurt, he will come to her for help. The healer says she understands, only commenting that the light pink flower may be a little small. The flower uses its healing ability. Someone enters the room and says Master Huo asked him to go to the inner fortress meeting hall because the fortress lord has returned. Su asks if they found the source of the disaster. Elsewhere, Heng asks if his master has returned, and Zhou answers that he has. Now that everyone is here, they will get straight to the point. This time, they went to investigate the source of the disaster wave and found something strange. The protagonist says there really was something strange. At the time, he was tracking the origin of the disaster wave with his elder brother and discovered an abyss that looked like a giant mouthful of fangs, nearly 1 kilometer in diameter and hundreds of meters deep. Inside the abyss were traces of movement from a mountain-like creature. They dove into the abyss to find it, but there was no sign of it at all. Just as they were feeling frustrated, they sensed spiritual waves coming from the depths and continued descending to the bottom. There, dozens of terrorist species and a large number of dangerous species were protecting dozens of strange, twisted larvae. Those larvae were completely black and covered in holes, and from each of those holes came threads of spiritual energy that manipulated the disaster wave like a puppet, making it attack Black Lantern Castle and several other large gathering places. Those giant larvae were not very strong. Aside from an extremely hard defensive shell, comparable to that of super-terrorist species, and a spiritual attack equivalent to the spiritual systems of top terrorist types, they had no other notable abilities. Together, they eliminated all the dangerous creatures at the bottom of the abyss. And in the end, the chief brought something back, and this is it. Zhou shows what he brought. The protagonist looks at it, feels something strange, and thinks of the disaster nest, thousands of years of extinction, Twilight City, humanity's last hope. The old days are about to begin. Only through annihilation will there be new life. Voices call out to Su. It is the people in the room. And then Heng wakes up. The chief asks what just happened to him, and the protagonist replies that he is fine. Maybe because he had been a little tired these days, always on guard and unable to rest, and when he saw that he had returned, he felt so relieved that he could not contain himself. Zhou says that unfortunately this time was truly difficult for him, that he should go back and rest, and that if there is anything else, he will ask his brother or sister to notify him. Su thinks that he cannot believe the ancient dragon scripture is actually from the future, from the final battle of humanity's destruction, and that beast egg was not the true source of the disaster wave, but rather the beginning of that era. These eggs, whose true name is Disaster Nest, never appear alone and are the beginning of humanity's darkest era. The nest is a terrible weapon of war created by beings called taboos. After hatching, this nest will become the giant creature that his master failed to find at that moment. They are capable of creating a constant flow of dangerous creatures from enormous amounts of spiritual energy and resources. Unlike mating between male and female and natural reproduction, the nest is a creation. An army created by it does not need to grow, is born adult, does not fear death, and is absolutely obedient to the will of the nest. What is even more fatal is that this manufacturing process takes an extremely short amount of time, and those larvae his master exterminated were only a creation called split brains. They are nothing more than tools used to control dangerous creatures under command. The future to which the ancestral dragon scripture belongs was destroyed by the nest. The protagonist slams his fist against the wall and wonders how he should tell his master, how to explain that he, a new knight, knows all of this. Then Su realizes that the wound on his master's hand is a big problem. What caused this kind of damage must have been the nest chamber that surrounded the eggs. The nest chamber is like a womb, wrapping around the eggs and generating a special type of energy to incubate them. The chamber's attack power is actually quite weak, but the special energy it uses to incubate the disaster nest eggs is a major enhancer for it. For human knights, however, it is a deadly poison. Once this energy penetrates the bloodstream, it begins to corrode. This strange energy is formed from a mixture of various energies combined with soul, life, and death energy, and it will continue corroding the knight's vitality until he loses his life. According to the records of the ancient dragon scriptures, an ordinary person would lose their life in 1 or 2 months. A disciple can last up to a year, and a professional can last 2 to 3 years. The method to remove this energy was only discovered 10 years after the disaster nest was found. Heng says that if he sells all the bloodline incense, together with his savings and contribution points, he may be able to gather the materials to make the antidote. They will start by saving the master and changing the future. At the Blacklight meeting place in the market for 2 entire weeks, Su began the plan to save the teacher. With each passing day, he became more anxious, because if he delayed even a single day in dealing with that strange energy, Teacher Zhou would lose 1 or 2 months of life. Heng first sold all 68 bottles of bloodline incense at a discount. Even the large bottle he used to store the drink was sold, and he kept nothing. There were also some rare materials he had brought from the plasma forest ruins. The total income was 23.05 million steel, which was definitely a huge amount of money. However, it was still not enough. In the end, Su borrowed a lot of money from everywhere, and a total of 30 million grams of steel was gathered. 2 sets of materials were obtained, but the first experiment was ruined, leaving only this one. The protagonist says he already said he only managed to get 2 sets of materials, and ruining this again would be a great injustice. This strange energy is the hardest to resolve because it is mixed with the energy of life and death, 2 mutually exclusive energies. The solution is to transform their mutual repulsion into a relationship that promotes interaction. After decades of attempts, the best proportion was finally achieved. Su pours a liquid into a flask and says it is about to happen. Next, he must let the potion extract energy from 2 pebbles from the Fountain of Life and the Soul Witch's nails. Heng puts something inside the flask. When the item falls into the liquid, a reaction occurs. The protagonist stands still for a moment, picks up a crystal in his hand and asks if it worked. Elsewhere, an even more dangerous species, the spoon goblin, is stirring a pot. Su observes from afar and thinks that the teacher's daily meals are prepared in the castle's private kitchen and that the head chef is the pet. The spoon goblin does not have much combat power, but it is a rare pet with exceptional culinary ability. To be frank, the flavor of the food prepared by the spoon goblin far surpasses that of any chef in the entire Black Lantern meeting place. However, except for the teacher, few outsiders can taste its skill, and in the entire Black Lantern meeting place, there is only 1 spoon goblin under the teacher's command. Heng thinks that, however, according to the ancient dragon scriptures, this beast has a weakness. The protagonist calls the treasure pet and points at the spoon goblin. The pet blinks, runs into the kitchen, and knocks things over. The spoon goblin becomes irritated and confused because it cannot see anyone, but it puts the flasks back in place. Su says that, sure enough, the spoon goblin has severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, and he is certain the teacher will recover quickly with his soup, and that he never dreamed he would save him from a terminal illness. Elsewhere, Zhou places the arrow on the table and says that, once again, it will not last much longer, and that this is madness. He cannot tell these young people the truth, because after the war, they need to stabilize people's hearts. The chief looks to the side at the spoon goblin and says that, unfortunately, he does not know how much longer this kind of life will last. Children and grandchildren have their own blessings, and when one generation of castle masters falls, a new generation naturally rises. It has always been this way, and when he drinks the soup, he realizes that his hand has been healed. The chief drinks more of the soup and says he never thought it could have such a miraculous effect, asking if new ingredients were added today and whether anyone had been in the kitchen. Then Zhou uses the high-level dangerous species. The evil eye guy notices Heng and is surprised. He says that now it makes sense. Su created a bloodline incense capable of increasing the closeness between a knight and tamed beasts, and he thought the boy was only trying to use his name to make money and almost decided to give him a beating. However, he discovered that the incense truly had a miraculous effect and that, in terms of post-war reconstruction, it was a great achievement. Then Su exchanged all his contribution points for borrowed money, gathered his elder brothers and sisters, and secretly sold the materials brought from the Plasma Forest ruins. In total, he gathered thousands of grams of steel, but in only 2 or 3 days, everything was thrown into the market, and what he bought were various strange materials. He even thought about calling the boy over and giving him a good scolding, but after reflecting carefully, he realized that Su must have acted this way after learning that he was injured, spending all the money to gather materials, sneaking into the kitchen, and bringing the medicine to him. Then he wonders what could happen in Black Lantern Castle that he, as the castle master, would not know. Zhou says there is something strange about Su. The bloodline incense is already incredible, but he can also heal wounds that even professional healers cannot treat. and he wonders how many secrets this boy is hiding. Then he thinks there is no point reflecting too much. No matter what happens, Sue is still his disciple, and even if he loses everything, or his secrets are revealed, he will continue to stand by his side. Elsewhere, the protagonist says these are fire fibrous roots, red vine handles, ice lotus fruit, and blue ice gel fruit. Lou comments that she should have gone to him earlier to check the harvest from the plasma forest ruins, but since the aftermath of the city defense battle had to be handled first, she did not have time. Looking at the backpack, she comments that the harvest this time does not seem very good. Sue replies that this is only the first bag and that the rest are much larger and are with the dragon snake lizard. The dragon lizard is summoned, carrying another backpack. Lou thinks that if this boy really emptied the bloody forest ruins, this amount of materials must be greater than the gains of the previous 6 competitors combined. His performance is so good that she even feels proud on behalf of the castle master. She says the quantity seems correct, but she still needs to check the quality, until she is surprised when she observes one of the items. Heng explains that it is the dragon bloodline unicorn, and that after examining it, he discovered there is still a remnant of the beast's soul inside it. Lou is shocked. The protagonist also presents dragon plasma marrow, the eye of an ember dragon, a 100-year dragon grass, a starfire flamestone, and the eggs of an advanced super terrorist species. Lou becomes even more surprised and remembers that before Sue arrived, the castle master had specifically said that no matter what he brought, Heng would receive 20,000 contribution points. At the time, she even protested, saying that they were all disciples, and that he should not be so partial towards Sue. Now, looking at all of that, she realizes that what Sue brought is worth at least 100,000 contribution points, and understands that the castle master was right. The protagonist asks how many contribution points he can receive in exchange. Lou raises 2 fingers. Sue asks if it is 200,000 and if it is really that much. Lou replies that no, it is 20,000. Heng asks if she is serious, and she confirms that she is, explaining that after the battle, the meeting place is no longer as rich as before. The protagonist waves to her and Lou waves back. The door is knocked on. Lou says he does not need to be so arrogant, that Sue is a good boy and part of their group, so he should not be bullied just because he is Heng, and she states that she needs to speak with the castle master. Faced with Lou's irritation, Joe realizes that she is jealous because he had given Sue the green light. While thinking about how to resolve the situation, he explained that 20,000 points was a fairly reasonable price. After all, he could not reveal the secret that Sue had healed his wound. As a result, Joe was immediately criticized by Lou, but when she showed the list of materials, he finally understood the situation. Observing the list, Joe became a little worried about how he would explain this to the owner of the Plasma Forest ruins, since Sue had practically looted the place. In the end, to show his appreciation for his precious disciple, the chief decided to act on his own and took Sue to the warehouse. He allowed the boy to choose whatever he wanted, with only a symbolic deduction of contribution points. After all, granting 200,000 contribution points all at once would attract envy, unnecessary attention, and possible risks for Sue. As his master, he must protect his disciple at all costs. Joe asks why his hand suddenly recovered, and the protagonist replies that he is a professional knight and that his recovery ability is naturally far superior to that of ordinary people. The chief thinks he should keep pretending, and says he heard from the manager that the materials Sue is looking for are not in the warehouse. Sue replies that he exchanged some contribution points for a trip to the Bloody Forest ruins and originally intended to find some materials in the warehouse. But there was nothing suitable, so he would like to know if he could exchange them for an item from the master's collection. Joe asks him to accompany him. Heng looks around and comments that there does not seem to be any treasure there. The chief then tells Qibao to open the door to the treasure world. A light moves, and Qibao replies yes. The protagonist asks what that is, and Joe explains that Qibao is the teacher's only pet, whose racial level is above horror species. Unfortunately, it does not have much attack power and mainly serves to store items, but it will show them the inside. They enter through the portal. The chief explains that although Qibao has some offensive capabilities, its defense and security abilities are extremely exceptional. Without permission, even if someone destroyed the entire painting where it is sealed, they still would not be able to enter the internal space. And naturally, someone capable of destroying Qibao's painting would have to be at least above the level of horror species. He says that all those items are part of his collection and that Sue should feel free to choose. The master will wait outside, and when he finishes selecting, he only needs to call the painting's name for it to send him back. By the way, he suggests that he look in that direction. Sue asks if it is over there. Heng looks at the crystals nearby and says he has already gathered in advance all the materials beneficial to the dragon snake lizard. Although he wanted all these things, 20,000 contribution points may not be enough. This time, the goal is the materials to transform the dragon snake lizard into an advanced horror species, and the materials to transform the energy-absorbing tree into a dragon. The protagonist summons the treasure hunter, and as soon as the pet is summoned, It immediately points at something. It is an item with a surreal aura. Sue says it is not actually cracking, but the majestic spatial energy gathered within it is real. This is the crystallization of the Void Dragonborn plasma bloodline. He did not expect the teacher's treasure to really contain something like this. The treasure hunter looks in surprise at another object, and Heng observes it, asking if this is it. The protagonist moves his hand to take it and says that it is indeed the material needed for the dragon snake lizard to transform into an advanced horror species. Even finished objects truly have this power, and he asks if there are any other materials. Outside, Joe asks if he really learned that quickly and thinks that a master who truly knows his students knows that the things he prepared for him must be useful. Otherwise, he would not have chosen so quickly. He says he wants to see what he chose, and Sue replies that he chose 2 things and does not know if his contribution points are enough for the exchange. The chief says that the wind and thunder essence and the void dragonborn crystal are very dangerous materials and that he may get into serious trouble if he does not handle them properly, asking if he is sure he wants to exchange for them. Heng thinks he was so focused on exchanging things that, with his current status, it does not seem very reasonable to directly take these things. Joe says that he has always acted decisively, so there should be no problem, and asks if he is sure he only wants these 2. The protagonist says that is all he needs, and anything beyond that probably would not be covered by his contribution points. The chief thinks that he knows he does not have enough. This wind and thunder essence is worth 200,000 contribution points, not to mention the void dragon crystals. He has a good eye, did not even look at the ones prepared for him and took the most expensive ones. That is almost 800,000 contribution points. Sue asks if it is not enough, and Joe replies that no, it is enough, and if anything is left over, he will charge him 2,000. Heng says it is a good deal and asks if they should not invite Lin and his sister to watch him exchange as well. The chief says he will send those 2 items to his house later, and that he should focus only on himself, not worry about Lin, and just make good use of those 2 materials. As his master, he will look forward to his performance. The protagonist says not to worry, he will definitely do his best. Joe says that, by the way, he will check those 2 eggs, the 2 beast eggs of the terrorist species that he brought from the Bloody Forest ruins. He could have kept those 2 eggs for himself, but instead he altruistically handed them over to the meeting place. Special Trainer Lu came to him hoping to return those 2 eggs, but he retained them. Creation in the Plasma Pool Dragon Fountain is different from normal growth, and will give the beasts a dense, fierce, and hostile aura. A small mistake can cause irreversible damage to the knight's soul. This is a situation that only professional-level knights can handle, and that is why he is keeping the eggs. The vitality of these 2 dragon eggs is much stronger than that of the offspring of high-level terrorist species, and is almost the same as those of upper-level terrorist species. He believes that the owner of these eggs was about to break through the marks of the racial barrier and advance even further. He says he is a very lucky child that the owner did not catch him. Otherwise, even if he had 9 lives, he would not have been able to escape. But now the condition of those 2 eggs is not good. Their nourishment in the Dragon Plasma Fountain was interrupted for too long, and their vitality is very weak. If they do not think of a solution, they will lose their lives. Sue thinks it would be a shame if that happened, and wants to know if there is any remedy in the ancient dragon scriptures. Joe wonders if the boy was shaken by this news, though he should not be. On the other hand, this is probably the first time this silly boy has encountered eggs of a terrorist species. He says that a disciple's problems are the master's problems, that he is not upset, and that he is already taking care of those 2 eggs. After a door opens, dark energy comes out from inside. They enter the room and the protagonist asks what that is. The chief replies that he simulated the effect of the Plasma Pool Dragon Fountain with 4 strange objects, the remnants of 4 pillars, and the remains of a large number of terrorist species corpses, trying to help these 2 eggs recover their vitality, and so far the results have been good. Sue notices something as he looks at the beast above and thinks that this dragon's power is so terrifying that even blocked by special materials, it still makes people tremble. Joe pulls away a cloth, revealing a main terrorist species, the plasma-winged snail, with its heart still alive. The chief says this is a great use of the mental barrier. Joe cuts Heng's hand and plasma rises, floating. The chief says that knights can subdue beasts by crushing them with spiritual power to make them submit, or by making them voluntarily enter a contract through a higher level of bonding affinity. He will use the plasma to incubate these 2 beast eggs. This will lay the foundation for their future subjugation. The protagonist thinks that with his current abilities, trying to forcibly crush these terrorist species would be a foolish dream. He cannot believe his master actually invested so much to help him pave the way. They keep watching the snail, and Joe says these 2 dragon eggs will still take a few years to hatch, ranging from 1 to 3 years. He will come from time to time to replenish their energy and then hand them over to him when they hatch. Sue says that if these 2 eggs hatch, he will keep only 1. He cannot use 2 dragon hatchlings so he can keep the other one. Not to mention that whatever hatches from that damned Tyrannosaurus egg is a special super terrestrial type. Joe says that even if it is a high-level terrorist species, its ability to increase the master's strength is still very limited, so he should keep that kindness. Besides, he asks who said he cannot use 2 dragon hatchlings. The chief tells him to watch carefully. Heng asks if this is senior brother Lin's fire toxic man, and Joe replies that it is not the fire toxic man, but its second evolutionary species, the super terrorist species fire poison man. However, long ago it broke through the shackles of its race and is now one of the most powerful among high-level terrorist species. He summoned them to show that 2 pets of the same race can be trained by combining attack skills, and if trained properly, attack and defense can be combined into one, making their strength much greater than if they fought separately. The protagonist says he did not expect the master to have such methods. Joe tells him to practice calmly and that one day he will become a truly strong person. Sue says he will remember his teachings and asks if he knows about Rocky Rift Valley. The chief replies that, judging from the strength of his mental barrier now, he should have reached the level of a high-level disciple. To be honest, he has a talent he has never seen before, but high-level disciples can only subdue special dangerous species. The most he can do is try to come into contact with more dangerous species. The Stonethorn Dragon is a super dangerous species, so he is taking too big of a step, and that is not good. The Stonethorn Dragon is still too much for him. Later, in another room, Joe says he knows he is ambitious, and that the first beast he controlled is an upper-level dangerous species, but the path to success cannot be rushed. Heng says he has plasma incense, a lot of plasma incense. The chief says there seems to be a chance. Rocky Rift Valley is more complicated than he thinks. The reason he went to provoke those big guys was because he had the idea of mounting the Rockthorn Dragon. By controlling those powerful beasts, the strength of Black Lantern Castle would also reach a higher level. But so far, in the entire meeting place, only the 5th sister and the late 6th senior brother have subdued the Rockthorn Dragon. That is because the guardians of the Rockthorn Dragon clan established rules. The large amount of crystals produced in Rocky Rift Valley is not caused by the presence of the dragon, but by the existence of a terrifying species. It is a difficult situation, and Black Lantern Castle would have encountered many problems if not for their docile nature. The rules he established are also related to protecting the clan. If he wants to subdue the young beasts of Rocky Rift Valley, there are 2 ways. One is to do what the 5th elder sister did, defeat the parents of the young beast using only 1 terrifying pet. The second is to allow the young beast to become enlightened and master 3 of the 8 innate skills within 10 days, just like the 6th brother did. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.